On a desolate battlefield strewn with ancient bones, an enormous dark force suddenly plunges down toward a glowing skull. With a violent crash, an armored giant's boot crushes the skull, shattering it into countless flying fragments. Under a torrential rainstorm, a blinding bolt of blue lightning strikes down as an army of mounted knights charges across the field. Armed warriors ride headlong into the fray, their swords gleaming with electrical energy under the stormy sky. Rain falls alongside a barrage of spears as the enemy coalition roars in unison, demanding the immediate death of Rhode. Leading the charge, a holy knight on horseback furiously curses Rhode for using forbidden arts and demands his execution. High above the battlefield, a massive skeletal dragon takes flight, as Rhode remembers how everyone branded him a monster. Undeterred by their hatred, Rhode raises his hand as icy blue necrotic flames ignite at his fingertips. The bone dragon unleashes a terrifying roar, completely enveloped in a raging inferno of spectral blue fire. Standing alone against the storm, black miasma swirls around Rhode, while lightning strikes the earth around him. With a calm yet menacing gaze, he accepts his title, knowing the world feared him for one simple reason. He was the sole necromancer of that entire realm, an absolute master over life and death. An endless, terrifying horde of undead soldiers, monstrous giants, and skeletal knights surges forward under his command. Human front lines brace themselves in horror as the tide of blue glowing corpses crashes toward them. Refusing to allow such taboo magic to exist, holy mages raise their blazing weapons to wipe out the necromancer. Chanting fanatically, the mages channel divine fire, believing they will cleanse the world of Rhode's darkness. A catastrophic shower of flaming meteors rains down from the heavens, targeted directly at Rhode's lone figure. Closing his eyes amidst the gathering darkness, Rhode decides to unleash his ultimate, mysterious forbidden spell upon them all. A colossal pillar of blinding light and crackling dark lightning erupts into the sky, engulfing the entire battlefield. The overwhelming blinding light slowly fades away. A gentle voice softly calls out to young Master Rhode. Opening his eyes, Rhode sees his maid, Leah, standing beside his bed with a worried expression. Leah politely informs him it is time for breakfast, while Rhode sits in bed looking at his reflection in complete confusion. Reaching out to touch the mirror, subtle blue magical embers spark around his small, young hand. Staring at his youthful face in disbelief, Rhode realizes his final forbidden spell has sent him back 20 years into the past. He recalls how in his past life he transmigrated, became the supreme archmage who commanded billions of undead, and now his legend begins anew. His former life, Rhode commanded an invincible legion of skeletal dragons that crushed everything in its path, standing unmatched across the world. Though his power had long surpassed national-level threats, humanity's desperate attempt to purge him led him to cast an unmastered forbidden spell, sending him back 20 years into the past. Suddenly, his maid Leah interrupts his thoughts, frantically urging him to hurry to the dining room before his father punishes him again. Adjusting his collar with a polite smile, Rhode apologizes to Leah and assures her he will be down right away. Leah stands completely frozen in disbelief, stunned that her young master actually apologized and smiled at her. She inwardly wonders if this gentle boy is truly the same cold and cowardly master she used to know. Walking through the sunlit hallway of the estate, Rhode reflects on his past life as the youngest son of Baron Morris in the Traitors kingdom. Back then, everyone looked down on him as nothing more than a spoiled, lazy noble brat with zero potential. He solemnly recalls how his family fell into ruin in his past life, leaving him to watch helplessly as everyone died tragically. While he has lost all his previous cultivation and magic power, his vast knowledge and memories as a supreme necromancer remain fully intact. With sharp, glowing eyes, Rhode resolves to use his past knowledge to alter destiny and change everything with his own hands. He enters the grand dining room where the Morris family has gathered for breakfast under the morning light. His father, Baron Shiro Morris, glares at him sternly, immediately scolding him for being late and assuming he is skipping his studies. Rather than shrinking back, Rhode takes his seat and calmly reassures his father that he has no intention of slacking off. He promises never to miss another lesson. Rhode silently reflects on how long it has been since he last saw his father's stern face. Observing his father's strict and disciplined demeanor, Rhode wonders how House Morris could have ever fallen into ruin in the first place. He makes a firm mental note to uncover the hidden truth behind their family's past destruction. His elder brother, Leo, scoffs in annoyance, lecturing Rhode on how his lazy behavior will prevent him from properly serving the house. His silver-haired sister Sif steps in to defend him, gently reminding Leo not to be so hard on his younger brother. Turning to Rhode with a warm and radiant smile, Sif affectionately encourages him to eat up. Thanking her, Rhode feels a wave of warmth, remembering how gentle and caring his sister always was. However, a dark memory surfaces of how Sif was once forced into a political marriage with House Gorbei to save their failing estate. Gripping his food tightly as fury fills his eyes, Rhode remembers how House Gorbei secretly served demons and sacrificed Sif to a gruesome death. He vows with unyielding hatred that he will never let that horrific tragedy happen to her in this timeline. Suddenly, the crisp, rhythmic clicking of high heels echoes across the room, announcing the arrival of another guest. Lady Della Morris steps into the room, her piercing green eyes locking onto Rhode with cold disapproval as she reprimands him for being late once again. Seeing her brother in trouble, Sif quickly speaks up to defend him, desperately claiming it was her fault for keeping him up late with magic theory tutoring. Lady Della cuts her off immediately, commanding Sif to stop covering for him with such pathetic excuses. Turning her wrath back onto Rhode, she declares that House Morris has no room for a useless parasite who wastes his life away, declaring her patience completely exhausted. Slamming her hand onto the dining table, she delivers a ruthless ultimatum. If Rhode cannot master magic within a single week, he will be disowned and kicked out of the family. Sif gasps in shock at the impossible demand, protesting that even their brother Leo, a renowned prodigy, took an entire month at Rhode's age to master mana. Lady Della's cold glare intensifies as she counters that Leo was 9 and Sif was 10, while Rhode is already 12, threatening Sif that defending him further will get her banished too. Terrified by her mother's stern warning, Sif lowers her head in defeat, unable to say another word in defense. Unexpectedly, Rhode's calm voice breaks the heavy silence, accepting the 1-week deadline without hesitation. Sif whirls around in total disbelief, asking if he has lost his mind for agreeing to such a ridiculous condition. Unbothered by her panic, Rhode leans back comfortably and directly addresses his mother, asking what reward he gets if he actually succeeds. Assuming he will fail anyway, Lady Della dismissively promises to grant any request he wants if he somehow pulls off the miracle. Rhode immediately accepts the deal, demanding permission to enter the sacred hero's tomb as his reward. Hearing Rhode mention the forbidden grounds, the Lord of House Morris raises an eyebrow in quiet intrigue. Stepping into the conversation, the patriarch approves the bet, agreeing to grant him entry to the tomb if he succeeds in 1 week. Lady Della sneers in contempt, ridiculing Rhode for believing a lazy good, for nothing like him deserves the fallen hero's blessing, telling him to start packing his bags instead. Outside in the castle courtyard, Sif chases after Rhode, frantically scolding him for not just apologizing to their mother to avoid banishment. She holds her head in frustration, stressing that even their genius brother couldn't master magic in 7 days, making his task virtually impossible. Gripping his shoulders with deep care, Sif reassures him that she has saved enough money over the years to secure him a comfortable life in the Traitors kingdom if he gets expelled, telling him to wait while she retrieves it. As Sif dashes back toward the estate in a cloud of dust, Rhode sighs with a nervous smile, wishing his sister had just a bit more faith in his abilities. He admits to himself that if he hadn't been reborn with his past memories, he wouldn't believe he could accomplish such a feat either. Stretching his arms with full resolve, Rhode prepares to take action, knowing that the hero's tomb is the ultimate destination to summon high-level undead. He recalls from his past life how he accidentally discovered that an ancient, legendary figure lies buried inside that very tomb. But for now, to kickstart his growth before entering the tomb, he decides to hunt down a monster boss lurking in the forest behind the castle. Navigating deep into the dense woods, Rhode finally locates his target, a crater containing the massive skeletal remains of an Earthrender Alpha. Rhode closes his eyes and reflects on his current physical form, frustrated that his mana reserves barely reach the apprentice level due to his past self's neglectful training. In this world, all combat classes are divided into 8 distinct realms according to mana quality and quantity, spanning from beginner to legendary. Legendary archmages are celebrated throughout history, having forged immortal deeds that left an indelible mark on the world. However, before his rebirth, Rhode was the undead monarch whose absolute power far surpassed even the legendary realm, rendering ranks meaningless. Though his current mana only permits him to summon a single undead servant, he knows a resurrected Earthrender will be more than enough to impress his mother. Channeling blue lightning through his eyes and fingertips, Rhode commands the ancient beast to rise from its eternal slumber. A brilliant burst of soul fire flares brightly into the air as he orders the monster to bow before its true monarch. The ground violently shatters and fractures under the pressure of his spell, releasing crackling blue energy across the crater. With a devastating crash, a giant skeletal claw bursts through the ruptured stone toward the sky. The resurrected Earthrender unleashes a terrifying roar that echoes across the forest, revealing its monstrous skeletal form. Towering high above the trees, the massive undead beast slowly approaches Rhode's small figure. Unmoved by the monster's immense scale, Rhode quietly speaks to his newly awakened thrall. The fearsome earthrender bows its massive bone head to the ground, acknowledging Rhode as its master. Rhode inspects the beast's status, noting its formidable abilities such as lava charge, roaring inferno, and seismic eruption. Harnessing his necromantic link, Rhode channels blue flame into his hand to trigger the creature's roaring inferno spell. Even in a weakened state, he realizes this magic will serve as undeniable proof to others that he has successfully mastered spellcasting. He thrusts his hand forward, blasting a violent wave of blue magic straight across the clearing. The attack hits a thick tree trunk dead-on, carving a deep swirling crater into the solid wood. Satisfied with the display, Rhode smirks as the giant beast behind him mutters in awe of his grand power. Since his low mana reserves can only sustain one beast at a time, Rhode begins absorbing the earthrender back into shadowy energy. As the dark tendrils dissipate into his hand, he reminds himself that he still has a long way to go to regain his former strength. Clenching his fist, he feels ready to face his strict mother now that he has secured a powerful monster boss. Story shifts to the magnificent hero's tomb, an ancient sanctuary built long before the founding of the Traitors kingdom. Sacred legends claim this temple serves as the final resting place where ancient sages sealed the remnant powers of fallen heroes. Inside the grand hall beneath a monumental angelic statue, young talents gather to earn a blessing from these heroic souls and unlock true power. Because of this grand legacy, every young person in the Traitors kingdom aspires to enter the hero's tomb to claim their own legendary blessing. Rhode recalls how his older brother Leo obtained a blessing here, eventually joining the royal army and bringing immense honor to their family, making it clear why their mother detests Rhode by comparison. But as a master of forbidden necromancy, Rhode has a vastly different perspective than the ordinary seekers of holy power. He isn't interested in a mere blessing. His true objective is to awaken and claim the formidable entity slumbering deep within the tomb. Suddenly, his train of thought is interrupted when his sister Sif violently grabs him by the ear, scolding him for wandering off instead of waiting for her. She urges him to lay low and avoid provoking their mother further, promising to plead against his banishment. But Rhode casually tells her not to bother. Noticing her confusion, Rhode smirks and reassures Sif that he has no intention of being kicked out of the family, teasingly adding that he could never leave her side. Touched by his affectionate words, Sif stares at her brother in disbelief as her gaze softens. Before they can say more, Leah the maid rushes up the courtyard stairs to inform Rhode that his scheduled magic lesson is about to start. Without hesitation, Rhode tells Leah to lead the way, following her down the hall while Sif watches him hurry off. Remaining behind, Sif remains deeply anxious, doubting Rhode's claims since even their brilliant brother Leo struggled, deciding she must still plead with their mother for mercy. Rhode enters the Grand Academy classroom, where several arrogant young nobles are already seated at their desks. The youngest son of Baron Anta immediately mocks him, sneering about how the family failure finally decided to grace them with his presence. He goes on to taunt Rhode about rumors that he is on the verge of being officially cast out from the Morris family. The rest of the aristocratic students burst into hysterical laughter, mocking Rhode endlessly while he stands completely unbothered. The elderly magic instructor, Mr. Regu, interrupts the noise and instructs Rhode to quickly take his seat so class can begin. As Rhode walks past his classmates, he remembers how relentlessly he was ridiculed in his past life due to his inability to control mana. He notes with quiet amusement that even though he has been reborn, these arrogant nobles haven't changed their foolish behavior at all. To everyone's surprise, Rhode politely bows and apologizes to Mr. Regu for his tardiness. Stunned by Rhode's sudden display of manners, Mr. Regu stammers back a greeting, inwardly baffled by the boy's uncharacteristic behavior. Rhode quietly pulls out his chair and takes a seat, ignoring the suspicious glares from his peers. Baron Antaz's son scowls, quietly muttering under his breath and dismissing Rhode's courtesy as a fake performance. Clearing his throat, Mr. Regu begins the lecture, explaining that mana is an immensely powerful and mysterious fundamental force. He continues by elaborating that magic represents the countless techniques and disciplines used to manipulate that raw power. The professor illustrates how mastering mana allows individuals to specialize into unique classes, such as mage, healer, spellblade, or shadow assassin, depending on the spells they master. The professor explains that mastering magic allows an individual to become an apprentice archmage, steadily climbing the ranks all the way to a saint rank archmage. Curious about the hierarchy, a female student raises her hand and asks Professor Regu about the legendary rank above Saint. Regu passionately explains that legendary archmages are living myths whose legendary exploits are recorded in epic historical chronicles. He adds with reverence that reaching the legendary status is the ultimate dream every true archmage strives to attain. However, his expression darkens as he reveals that legendary archmages are now mere myth, noting that their own kingdom hasn't seen one in 700 years. Warning the class not to get ahead of themselves, he urges them to focus on basic mana mastery to earn their standing in the world. He emphasizes that nobles in particular must master mana before reaching age 13 if they hope to avoid falling behind early on. Seizing the opportunity to mock a classmate, an arrogant noble student raises his hand and points out that one person in the room still hasn't mastered mana. Looking directly back at Rhode, he sneers maliciously while calling him out for attending magic classes for 3 years without any progress. Rhode remains completely unfazed and calmly responds that he will master mana and learn magic within just 1 week. The bully bursts into hysterical, theatrical laughter, calling on the rest of the classroom to listen to Rhode's absurd claim. Pointing mockingly at Rhode, he ridicules the idea that a notorious waste could somehow learn magic in 7 days. Surrounding students quickly join in, giggling and snickering at Rhode's seemingly delusional promise. Observing the commotion, Professor Regu inwardly sighs with disappointment, thinking Rhode hasn't matured at all and remains a boastful brat. Unbeknownst to them, Rhode privately contemplates that demonstrating his mastery of Roaring Inferno in a single day would make him look like a total monster. He concludes that keeping his true abilities hidden and playing along for the weak is the far smarter path. Later that night, inside the family's opulent castle, Sif nervously enters her mother's private quarters. Sipping her tea, her mother calmly greets Sif and asks what brings her to her room so late at night. Sif timidly steps forward, begging her mother not to follow through with expelling Rhode from the family. Her mother slams her teacup down in anger, splashing tea everywhere as she furiously questions why Sif would defend such a failure. Standing up in rage, the matriarch declares that despite the fall of House Morris, they must still hold onto their noble pride. She reminds Sif that Leo mastered mana at age 9 and Sif learned magic at 10, highlighting the talent expected of their bloodline. Her eyes narrow into an intense glare as she demands to know what Rhode has ever accomplished. She yells that at 12 years old, Rhode has proven to be nothing more than a hopeless, pleasure-seeking waste with no place in their family. Directing a harsh hand toward Sif, her mother coldly commands her to drop the subject immediately as the matter is not up for discussion. Her mother walks away cold and unbothered. Sif can only call out helplessly, her heart sinking with dread. Left alone with her panicked thoughts, Sif grips her dress in distress, wondering how on earth Rhode will survive what's to come. 7 days quickly pass, and the students gather outside as the instructor announces that their progress will finally be tested at their family's request. Looking up at the estate windows where the nobility has assembled, the instructor reminds the class that their kin are watching every single move. From her high vantage point, Della scoffs that watching is a complete waste of time, while Sif timidly wonders if Rhode might actually surprise them. Pressing her hand against the glass, Sif stares down at the courtyard below, silently praying that her brother can somehow pull off a miracle. Down on the testing grounds, a cocky noble student smirks arrogantly, admitting he has been eagerly counting down the days to watch Rhode fail. Stepping up to take his turn, the arrogant student taunts Rhode directly, boasting that he's about to demonstrate what true magic looks like. Igniting sparks of flame in his palm, he declares his ambition to become an elemental mage and unleashes a ferocious fire blast. A glowing stream of fire surges across the courtyard, arching through the air straight toward the stone target pillar. The flames slam violently into the structure, engulfing the stone slab in a bright, fiery explosion. Leaning over Rhode with a twisted, sadistic grin, the bully sneers that Rhode will never achieve such a level of magic in his entire lifetime. He continues to mock him mercilessly, challenging Rhode to step forward and prove what a single week of supposedly hard training was worth. Unfazed by the insults, Rhode steps up for his turn as a dense, dark aura begins to violently swell around him. A massive vortex of shadowy purple energy erupts around Rhode's body, revealing a terrifying silhouette that shocks the atmosphere. Raising his hand calmly toward the target, Rhode prepares to cast his spell without a single trace of hesitation. The arrogant student points and bursts out laughing hysterically, telling everyone that Rhode hasn't even mastered mana control and is about to cry. Up on the balcony, a gossiping noblewoman leans in and asks Della if it's true that Rhode will be banished from House Morris if he fails today. Della replies with a ruthless glare, declaring that a lazy failure brings nothing but shame to their noble family name and deserves to be thrown out. Closing his eyes in total concentration, Rhode ignites radiant blue energy at his fingertips and begins his incantation. A monstrous, flaming skeletal titan manifests behind Rhode, roaring with terrifying blue infernal energy as he channels his true power. With electric blue light crackling across his arm, Rhode thrusts his hand forward, deciding not to hold back an ounce of his strength. The bully's mocking smile instantly vanishes in pure horror as blue light reflects off his trembling eyes, unable to process what he's seeing. A colossal pillar of roaring blue flames erupts forward, blasting across the courtyard like a concentrated beam of devastation. The sheer force of Rhode's magic completely pulverizes the stone target slab, sending shockwaves and lightning tearing through the air. Sif covers her mouth in complete disbelief, her golden eyes wide as she realizes Rhode actually pulverized the target slab. The surrounding crowd erupts into panic, unable to comprehend how a useless slacker accomplished a feat even Master Anta couldn't achieve. Master Regu stares in stunned silence, realizing no beginner apprentice could possibly unleash such a devastating level of magic. Overwhelmed with rage and jealousy, Charlie's glare darkens as he refuses to accept that a mere waste surpassed his own spell power. Up on the balcony, the noblewoman snickers at Della, pointing out that Rhode's infamous reputation as a lazy slacker was clearly wrong. Sif rushes excitedly to the window, pulling her mother over to marvel at the unbelievable sight down in the courtyard. Meanwhile, Rhode casually brushes off the lingering magic embers with a smug humph, acting as if destroying the slab was trivial. From above, Sif happily waves down at Rhode, thrilled to witness her brother's spectacular display. Charlie snaps, aggressively stepping forward while screaming in disbelief at how Rhode could cast high-level fire magic. He points an accusing finger, desperately claiming Rhode must have cheated since everyone knows he always skipped his magic lessons. Refusing to admit defeat, Charlie insists there is no way Rhode could cast such a roaring inferno under his own power. The surrounding students immediately break out into suspicious murmurs, beginning to second-guess the legitimacy of Rhode's miracle spell. Emboldened by the crowd's reaction, Charlie shrieks that Rhode stole a powerful magic artifact from the family treasury just to avoid exile. Rhode turns his gaze back coldly, questioning young Master Charlie's outrageous accusation with absolute composure. Charlie sneers sinisterly, arguing that magic artifacts consume massive mana, meaning Rhode wouldn't be able to cast a second spell. Turning his attention away from Charlie's taunts, Rhode directly asks Master Regu for his official judgment on the matter. Regu turns away solemnly, admitting to Rhode that Charlie's suspicion regarding a hidden magic artifact actually makes sense. Hearing the evaluator side with Charlie, the onlookers begin whispering among themselves, convinced Rhode used a hidden tool to cheat. Sif's heart sinks in horror as she fears Rhode compromised his honor by stealing a magic tool to survive the trial. Panic grips her mind, knowing this cheating scandal will permanently ruin Rhode's standing with their parents. Determined not to let her brother fall, Sif gathers her inner resolve, deciding she must step in to save him right now. She bursts out into the open courtyard, calling out to Master Regu to beg him not to punish Rhode. Sif prepares to take the full blame herself, stepping up to confess to the crowd that she was the one who provided the magic tool. But before she can ruin her own standing, Rhode reaches out and grabs her wrist firmly, stopping her sacrifice mid-sentence. Towering over her with overwhelming confidence, Rhode steps forward and tells Sif to step back and let him handle the situation himself. Rhode turns to Master Regu with a calm expression, asking if repeatedly casting the spell without rest would finally prove he isn't relying on magic tools. The elder nods in agreement, confirming that continuously casting the fire spell will serve as indisputable proof. Accepting the challenge without hesitation, Rhode erupts with a surge of vibrant blue mana as fire ignites around his fist. The surrounding students recoil in panic, completely overwhelmed by the crushing pressure radiating from Rhode's aura. With a swift extension of his arm, Rhode unleashes a devastating blast of magic that tears through the target area. Shocked to his core, the arrogant noble stammers in disbelief as he realizes Rhode is genuinely casting high-level magic on his own. Rhode casually flicks his wrist as the powerful spell subsides, showcasing complete mastery over his magic. The arrogant student stands frozen, his eyes wide with terror as the residual blue flames flare right beside him. Sweating profusely, the noble slowly turns around, his face completely pale from the staggering display of raw power. The sheer force of Rhode's attack shatters the surrounding structure, causing massive debris to crash onto the ground. Overwhelmed by embarrassment and intimidation, the noble collapses onto his rear, completely broken in spirit. The onlookers stare in utter disbelief, unable to reconcile the legendary waste they once mocked with the powerhouse before them. Seeing her brother's undeniable triumph, Sif turns to her mother and points out that exile is no longer an option for House Morris. Unwilling to concede entirely, Her mother scoffs and declares that Rhode is only safe for now if he abandons his lazy habits. Raising his voice over the silent courtyard, Master Regu loudly declares that Rhode officially did not use any magic tools. Dusk sets in. The warm golden rays of sunset illuminate the sprawling castle estate. Later, inside the mansion, Sif enthusiastically congratulates Rhode while standing beside Leo in high spirits. Rhode smirks and thanks Leo, mentioning he wasn't expecting him to know until Sif went on endlessly about today's events. Breaking up the conversation, a call echoes through the hall inviting everyone to head over for dinner. The entire Morris family gathers together around the long, luxurious dining table to begin their evening meal. Lord Morris addresses Rhode directly, praising his remarkable achievement and acknowledging that he brought great honor to the family. With a confident smile, Rhode reminds his father of their prior arrangement and asks if his reward is still valid. Lord Morris confirms the deal, promising to secure Rhode a slot in the hero's tomb when it opens in 1 month. His mother sternly interjects, reminding Rhode of the immense cost required for the slot and demanding he acquire a powerful blessing to justify it. Fixing him with a cold glare, she delivers a final warning, commanding him never to bring disgrace to the Morris family name. His father adds that since Rhode has mastered magic, the family will grant him treatment equal to his siblings, urging him to train diligently. Rhode bows deeply, respectfully expressing his gratitude to his father for giving him this opportunity. With a smirk and glowing blue eyes, Rhode secretly rejoices at securing a slot, though he internally views standard heroic blessings as useless to him. It is his mastery over necromancy that will truly crown him king inside that ancient tomb. He recalls an unmarked grave within the tomb, housing a legendary spellblade from the primordial era whose history has been lost to time. Rhode sets his sights on this forgotten legend, determined to make the ancient spellblade his next undead servant. Meditating in his room, he acknowledges that the heroic soul is fading away, and that his current mana is still too weak to perform the summons. With equal family resources now promised, Rhode realizes this is the ideal opportunity to rapidly expand his power base. After a month of grueling training, a maid knocks on his chamber door to inform him that his father wishes to see him. Rhode calmly responds from inside, letting her know he will be on his way immediately. Clasping his tie with a confident smile, Rhode knows that the moment he is prepared for has finally arrived. Over the past month, he successfully advanced his magic cultivation from the early stage to the mid-stage of an apprentice archmage. With his increased pool of mana, he finally possesses enough power to contract and summon that primordial soul. In the main hall, their father announces that the tomb opens today and orders Leo to accompany Rhode and explain the rules. Leo accepts his father's command without hesitation, ready to act as a guide for his brother. Shortly after, a luxurious horse-drawn carriage carries Rhode and his siblings through the forest toward the hero's tomb. Inside the carriage, Leo begins explaining the tomb's mechanics, asking Rhode if he knows how heroic blessings are ranked. Rhode listens attentively, asking Leo to go ahead and explain the ranking system. Leo outlines that blessings are divided into 5 distinct tiers based on the hero's strength and burial period: white, blue, purple, gold, and red. He elaborates that these blessings grant mages powerful bonus abilities, with higher tiers bestowing exponentially greater magic power. Obtaining an elite blessing can even pave a clear path toward eventually reaching the status of Grandmaster Archmage. When Rhode asks about Leo's own blessing, Leo modestly admits he only received a purple tier blessing after failing to impress higher souls. Rhode is surprised by the reveal, realizing why Leo was able to achieve distinguished merit so quickly after joining the royal army. While Leo humbly laments his limitations, Sif praises his achievement, noting that obtaining even a basic blessing is difficult, let alone a purple one. Looking at Rhode with intense focus, Sif stresses how hard it is to secure any blessing and urges him to make the absolute most of his turn. Rhode playfully brushes off Sif's stern warnings, secretly chuckling at how furious she would be if she knew he wasn't seeking a blessing at all. They finally arrive at the magnificent entrance of the sacred grounds, guarded by towering stone sentries holding massive weapons. This sacred sanctuary is known as the Hero's Tomb, the final resting place of legendary figures from centuries past. The vast graveyard stretches out into the mist, filled with monumental statues that pulse with ancient magical essence. Leo grants Rhode 3 hours inside while they wait outside, reminding him that winning a heroic soul's favor depends entirely on his performance. As Rhode walks through the colossal ancient doors, Leo silently hopes his brother can at least secure a basic white blessing. Standing by the entrance, Sif nervously clutches her pendant, hoping her brother achieves a great outcome. Walking along the stone path of the cemetery, Rhode smiles with satisfaction, knowing he has finally reached his true target. He recalls Leo's advice to seek out ornate, lavish tombs belonging to famous archmages who grant rare blessings. However, Rhode completely bypasses the flashy monuments and strides into the dark, neglected corner of the graveyard. He acknowledges that while Leo's advice makes sense, his past life memories reveal that a true legend lies hidden beneath a nameless grave. Stopping before a worn, forgotten black stone, Rhode offers a brief, polite apology before initiating his plan. Closing his eyes, dark cyan mana begins to crackle violently around his head as his latent powers activate. With glowing blue eyes, Rhode unleashes a wave of power, commanding the ancient hero to wake from its eternal slumber and bow. The ground erupts in a swirl of spiritual energy as the remnant soul desperately attempts to resist his magic. Refusing to back down, Rhode exerts his overwhelming authority, declaring that all undead in the world are his subjects. He asserts his supreme domain as the strongest necromancer and the undisputed king of all dead souls. Bound by his command, the spirit of a legendary undead spellblade emerges, shrouded in intense blue flames. Gazing down with cold, absolute authority, Rhode utters a single, terrifying command for the entity to kneel. Unable to resist his master's absolute authority, the spirit drives his sword into the ground and submits. The formidable spellblade bows low in complete loyalty before the young necromancer. Looking down at his new thrall, Rhode inquires if the returned soul still remembers its original name. The burning spirit admits its past identity is gone, begging its new lord to grant it a proper name. A sinister smirk spreads across Rhode's face as he prepares to christen his newly acquired powerful servant. With its hidden eyes blazing with brilliant blue aura, the spirit accepts its new title, Bone-Crowned Bladeseat. Nearby, an elderly priest and an armored knight escort a young blue-haired woman named Eleanor through the foggy graveyard grounds. The old priest reminds Eleanor of her Ashblade lineage, hoping she can secure at least a prestigious purple-tier blessing from the heroic spirits. Her knightly guard adds with a confident smirk, advising her to target the largest tombs where the most powerful figures rest. Taking their advice, Eleanor eagerly sets off into the mist, determined to find a grand monument. She quickly spots a colossal statue built in honor of the legendary grand hero, Illus. Gazing up in awe, she realizes this hero was a peak grandmaster archmage who nearly reached the realm of a sage. Excited by the prospect of such incredible power, she rushes enthusiastically toward the grand shrine. However, as she draws near, a massive pillar of eerie blue magic violently bursts into the air right in front of her. Spotting the sudden danger, her knight instantly shouts out a loud warning for his lady to look out. Sensing a sinister undead presence, the guard dashes ahead at lightning speed to protect her. Out from the swirling blue flames steps Rhode, completely shrouded in dark magic and intimidating spirit energy. The knight stops short in surprise upon seeing a mere child, while Eleanor wonders if he is simply another seeker looking for a blessing. Pointing his gleaming blade at Rhode, the knight demandingly asks if the terrifying undead aura originated from him. Assessing Rhode's stance, the guard recognizes him as a beginner spellblade, though he senses this child is far from ordinary. Warning his lady once more, the guard coats his sword in crackling yellow lightning as he prepares to strike. Convinced by the dark energy lingering around the tomb, the guard assumes the boy must be possessed by a vengeful spirit. With electric speed, he lunges forward, aiming a lethal blow at the motionless boy. Rhode merely scoffs with a smirk, calling upon his new servant Bladeseat and mocking the knight's accusation. Instead of drawing a proper weapon, Rhode simply stoops down and picks up a flimsy wooden branch from the ground. Testing the balance of the twig, Rhode leaves the counterattack to Bladeseat, who dutifully obeys his lord's command. Knight comes crashing down with full force, bringing his lightning-charged blade down directly onto Rhode. Unbelievably, Rhode raises the fragile wooden stick to meet the crushing steel sword head-on. Sparks erupt with a deafening clang as the simple wooden branch easily blocks the massive broadsword without splintering. With blinding speed, Rhode fluidly transitions into a swift, devastating counterstrike. With a single upward flick of the twig, Rhode disarms the veteran knight, sending his heavy broadsword flying helplessly into the sky. Leon looks up in absolute shock, cold sweat trickling down his face as he watches his heavy broadsword soar helplessly into the air. Meanwhile, Rhode stands calmly under his dark hood, his glowing red eye locked onto his opponent as he holds the simple twig upright. Eleanor can hardly process what she just witnessed, stunned that her uncle Leon, a skilled beginner spellblade, was easily disarmed by a kid using a tree branch. Looking closely at Rhode, she realizes with growing disbelief that the mysterious hooded boy appears to be around her own age. Questions race through her mind as she desperately tries to comprehend how someone so young could possess such ridiculous strength. Unable to hold back her temper, Eleanor steps forward and angrily points at Rhode, demanding to know his identity while boasting about House Ashblade. Before she can finish her outburst, her grandfather cuts her off with a sharp reprimand, sternly ordering her to mind her tongue. Surprised by his sudden harsh tone, Eleanor looks back at her grandfather, who stands ominously behind her with glowing spectacles and an intimidating aura. Looking at Rhode, the old master silently notes that even he couldn't have taken down a knight like Leon with such effortless ease. He narrows his eyes in deep thought, questioning whether Rhode's victory was a stroke of unbelievable luck or the work of a true prodigy. Refusing to accept his embarrassing defeat, Leon retrieves his sword and begs his lord for permission to attack again, insisting he simply made a stupid mistake. Channeling his aura, Leon draws back his massive blade with full force, determined to redeem his shattered pride. He dashes forward with explosive speed, leaving a zigzagging trail of crackling lightning as he lunges straight at the hooded boy. However, before Leon can even land his blow, a blinding clash erupts as his sword strike is effortlessly parried and sent spinning out of his grip once more. In the blink of an eye, Rhode closes the distance, thrusting the sharp tip of his twig straight at Leon's throat as a monstrous skeletal aura manifests behind him. Frozen in terror, Leon grits his teeth in panic as Rhode cold-bloodedly warns him that another attempt will leave him buried alongside the heroic spirits. The grandfather's eyes widen in sheer disbelief, realizing he couldn't even track Rhode's movements, nor detect any mana fluctuations during the counterattack. A single, desperate question echoes in the old master's mind as he watches the scene unfold. Fearing for his knight's life, the grandfather frantically reaches out and begs Rhode to show mercy. Stepping forward, the old lord bows respectfully to Rhode, offering a sincere apology for failing to control his reckless subordinate. Rhode glances back knowingly, instantly realizing that the old man intentionally held back earlier just to test his true combat strength. Turning back to Leon, the grandfather angrily commands him to step forward and apologize to Rhode immediately. Humbled and terrified, Leon bows low before Rhode, begging for forgiveness and admitting he never intended to cause offense. Internally, Leon remains deeply shaken, horrified by the fact that he was completely defeated by someone using nothing more than basic swordplay. Unbothered by the entire commotion, Rhode casually waves his hand and dismisses the apology, nonchalantly noting that no real harm was done. Deeply impressed by Rhode's effortless victory, the old man bows his head in respect, admitting his initial foolishness and praising Rhode as a true Grandmaster-level spellblade. Eleanor bites her finger in total disbelief, struggling to comprehend how someone who looks her age could be addressed as a senior Grandmaster by her own grandfather. Remaining modest, Rhode politely downplays the praise as pure luck, while secretly acknowledging the unmatched perfection of his past techniques. The old man bursts into a hearty laugh, completely dismissing Rhode's modesty and holding his high skill in even greater esteem. He formally introduces himself as Igna Ashblade, head of the renowned House Ashblade, and introduces his granddaughter Eleanor. Bowing deeply before him, Eleanor respectfully introduces herself and offers a sincere apology for her earlier insolence. Curious about Rhode's origin, Igna inquires if such an extraordinarily young master comes from the royal court or a powerful noble family. Rhode casually introduces himself as just Rhode and states he belongs to no faction, while privately recognizing House Ashblade as an untouchable titan of the north. Igna's eyes widen with intense shock and excitement upon learning Rhode is unattached to any faction, immediately plotting to recruit him. Eleanor leans in with a curious smile, asking Rhode if he is around her age and if he also traveled here seeking a heroic blessing. She suddenly holds her blushing face in sheer embarrassment, realizing how silly it was to assume a Grandmaster warrior wouldn't have already received a blessing. Before she can finish speaking, Igna violently bursts into a coughing fit as dark, sinister curse veins spread across his chest and neck. As the old lord collapses in intense agony, Leon and Eleanor rush to support him in extreme panic. Observing the malignant black mist writhing over Igna's body, Rhode immediately identifies the affliction as an evil spirit curse. Shocked by Rhode's instant recognition, Leon desperately reveals that countless elite healers had failed to even identify the root of the Lord's condition. Tears streaming down her face, Eleanor explains that her grandfather was ambushed by demons during battle decades ago, leaving him cursed without a remedy ever since. Standing over them with calm composure, Rhode explains that ordinary healers cannot treat evil spirit curses imposed by demons. With teary, desperate eyes, Eleanor looks up at Rhode, desperately clinging to a new glimmer of hope. She pleads frantically with him, asking if he also happens to know the secret to curing her grandfather's long-standing curse. Igna gasps in startle as he realizes how far his granddaughter is willing to go out of desperation for his life. Overcome by emotion, Eleanor cries out and begs Rhode with all her heart to save her grandfather. She boldly promises that House Ashblade will fulfill absolutely any demand or reward he asks for in return. Rhode respects the old lord for standing against demons, while privately realizing that as a powerful necromancer, evil spirit curses are practically his specialty. He smirks beneath his dark hood, knowing that resolving a demonic affliction like this is ridiculously simple for him. Looking down at the anxious group, Rhode coolly assures them that curing Lord Ashblade will pose no difficulty at all. Hearing Rhode's absolute confidence, the young knight and silver-haired girl gasp in utter shock, unable to process that a cure is actually possible. Rhode confirms his statement with a cool smirk, adding that he will just need a few specific items to completely eradicate the demonic affliction. Overwhelmed with emotional relief, tears stream down the girl's face as she rejoices that her grandfather can finally be saved. Eager to assist in any way, the knight presents their family's magical communication artifact to Rhode, offering to fetch whatever materials he requires. Bowing respectfully, the knight promises to pick Rhode up personally whenever he finishes his preparations. Rhode accepts the token with a subtle nod, maintaining his calm and mysterious demeanor. As he walks out into the golden sunset, Rhode reflects on how immensely rewarding the trip was after strengthening himself through Bladeseat's soul. He notes to himself that Bladeseat's ancient power has faded to a mere fraction of its former peak over the centuries. Yet Rhode grins with absolute self-assurance, confident that under his guidance, the legendary warrior spirit will return to its absolute prime. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out his name as a young woman rushes over to confront him. Leaning in close with intense curiosity, she demands to know which heroic spirit granted him a blessing and what tier it belongs to. Rhode breaks into a cold sweat, realizing he can't possibly explain that obtaining an ancient soul far surpasses any standard heroic blessing. Before he can fabricate an excuse, an imposing man steps forward, coldly stating that he senses no blessing on Rhode whatsoever. The furious red glare, the elder demands answers, reminding Rhode of the immense sacrifices made to secure his entry into the tomb. He presses further, asking if Rhode truly walked out of the sacred grounds empty-handed without receiving a single blessing. Pinching the bridge of his nose in frustration, the man sighs heavily, declaring Rhode to be as disappointing as ever. Rhode merely shrugs it off with a casual apology, secretly knowing that ordinary heroic blessings are useless to a necromancer like him. The young woman sighs in resignation, telling him to head home while privately dreading how furious their mother will be. Later that night at the Grand family estate, a furious scream echoes through the halls upon hearing the news. Enraged, Rhode's mother slams her fist onto the desk, berating him as worthless trash who will never change. She fumes over the heavy price paid for his wasted opportunity. Rhode wisely keeps quiet to avoid fueling her wrath. Comparing him bitterly to Leo, she commands Rhode to pack his things for the Magic Academy, so he stops embarrassing the family. She turns away in disgust, ordering him not to return unless necessary since he has completely ruined her appetite. Rhode remains unfazed, amused by the idea of attending an academy where he could easily teach the professors, but realizes it's the perfect place to gather rare materials for Bladeseat. Before he leaves, his mother turns back to issue one final command, ordering him to make nice with Claire from House Flora while at the academy. Rhode reflects on Claire from House Flora, remembering how in his past life she was technically his fiancée due to a family arrangement. He recalls that because of his poor reputation back then, her family broke off the engagement, leading her to marry a duke and eventually meet a tragic end. Rhode winces slightly, remembering how difficult she was to deal with due to her terrible temper. He realizes his mother is using his enrollment as an excuse to turn him into Claire's personal servant to maintain family relations. However, Rhode remains unbothered as he looks up at the majestic architecture of the academy. He recalls that Claire's mother was one of the few people who showed him genuine kindness in his previous life. Out of gratitude toward her mother, Rhode resolves that he will rewrite Claire's tragic fate this time around. 3 days later, Rhode arrives at the Seven City Magic Academy in the north, an elite school reserved for students of noble blood. Stepping onto the campus grounds, Rhode takes his first steps toward his new life at the academy. He smiles confidently, knowing that leaving home will finally give him the freedom to regain his true power as the Undead Monarch. Without his family keeping tabs on him, he can rapidly build up his strength in secret. Just then, an elegant young woman clad in a black Gothic dress enters the campus alongside her sharp-dressed butler. The surrounding crowd immediately recognizes her as Claire, the proud heiress of House Flora. The male students swoon over her stunning appearance, enviously wondering who the lucky man engaged to her could be. Meanwhile, Rhode stands nonchalantly in the sunlit courtyard, watching the spectacle from a distance. Her butler points Rhode out, Claire glances over and snarls in annoyance at the sight of the rumored waste. Her butler urges her to tolerate him due to family orders, forcing Claire to begrudgingly accept. Claire dismissively waves her hand, deciding to keep Rhode nearby simply to save herself from unwanted trouble. Rhode watches her arrogance on full display, noting with a deadpan stare that she hasn't changed one bit. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to him, addressing him directly as Master Rhode. He turns around to find his blue-haired subordinate staring at him with wide eyes, shocked to see him at school. She enthusiastically speculates that he must be on a covert mission to uncover noble families colluding with demons. Rhode immediately places a finger to his lips, sternly warning her never to call him master in public. He instantly agrees to follow his command, though she hilariously repeats the word master in the very next breath. When she asks how she should address him, Rhode tells her to just call him Rhode, before asking about her grandfather's health. She reports that her grandfather's condition remains unchanged, but they are almost done gathering the requested materials, to which Rhode instructs her to meet him at the academy once everything is ready. Suddenly, Claire calls out to Rhode from across the courtyard, impatiently demanding to know what is keeping him. Rhode awkwardly shouts back that he is coming, walking away to catch up with Claire while leaving his follower behind. Watching from behind, the silver-haired girl glares in utter shock, offended that anyone would dare speak so brazenly to her master. As Rhode walks beside her, Claire dramatically sighs, complaining that despite her mother claiming Rhode would protect her, she feels like she will end up having to protect him instead. Surrounding students begin to whisper in disbelief, wondering who this unknown boy could possibly be to walk right alongside someone as prominent as Claire. At that moment, an arrogant young nobleman named Anderson, the son of Lord Rune, strides through the crowd surrounded by his entourage. The onlookers whisper that Rhode is completely finished, knowing Anderson absolutely detests anyone who dares to get close to Claire. Anderson flashes a sinister, predatory smile as his eyes lock onto Claire. Approaching with exaggerated flair, Anderson enthusiastically scolds her for not letting him know she arrived, so he could escort her himself. Rhode instantly recognizes Anderson, recalling how in his past life, the noble constantly bullied him just to show off to girls, proving he hasn't changed at all. Disgusted by his presence, Claire points her finger directly at Anderson and sternly commands him to leave her alone. Anderson's demeanor darkens menacingly as he steps closer, telling her not to be so cold when she already knows how he feels about her. Furious at his persistent creeping, Claire screams at him to get lost without holding back. She firmly declares that she doesn't care about his high status as Lord Rune's son and orders him to stay far away from her. Enraged by her blunt rejection, Anderson snaps in anger, calling her ungrateful as a red glare ignites in his eye. Losing his patience entirely, Anderson aggressively lunges forward to forcefully grab hold of Claire. However, right before his hand can reach her, a sudden grip catches Anderson's wrist midair. With one hand still casually tucked into his pocket, Rhode effortlessly swats Anderson's arm away with a sharp slap. Rhode places himself directly between Claire and Anderson, standing calm and completely unfazed. Holding his struck wrist in shock, Anderson glares furiously at Rhode and demands to know who the punk thinks he is. Before Rhode can answer, one of Anderson's lackeys quickly leans in to whisper Rhode's identity into his master's ear. Learning who he is dealing with, Anderson breaks into a wicked sneer, mocking Rhode as the infamous waste of House Morris. Radiating a sinister aura, Anderson aggressively reaches out again, asking who gave a trash like him permission to butt in. Without batting an eye, Rhode firmly grabs Anderson's arm mid-strike, instantly halting his arrogant attack. Raged by the interference, Anderson flares with blue magic power, furiously telling Rhode to piss off. Seeing the confrontation, nearby students panic, whispering about how ruthless Anderson is to anyone who crosses him. Unfazed by the hostile display, Rhode grips Anderson's arm tightly and coldly reminds him that Claire asked him to back off. Claire watches the situation in shock, unable to believe that Rhode is actually standing up to protect her. With a swift, powerful motion, Rhode deflects Anderson's grip, sending a sharp gust of air through the space between them. Fuming with embarrassment, Anderson surges with dark aura and yells at Rhode for daring to ruin his fun. However, Rhode turns to glare back at him, his single eye glowing with an icy, intimidating authority. Before a full battle erupts, Anderson's cronies hurry to restrain him, warning that too many high-ranking nobles are present. Watching from the sidelines, distant spectators murmur that the kid just barely got lucky this time. As Anderson walks away with his group, the onlookers wonder how a mere servant had the nerve to step in. Yet despite his arrogant retreat, Anderson sweats nervously, unable to shake off the terror he felt from Rhode's glare. Anderson storms off while venting his anger in the distance, leaving Rhode standing serenely in the courtyard. Claire immediately berates Rhode, telling him he's an idiot for creating trouble with Lord Rune's family. Rhode calmly asks if she really wanted to avoid Anderson, but Claire warns him that he's the one in grave danger for making such an enemy. Just then, a cheerful blonde girl comes running across the academy grounds toward them, calling out Claire's name. Recognizing her friend, Claire's tense expression softens as she joyfully greets Anna. Anna links arms with Claire and curiously asks about the quiet white-haired boy standing behind them. When Claire identifies him as the youngest son of House Morris, Anna loudly recognizes him as the rumored-waste young master, making Claire quickly hush her. Claire complains about having to babysit Rhode for her mother, while Anna lightheartedly teases her about having her own sidekick. Observing Anna from behind, Rhode recalls her from his previous life as a manipulative, power-hungry noble who turned Claire into a political pawn. Knowing the danger she poses, Rhode vows to keep a vigilant eye on her every move. Sometime later inside the Magic Academy lecture hall, Rhode twirls his pen in boredom, finding the low-level lectures useless. His thoughts shift to a valuable secret, recalling an item stored within the Academy's vault known as the Tear of the Dead. He remembers the powerful crystal forged from ancient souls, capable of granting immense strength to his weapon. Rhode firmly resolves to infiltrate the vault and seize the powerful artifact at the very first opportunity. As the professor rolls up his lecture scrolls and officially dismisses the class, Rhode prepares his next move. Anna lets out a satisfied sigh, stretching her arms and eagerly suggesting they go out and do something fun. She turns to Claire for approval, but Claire reminds her that studying takes priority if she ever hopes to become a true archmage. Anna insists, complimenting Claire's talent and assuring her that she will definitely become a grand archmage regardless. Flashing a persuasive smile, Anna argues that taking just one small break wouldn't hurt anyone. Anderson suddenly chimes in with enthusiasm, shouting out his full agreement with Anna's idea. He boastfully announces that he reserved a luxurious banquet at the Crystal Tavern to celebrate their first day of school. Excited by the offer, Anna asks if it isn't too expensive, but Anderson proudly boasts that cost is no object as long as everyone attends. Anna nudges Claire to accept, praising Anderson as a prime example of what a lord's noble son ought to be. She then takes a sharp jab, contrasting him with certain useless noble heirs who accomplish absolutely nothing. Anna eagerly begs Claire to join her, leaving Claire feeling pressured to agree. Unable to resist her friend's persistence, Claire finally gives in and consents to go. Overjoyed by her response, Anna leads Claire towards the exit while Rhode quietly follows behind. Suddenly, Rhode's communication badge sparks to life, notifying him that his requested items are fully prepared. After a moment of thought, Rhode instructs his contact to pick him up directly at the Crystal Tavern. Outside, the students scatter across the Grand Academy grounds as evening approaches. Spotting Rhode walking behind them, Anna turns around in annoyance, angrily demanding who allowed him to tag along. Rhode recalls from his past life how Claire went missing for days right after this gathering, returning deeply gloomy. Determined to prevent whatever tragedy befell her before, Rhode decides he must follow and observe what happens. Anna fumes at being ignored, while Claire gently reminds Rhode that school is over and he doesn't need to follow her around. Anderson steps in with a wide grin, generously stating that Rhode is welcome to join them if he wishes. However, beneath his friendly guise, Anderson burns with resentment over how Rhode humiliated him earlier. Secretly, Anderson vows to use this banquet as an opportunity to teach Rhode a harsh lesson. Oblivious to his hidden motive, Anna praises Anderson for his supposed open-mindedness and forgiveness. She grudgingly lets Rhode tag along, mockingly questioning if he's just obsessed with following Claire around. The group finally arrives at their destination, the Crystal Tavern, as the sunset paints the sky in deep shades of orange and red. Pushing the heavy wooden doors open, they step inside to join the lively atmosphere. Anderson immediately takes center stage, raising his fist and loudly announcing that tonight's drinks are entirely on him. The crowd erupts into wild cheers, chanting his name and praising him as the absolute best. However, Rhode notices that the tavern is also filled with rough, battle-hardened mercenaries who look incredibly dangerous. Rhode realizes these aren't ordinary citizens, but lethal warriors who risk their lives on the battlefield daily. He notes that these ruthless men live solely for blood, alcohol, and women. Remembering Claire's legendary beauty, Rhode connects the dots to a tragic event from his past life. Sensing immediate danger, Rhode grabs Claire's wrist and urgently tells her they need to head home before it gets too late. But before they can leave, Anna aggressively slaps Rhode's hand away from Claire. Anna explodes in anger, accusing Rhode of crossing the line by trying to ruin Claire's night before the party even begins. Claire hesitantly agrees with Anna, explaining that she already gave her word and cannot break her promise. Anderson chimes in with a cold glare, warning Rhode to stop pushing his luck and questioning his family's upbringing. The commotion catches the attention of the nearby mercenaries, who watch the drama unfold with mocking amusement. One of the rough warriors steps forward, mockingly questioning why a bunch of spoiled nobles would choose to party in a place like this. He slowly closes the distance, his eyes locking onto Claire. With a disgusting, drooling grin, the creep openly leers at Claire, calling her a total hottie. Offended by the intrusion, Anderson angrily demands to know why these foul-smelling mercenaries are still allowed inside the tavern when he booked it. This insult instantly enrages the mercenary, who glares back with murderous intent. Terrified of a brawl, the tavern manager desperately begs Anderson to leave and return tomorrow instead. Anderson's companion reacts with outrage, demanding to know what the manager is implying. He yells that postponing would humiliate Anderson and make him look incredibly weak in front of Claire. The manager frantically whispers that these men are cold-blooded killers from outside the city whom they absolutely should not provoke. But Anderson's pride gets the better of him, as he arrogantly boasts about his status as the young master of House Rune. Hearing his blatant disrespect, the mercenaries rise from their seats, ready to teach the arrogant noble a painful lesson. Angry mercenary slams his fist onto the table, declaring that they own the tavern tonight and ordering the young master to scram. Outraged by this blatant disrespect, Anderson's loyal lackeys charge forward, eager to defend their master's honor. They loudly proclaim that absolutely no one has the right to oppose the authority of House Rune in this territory. But before they can even land a single blow, a sudden and violent clash erupts with a loud bang. With effortless precision, a single mercenary easily neutralizes both lackeys, pinning one down while delivering a brutal kick to the other. Anderson can only watch in utter disbelief, completely stunned by how quickly his men were overpowered. He is gripped with shock, realizing these lawless mercenaries actually had the audacity to attack his men right in front of him. An ominous red glow in his eyes, the mercenary pours out his drink, mocking the group for having a death wish. He drenches the defeated lackey's face in alcohol, coldly warning them that they would already be dead if this were the wilderness. Observing the chaotic scene from a distance, a mysterious bystander notes that things are finally starting to get interesting. Swallowing his pride, a sweating Anderson holds up a hand to stop the violence, nervously asking to speak with their captain. He desperately tries to use his noble lineage as leverage, hoping they won't want to make an enemy of a lord's family. The mercenaries burst into mocking laughter, asking if he truly wants to speak with Captain Kent of the Bloodstained Mercenaries. They dismissively sneer at the young master, telling him he lacks the status to negotiate and should send his father instead. Terrifying Captain Kent sits in the shadows, radiating a dark and menacing aura that commands absolute dread. Anderson's face goes pale with sheer terror as the weight of that notorious name finally registers. He instantly recalls the horrifying rumors of this ruthless crew operating in the monster forest, known to kill even nobles for the right price. With a sinister grin, Kent mocks the young master, coldly stating that his life as Lord Rune's youngest son isn't worth very much. The defeated lackeys tremble in absolute fear on the floor, stammering the terrifying name of the Bloodstained Mercenaries. Sensing the immense danger, Claire's companion panics, whispering that they have messed with the absolute wrong crowd. Mercenaries roar with laughter, thoroughly amused by how easily the arrogant noble was terrified by their mere name. Anderson desperately grits his teeth, realizing he cannot afford to lose face, especially with Claire watching him. Forcing himself to swallow his pride, Anderson offers a tense apology and asks to call it even for the sake of House Rune. Surprisingly, Kent leans back with a smug grin, acknowledging Lord Rune's growing reputation and deciding to grant a favor. Overjoyed by the narrow escape, the companions breathe a massive sigh of relief, praising Anderson for successfully defusing the threat. Just when they think they're safe, Kent's sinister true colors show as he demands that the two girls dance for his men and drink with them in exchange for their lives. He mockingly points out that noble children are all trained to dance anyway, turning their prestigious upbringing into a tool for his own amusement. To make matters worse, Kent commands a sweating and utterly horrified Anderson to be the one to personally invite the girls to dance, using his family's name to force his hand. Hearing this sleazy proposal, the rest of the mercenaries burst into rowdy laughter, eagerly anticipating the humiliating show. One of the grunts boasts about his captain's cleverness, drooling at the thought of finally seeing high society ladies perform for them. While Claire clutches her chest in sheer disgust and anger, Rhode remains completely unfazed, observing the vulgar display with a cold, piercing gaze. Desperately trying to salvage the situation, Anderson nervously speaks up, reminding the captain that Claire is the prestigious heiress of House Flora and shouldn't be treated this way. However, a mercenary quickly shuts him down, yelling that they shouldn't bother pulling the noble card over a simple dance. Terrified of facing the mercenary's wrath, the other young nobles shamelessly beg Claire to just comply and save their skins. They double down on their pathetic pleas, desperately urging her to sacrifice her dignity so they can all get out alive. Stealing her resolve, Claire instructs Rhode to take Anna and escape, believing her status as the heiress of House Flora will protect her from any actual physical harm. But before she can step forward, the blonde girl, Anna, places a hand to her forehead and casually tells Claire that there is absolutely no need to go that far. Stepping directly into the spotlight, Rhode calmly addresses Captain Kent, declaring that it is time to put an end to this farce. Kent glares at the interloper with a glowing blue eye, demanding to know who this nobody is and why he should even bother listening to him. Anna panics instantly, screaming at Rhode for his recklessness, while Claire looks on in utter confusion. She furiously rants that Anderson had finally stabilized the situation, accusing Rhode of dragging them all to their graves when all they had to do was perform a simple dance. Annoyed by the interruption, a massive, muscular brute of a mercenary steps forward, complaining about an idiot ruining their fun. Identified as Rum, the deputy captain of the Bloodstained Mercenaries, he promises his cheering comrades that he will beat the boy to a pulp before they enjoy the dance. The rowdy crowd of mercenaries roars with excitement, chanting for Deputy Captain Rum to tear Rhode apart. With a powerful whoosh, the massive brute launches himself forward with incredible speed. Rum leaps high into the air, wind pressure swirling around his massive frame as he prepares to crush Rhode under his fist. Horrified by the impending violence, Claire screams out Rhode's name in absolute terror. Yet, as the brute closes in, Rhode's eyes glow with a cold, radiant blue light, completely unfazed by the savage attack. Infuriated by Rhode's calm composure, Rum roars in anger, pulling out his weapons as they ignite with a blazing fire. Declaring Rhode dead, the deputy captain unleashes his devastating flame blade slash, engulfing the entire area in a torrent of raging fire. Rum swings down with absolute fury, unleashing a massive wave of fire directly at Rhode, who doesn't even flinch. Terrified by the sheer scale of the attack, the young lady screams out Rhode's name in pure desperation. Young Master Anderson panics completely, screaming at Rhode to apologize to Captain Kent before they all get slaughtered. However, his ally holds him back, telling him to let the foolish boy die if that's what he wants. A deafening metallic clash rings out as the fiery blade makes impact, kicking up a violent explosion of sparks and smoke. The onlookers are left utterly speechless as they realize Rhode somehow completely evaded the beginner Spellblade's signature attack. Emerging completely unscathed, Rhode casually walks up to a stunned guard and asks to borrow his sword. Infuriated by the blatant disrespect, a red-eyed Rum roars in anger and charges forward to crush the arrogant brat. Looking down at the blade, Rhode's eyes glow with a cold light as he calls upon his spirit, Blade Seat, noting that they finally have a real weapon. The ominous blue spirit manifests behind him, eagerly acknowledging its master's command. Channeling his power, Rhode swings the blade to unleash a devastating counterattack of his own, the Flame Wave Slash. The blue-flamed spirit grins maniacally, ready to tear their opponent apart. The two powerful forces collide in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves ripping through the air. Rum's confident expression instantly shatters into pure horror as he feels the overwhelming pressure of Rhode's strike. With a sharp metallic ring, a piece of Rum's shattered sword goes flying through the air. Staring at his ruined weapon, the deputy captain cannot comprehend how a mere kid could easily shatter his blade. Seething with humiliation, Rum curses Rhode for making him look like an absolute fool in front of his captain and comrades. Deciding to ditch the weapons, Rum leaps into the air, boasting that mercenaries truly excel in brutal hand-to-hand combat. He lunges downward with a massive, crushing fist, aiming to obliterate Rhode once and for all. Knowing his physical limits, Rhode calmly calculates that he shouldn't match the mercenary's raw physical strength head-on just yet. Rum's monstrous, shadowy face looms close, his red eyes burning with murderous intent. He tries to corner his target, mockingly asking the boy where he thinks he can possibly run. Unfazed, Rhode unleashes a burst of blue spiritual energy from his palm, invoking his roaring inferno. A concentrated torrent of blue fire erupts from Rhode's hand, blasting directly into the giant mercenary. Sheer force of the blast blows Rum completely off his feet, sending him crashing violently into the ground. Rum lies utterly defeated on the ground, his eyes wide with sheer shock and agony as blood drips from his mouth after taking that devastating blow. Witnessing this, Anderson is completely dumbfounded, unable to believe that someone he considered trash just took down the deputy captain of the Bloodstained Mercenaries. But the threat is far from over, as a menacing group of mercenaries emerges from the shadows, their eyes glowing with bloodlust. The green-eyed leader steps forward, coldly asking Rhode if he has any idea what kind of horrific fate awaits those who dare to cross their group. He promises a brutal death, threatening to slice Rhode's flesh off piece by piece and feed it to hungry beasts right before his eyes. Surrounding noble students panic, cursing Rhode for provoking such monsters and fearing that his actions will drag them all to the grave. Cowardly, the other nobles urge Anderson to abandon Rhode and escape while they still have the chance to save their own skins. Claire is reluctantly dragged away by her friend, despite her hesitation to leave Rhode behind to face the bloodthirsty mob alone. Seeing Claire safely exit the building, Rhode actually feels relieved, knowing he no longer has to hold back his true power to protect anyone. The sadistic captain reassures Rhode that he won't kill him just yet, planning instead to torture him all night before demanding a hefty ransom from House Morris. He mockingly wonders just how much gold Rhode's life is actually worth to his noble family. Unfazed by the threats, Rhode's eyes glow with a deadly blue light as he calmly decides to slaughter every single one of them if they refuse to back down. He even begins to evaluate the captain, thinking that Kent might actually make a highly useful undead puppet for his collection. Suddenly, a cold voice echoes through the hall, questioning Kent on what his own life is worth as heavy, armored footsteps approach. Angered by the interruption, Kent spins around and barks at the mysterious silhouette standing at the entrance. Out of the shadows steps a distinguished knight clad in sleek gray armor and a flowing white cape, radiating an aura of absolute authority. The moment Kent recognizes the newcomer as Lord Leon, his arrogance instantly vanishes, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror. Disregarding the mercenaries entirely, Leon approaches Rhode with deep respect, asking if these thugs had dared to lay a finger on him. Leon then laughs at his own foolish question, pointing out that even he couldn't last a single move against Rhode, let alone a bunch of low-life mercenaries. Kent's mind races in utter confusion, unable to comprehend why a powerful figure like Lord Leon is bowing so submissively to a mere kid. Whipping around, Leon glares at Kent with intense fury, demanding to know who gave him the authority to threaten his master. He sternly reveals that Rhode is a highly esteemed guest of the legendary House Ashblade. Hearing the name of House Ashblade, the mercenaries realize they have just signed their own death warrants. Kent stands frozen as cold sweat pours down his face, the realization of his fatal mistake crushing his spirit. He knows that House Ashblade is a colossal power ruling the North with an iron fist, and offending them means his entire mercenary group could be completely wiped out by morning. Throwing away all of his pride, Kent bows deeply before Rhode, pleading for forgiveness for his blind arrogance and disrespectful behavior. Still bent over in a desperate prostration, he begs the young master to show mercy and spare his mercenary group from total annihilation. The surrounding mercenaries watch in absolute shock, unable to believe their formidable captain is submissively groveling before a mere youth. Kent extends his hands, offering the glowing crimson token of the bloodstained mercenaries to Rhode as a symbol of absolute submission. Rhode stares down coldly as Kent continues to plead for forgiveness, hoping this offering will appease the young master's wrath. Sweating profusely, Kent desperately shouts that from this moment on, his entire mercenary group will be completely at Rhode's command. He continues to urge Rhode to accept them, insisting that the bloodstained mercenaries can still be highly useful tools for his future endeavors. The other mercenaries look on in utter disbelief, murmuring in confusion about why their captain is pledging their total loyalty to an unknown kid. Rhode silently notes Kent's quick thinking, realizing that keeping these mercenaries alive under his control is far more beneficial than wiping them out. Deciding to spare their lives for the sake of his ally, Leon, Rhode reaches out and takes the glowing red token from Kent's trembling hands. However, with a cold glint in his glowing blue eye, Rhode decides that a lesson must still be taught, and punishment is absolutely necessary. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind erupts, causing Kent to look up in sheer panic as a terrifying pressure fills the room. Kent freezes in place, cold sweat dripping down his face as he senses a monstrous power looming directly over him. A massive, horrifying skeletal demon manifests behind Kent, its glowing purple eyes radiating pure malice and crushing intent. Under the overwhelming weight of the spectral beast's aura, Kent's eyes bulge as he violently coughs up blood from the agonizing pressure. Satisfied with the display of dominance, Rhode calmly orders his companion to leave, while Kent lies on the ground, whimpering in terror. As Rhode and his guide exit through the grand doors, the guide looks back in relief, confirming that the terrifying young master has finally departed. Left trembling on the floor, Kent clutches his chest, deeply relieved that they managed to avoid completely enraging a monster who could have wiped them out. Sometime later, a carriage rumbles down the path, carrying Rhode toward his destination as the driver announces that Lord Ashblade is eagerly awaiting his arrival. The carriage soon arrives at the majestic Ashblade estate, a grand castle towering under the colorful hues of the evening sky. Upon entering, a silver-haired girl with vibrant red eyes runs up to greet Rhode with pure excitement, thrilled that he has finally arrived. She presents a silver tray filled with rare materials, including a glowing red orb and magical blue crystals, asking if they will suffice for his needs. With a warm smile, the girl explains just how difficult it was for them to gather such incredibly rare and precious ingredients. Rhode looks at the tray and calmly agrees, his hand instantly igniting with a powerful, glowing blue flame. The intense blue spiritual fire wraps around the rare materials, beginning the mystical process of refinement. The old man strains under the intense pressure as the blue spiritual flames on the plate begin to draw out the hidden corruption from his body. Suddenly, Rhode commands everyone to step aside as he prepares to unleash a direct intervention. With his eyes glowing a sharp, brilliant blue, Rhode focuses his absolute concentration on the task at hand. Monstrous, dark purple skull with glowing red eyes violently erupts from the old man's body, revealing the true form of the curse. Without wasting a single second, Rhode thrusts his blue-flamed hand forward to seize the spectral beast. He firmly grasps the dark, thrashing entity, countering its malicious energy with his own powerful spiritual flames. Glaring at the trapped beast, Rhode coldly declares that the evil spirit has absolutely nowhere left to run. The monstrous skull shrieks in agony as Rhode's grip tightens, forcing the dark energy to condense. Eleanor watches in absolute shock, realizing this is the very evil spirit that has tormented her grandfather for a decade. Her companion is equally stunned by the overwhelming, evil aura of the undead spirit, amazed that it cannot break free from Rhode's grip. Can't help but wonder just how absurdly powerful Master Rhode truly is to handle such a threat so easily. He shudders at the memory of his own foolishness, realizing how suicidal it was to have ever tried challenging someone of Rhode's caliber. Noting that the dark entity is still desperately struggling to break free, Rhode's expression turns even colder. With a sharp, cracking sound, Rhode clenches his fist to completely shatter the spirit's resistance. He begins to compress the chaotic residual energy between his palms, shaping it into a concentrated orb. With a firm command, Rhode seals the dark, purified energy directly into a solid crystal. Holding up the newly formed, glittering gem, Rhode calmly announces that the process is finally complete. Rhode notes that this is his first time successfully refining a stone of death since his rebirth, planning to use its power to upgrade his bone crown blade seat once he returns. The male companion shouts out in sheer disbelief at the miraculous feat they just witnessed. He is completely mind-blown that a curse tormenting Lord Ashblade for over 10 years was removed so effortlessly in mere moments. Eleanor quickly rushes to her grandfather's side, anxiously asking him how he feels now that the spirit is gone. However, Rhode warily advises Eleanor to step away from her grandfather for the time being, catching her completely off guard. Suddenly, the old man's eyes snap wide open, glowing with a blinding white light as he lets out a sudden violent gasp. Panicking, Eleanor backs away and frantically demands to know what is happening to him. Rhode calmly explains that the undead parasite had been draining the old man's power and actively collapsing his cultivation realm. Rhode calmly explains that with the parasite finally extracted, the old man's suppressed strength will finally begin to recover. Right on cue, a massive torrent of radiant magical energy erupts from the old man, enveloping him in a blinding aura. Clenching his fist, the old master feels the familiar, overwhelming surge of his long-lost power returning to his body. But to his absolute shock, his power doesn't just stop at recovery. He has actually broken through to become a peak intermediate archmage, just one step away from the advanced realm. The old man throws his head back in ecstatic laughter, thrilled that he still has a chance to reach the pinnacle of magic at his age. Watching this miracle, his loyal guard sheds tears of relief, remembering how House Ashblade had been ruthlessly suppressed by rival families ever since the master fell ill. But now, seeing his master's revival, he knows that the tragic fate of their entire family is about to change forever. With deep reverence, the guard looks at Rhode's back, realizing this incredible turnaround is entirely thanks to his generous assistance. In his heart, he declares that Rhode has single-handedly saved House Ashblade from the brink of collapse. Eleanor, completely bewildered by the sudden turn of events, frantically asks her grandfather what is going on. Rhode turns to her and explains that while the curse tormented him for 10 years, the undead parasite had actually been tempering his physical body the entire time. He adds that it was only because of her grandfather's exceptionally resilient constitution that he survived the ordeal, allowing him to achieve this breakthrough now. Eleanor is amazed, realizing that her grandfather somehow managed to turn a deadly curse into a legendary gift. Amused by her reaction, the old man pats her head affectionately and confirms that is exactly what happened. He happily explains that removing the parasite not only restored his power but put him on the very cusp of becoming an advanced archmage. With a sharp, determined gaze, the old master declares that they can finally reclaim everything House Ashblade has lost over the years. Turning to his savior, the old man bows deeply to Rhode, promising that their house will never forget this immense kindness. He goes even further, pledging that House Ashblade will follow Rhode's commands unconditionally from this day forward. Rhode casually declines the offer, stating he already got what he came for, but mentions he has a question he needs answered. Still overflowing with gratitude, the old master tells him to ask whatever he wishes. Rhode points out that the undead creature that cursed him must have been an advanced archmage in life, and asks where he originally encountered it. Staring at the glowing soul stone, Rhode secretly notes that finding this location would solve his shortage of stones of death once and for all. Understanding Rhode's true objective, the old man prepares to share his past. He reveals that over a decade ago, he fell into a demonic trap during an imperial crusade at a place called the Wailing Valley. As a fiery volcanic landscape flashes in Rhode's mind, he repeats the name of his next destination, the Wailing Valley. Knowing his current strength isn't enough to survive a valley crawling with high-rank monsters, Rhode decides to put this dangerous destination on hold until he can grow strong enough to refine its stones of death. Just then, a carriage speeds down the road as a voice calls out to Master Rhode. The driver excitedly informs him that the residence he requested near the Seven City Magic Academy is finally ready. Rhode steps out of the carriage to inspect his new living quarters. However, as he gazes upon the grand, sprawling estate before him, Rhode is left completely speechless. He can only sweat drop, realizing he asked for a simple place to crash, not a massive, luxurious mansion. Meanwhile, inside a grand castle-like structure, boisterous laughter echoes through the halls. The silver-haired girl, Eleanor, watches with her hands on her hips, pointing out that her grandfather has been laughing hysterically for quite some time. She adds that Master Rhode already departed a while ago, making his continuous laughter even more bizarre. The old man apologizes to Eleanor, explaining that he is simply overflowing with joy today. He praises Master Rhode as the most mysterious and powerful person he has ever encountered, noting how impressive it is that Rhode is around his granddaughter's age. He strongly advises Eleanor that she must do everything she can to build a good relationship with such a formidable young man. Blushing slightly, Eleanor softly replies that she understands his intentions completely. His strength fully recovered, the old man's expression turns deadly serious as he declares it's time to settle his score with Rustblade. He reveals his dark suspicion that the debilitating curse he suffered years ago was orchestrated by Rustblade himself. Elsewhere, under the starry night sky, stands the ominous and grand Flora estate. Inside the dimly lit halls, Claire's mother questions her daughter about why she has returned so late. She eagerly inquires if Claire met the boy from House Morris and if the two of them managed to get along. Looking away with a sweat drop, Claire hesitantly confirms that they did indeed meet. Mother acknowledges that while Lady Della dislikes him and rumors run wild, she believes he isn't a bad kid and urges Claire not to shun him like everyone else does. Claire reassures her mother, promising that she will make sure to get along with him. Privately, Claire thinks to herself that Rhode might actually be far from the worthless waste that society believes him to be. Meanwhile, back at his newly acquired mansion, Rhode stands alone in the quiet, spacious room. Holding a brilliantly glowing blue crystal in his hand, Rhode decides that it is finally time to upgrade Bladeseat. With a look of intense focus, he calls out the name of his weapon, ready to unleash its true potential. As the blue-flamed soul bows down before Rhode, it addresses him with deep reverence as its lord. The spirit kneels completely, its fiery ethereal form burning with intense mana as it awaits its master's command. Rhode reflects that while Bladeseat was once a legendary spellblade, years of degradation have likely reduced his current standing to an intermediate level. Still, he calculates that with peak-level swordsmanship on par with Lord Ashblade, Bladeseat can easily hold his own against anyone short of an advanced archmage. Deciding to empower him further, Rhode raises his hand and presents the glowing magic crystal. Commandingly, Rhode orders his loyal servant to accept the gift he is about to bestow. Mana surges dramatically around them as Rhode channels the crystal's power into the ritual. The crystal shatters into dozens of glowing fragments, releasing an explosion of concentrated magic. Streams of pure magic swirl across the room, rushing directly toward Bladeseat and merging into his body. Within the darkness, a sinister mask-like glow ignites as the spirit absorbs the overwhelming force. With a sharp snap, a brilliant surge of energy detonates from the fusion. The feedback of raw power envelopes Rhode as well, causing his eyes to flare with bright blue lightning. Rhode realizes in awe that Bladeseat's power upgrade has triggered a breakthrough within his own mana core. Looking at the flames dancing over his hand, he confirms he has officially reached the level of a peak apprentice archmage. Meanwhile, Bladeseat stands transformed, having successfully broken through to the level of a peak intermediate archmage. However, Rhode notes that Bladeseat still cannot be revealed publicly, meaning he must continue keeping a low profile for now. Next day arrives, and life at the academy proceeds normally through the sunlit hallways. As they walk through the corridor, Anna notices Claire scanning the area and asks what she is searching for. Claire admits she is looking for Rhode, worried about what might have happened to him after the previous day's events. Anna casually scoffs, guessing that the bloodstained mercenaries have probably fed Rhode to monsters by now. Upset by her harsh words, Claire snaps back that Rhode stayed behind specifically to protect them. Anna puts up her hands defensively with a strained smile, claiming she was merely stating the facts. She reminds Claire of just how ruthless and dangerous the bloodstained mercenaries truly are. Nearby, Anderson marches down the hallway in a rage, seething that Rhode stole all the glory that belonged to him. His minion quickly agrees, assuring Anderson that Rhode has nobody to blame but himself for his fate. But as Anderson marches down the corridor, his jaw drops in utter disbelief when he spots Rhode walking past him completely unscathed. Anderson stares in sheer shock, unable to comprehend how Rhode could possibly still be alive after what he went through. He rages internally, convinced that even if Rhode had somehow survived, he should have at least lost a few limbs or been severely crippled. Meanwhile, Claire rushes over to Rhode in relief, expressing how incredibly worried she and her mother were about his safety. Rhode offers a casual smile, reassuring her that he is perfectly fine and that the bloodstained mercenaries won't be causing them any more trouble. Hearing this, Anderson and his blonde companion are left completely dumbfounded, wondering how Rhode came back without a single scratch and what he meant by his claim. The blonde girl demands to know what exactly transpired in the forest after they abandoned him that day. She quickly rationalizes it with a smug grin, assuming that House Morris must have paid an exorbitant ransom to secure his release. She sneers, dismissing him as a worthless young master who only brings shame to his family and can never achieve anything on his own. Just then, the rhythmic tapping of high heels echoes through the classroom as an instructor arrives. The newcomer is Margaret, the Academy's practical magic instructor, sporting a witch's hat and a sharp, knowing gaze. He announces to the class that as newly promoted apprentice archmages, they will be heading to the monster forest outside the city for practical training. Rhode immediately recognizes the destination, remembering that the monster forest is the primary territory of the bloodstained mercenaries. Knowing the hidden dangers lurking within those woods, Rhode resolves to keep a close eye on Claire during the excursion. Later, Rhode pulls out a communication device to gather some crucial intelligence. Leaning against the stairwell, Rhode contacts Kent to ask him a few pressing questions. On the other end, Kent is eager to help, promising to share every bit of information he has with Master Rhode. Rhode points out that since Kent's mercenary group is based in the monster forest, he must know the terrain inside and out. Commands Kent to tell him everything he knows about the current state of the forest. Kent's tone turns serious as he warns Rhode that the monster forest has recently become highly unstable. He explains that an ancient tomb hidden deep within the woods has suddenly begun acting up. This disturbance has leaked dark mana, agitating the local monsters and triggering a dangerous beast tide. Kent reveals that a scouting team went to investigate, but only one traumatized survivor returned, completely losing his mind. The survivor could only babble about resurrected skeletons, making the deep areas of the forest strictly off-limits. However, Kent reassures Rhode that the low-rank monsters on the outer perimeter shouldn't pose any threat to someone of his caliber. Kent, visibly sweating, nervously offers the services of the bloodstained mercenaries to guide Rhode, quickly correcting himself from escort to guide. Rhode casually dismisses the offer, stating he has already gathered all the information he needs to know. Rhode ponders the anomaly of the ancient tomb, realizing this event didn't occur in his previous life. While he knows the forest poses a lethal threat to normal students, Rhode sees this unexpected crisis as a massive opportunity for himself. Soon after, the academy carriages prepare to depart for the monster forest as the students gather for their training. Inside one of the carriages, the students look out at the beautiful, rolling plains, completely unaware of the dangers ahead. Meanwhile, a scheming student asks young Master Anderson if they are still going ahead with their plan to target Rhode. Anderson reveals his true target is actually Claire of House Flora, changing his immediate plans. However, he warns that if Rhode dares to interfere, he won't hesitate to crush him, boasting about his status as a lord's son. The carriages finally arrive at the dark, misty outskirts of the infamous monster forest. The red-haired instructor acknowledges the students' high magical talents and family prestige. She declares that it is finally time to put their classroom theories to the test in a real combat environment. She explains that the population of Shadowclaw wolves has recently surged, posing a threat to nearby human settlements. Assuring them, she notes that these wolves are low-rank beasts that the students should easily handle. Their official assignment is to hunt the wolves, either alone or in teams, and bring back a single claw before dusk. As soon as the hunt begins, a massive burst of flame erupts through the trees. A violent explosion rocks the forest, accompanied by cheers of excitement from the students. The nearby students are instantly amazed by the destructive power of young Master Anderson's magic. Anderson grins maliciously, determined to use this display of real combat magic to impress Claire. His lackeys shower him with praise, claiming his fireball technique is flawless enough to gather claws for their entire group. Anna excitedly points out the power of Anderson's spell to Claire, hoping to sway her. She eagerly suggests they team up with Anderson to ensure their safety during the hunt. Claire hesitates, expressing that she actually feels much safer sticking close to Rhode. She points out that even the notorious bloodstained mercenaries were completely powerless against him. With an air of absolute confidence, Rhode quietly heads off into the deep forest on his own. Having recently broken through to the level of peak apprentice archmage, Rhode smiles as he realizes his perception range has now expanded to a staggering 300 meters. Within this range, he immediately detects over a dozen Shadowclaw wolves lurking in the shadows, along with the distinct aura of poison crocodiles over in the northern swamp. But what truly catches his attention is a subtle fluctuation of death energy emanating from deep within the forest, perfectly matching the description Kent had given him. Meanwhile, Rhode decides to approach Claire and suggests they team up, privately noting that it would be safer to keep a close eye on her. Claire readily agrees with a bright smile, seemingly pleased by his offer to work together. Elsewhere, the arrogant young Master Anderson is already showing off, easily hoisting a defeated Shadowclaw wolf to the cheers of his followers. Anderson scoffs at the praise, dismissively claiming that taking down such low-rank monsters is hardly a big deal for someone of his caliber. Seeing this, a blonde girl named Anna runs over to Claire, eagerly pointing out Anderson's success and insisting they should have teamed up with him instead. Anna then waves her hand excitedly and asks young Master Anderson if she and Claire can join his party. Absolutely thrilled by the request, Anderson boasts that he will gladly protect both Lady Anna and Lady Claire, telling them to leave everything to him. Deep in the brush, a tiger-like beast surrounded by a sinister purple flame rests quietly, completely unaware of the intruders. Suddenly, a dark, corrupted energy begins to violently slip into the creature's body. The beast suddenly rears up and roars in agony and rage as the dark power takes hold of its mind. Drool drips from its razor-sharp fangs as its breath turns into a heavy, menacing mist. Now fully transformed into a terrifying, berserk predator with glowing white eyes, the beast stands ready to slaughter anything in its path. Back with the students, Rhode senses the sudden shift in the atmosphere and casts a serious glance back toward the rest of the group. The supervising teacher, a red-haired witch, also senses the danger and grows deeply concerned, wondering why a powerful monster lord is present in an area that was supposed to be cleared. She glances over at Rhode, the kid from House Morris, curiously wondering if he is also capable of sensing this overwhelming pressure. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she commands Rhode to stay behind and keep a close eye on the other students. She dashes off into the forest, determined to eliminate the monster lord herself to guarantee the safety of the class. Watching her leave, Anderson is highly offended, demanding to know why a useless brat like Rhode should be the one watching over them. His followers quickly agree, loudly boasting that since Anderson can one-shot a Shadowclaw wolf with a single fireball, they have absolutely no need for Rhode's protection. Rhode completely ignores their whining, focusing instead on the rapidly intensifying death aura that is already driving the nearby monsters into a frenzy. He knows that these newly turned berserk monsters are far too dangerous for ordinary students to handle at their current level. Completely oblivious to the impending doom, Anderson smugly tells everyone to stick close to him, promising to farm all the wolf claws they need himself. Anderson basks in the adoration of his classmates, completely letting the praise go to his head as he acts like their savior. With their self-proclaimed leader guiding the way, the group marches deeper into the dark, glowing forest, oblivious to the danger. Suddenly, a heavy silence falls over the woods, prompting one of the nervous girls to point out how eerily quiet it has become. Anderson puts his hands in his pockets, finding it strange that the wolves they were hunting have suddenly vanished without a trace. His confusion is instantly cut short as a massive, drooling wolf with glowing blue eyes leaps out from the darkness. Seeing this as his moment of glory, Anderson arrogantly tells Rhode to watch closely and witness his supreme bravery. With a confident smirk, Anderson summons a blazing fireball in his hand, ready to show off his destructive magic. He hurls the spell forward, scoring a direct hit that erupts into a massive, fiery explosion right on the beast's face. But as the smoke clears, the wolf is revealed to be completely unscathed, its thick fur absorbing the brunt of the attack. Massive Predator leaps high into the air, looming over Anderson like an unstoppable force of nature. Anderson's smug expression instantly shatters into pure horror as he realizes his attack did absolutely nothing to the beast. His classmates watch in utter panic as Anderson frantically screams, unable to comprehend why his fireball failed to one-shot the monster. The Shadowclaw wolf unleashes a terrifying, deafening roar, its eyes glowing red as it prepares to tear him to shreds. Terrified and completely helpless, Anderson can do nothing but shield his face as the beast closes in for the kill. Just before the fatal strike lands, a brilliant blue flame reflects in Rhode's calm, unfazed eye as he prepares to intervene. Rhode steps forward, channeling a powerful surge of mystic blue fire from his hand to intercept the beast. Anderson can only watch in absolute disbelief, stunned by the sheer pressure of the magic radiating from the boy he looked down on. With a single, effortless strike, the massive Shadowclaw wolf is sent crashing to the ground, completely neutralized. The girls are left utterly speechless, struggling to comprehend how Rhode just easily one-shot a monster that Anderson couldn't even scratch. The shocking display forces the blonde girl to realize that Rhode didn't survive his past encounters through luck or begging, but through sheer power. Yet, her pride refuses to accept reality, desperately gritting her teeth as she wonders how a supposed waste could possess such strength. Ignoring their stunned reactions, Rhode calmly analyzes the situation, sensing that there are still many more monsters lurking nearby. Knowing he cannot easily deal with an entire horde by himself, he decides it is time to summon his powerful Earthrender. Without giving his classmates an explanation, Rhode dashes deeper into the dark woods, leaving them to scream after him in panic. He soon stands alone in a clearing, completely surrounded by a pack of ferocious, red-eyed wolves ready to strike. Facing the surrounding beasts, Rhode calmly commands the hidden force to show itself. Suddenly, a deep rumble shakes the very ground of the dark forest. With a thunderous crash, Rhode's giant, bone-armored summon bursts onto the battlefield. Standing atop his gargantuan summon, Rhode orders it to eliminate any Shadowclaw wolves corrupted by dark mana. The colossal beast unleashes a deafening roar that echoes through the entire forest. It leaps high into the sky, ready to bring down absolute destruction. Landing with a devastating boom, the summon scatters the wolves like autumn leaves. The sheer impact of its descent fractures the earth itself, sending shockwaves in all directions. Feeling the tremors, the terrified classmates recognize the signature trample skill of an Earthrender. Panicking, Anderson realizes they are completely out of their depth against such a legendary beast and prays it doesn't head their way. It's the chaos. Anna can't help but worry if Rhode is still alive out there. However, Claire bitterly snaps back, convinced that Rhode abandoned them and has already been eaten alive. Desperate for safety, Claire begs Anderson to protect them, forcing him to give a nervous, sweating reassurance. Meanwhile, the massive summon continues its brutal assault, pinning a wolf down with a single heavy fist. Standing tall, the fearsome summon stares down the remaining wolves, who begin to tremble in fear. Noting that these particular wolves aren't corrupted by dark mana, Rhode mercifully orders his summon to spare them. Given their chance to survive, the terrified wolves quickly flee into the safety of the brush. Suddenly, the nearby bushes begin to rustle violently once again. Claire panics, clutching her head in fear that the monstrous Earthrender has tracked them down. To her immense relief, it is only a pack of red-eyed Shadowclaw wolves instead of the giant beast. Instantly regaining his confidence, Anderson steps forward, boasting that he will easily handle these wolves to protect the girls. But before he can act, their instructor, Miss Margaret, steps forward, channeling a massive sphere of fire. Her eyes glow with a fierce intensity as she prepares to unleash her magic. With a roaring whoosh, she unleashes her devastating heavenly fire spell. The sky-splitting pillar of flame completely incinerates the battlefield, leaving absolutely nothing in its wake. Standing before the charred remains of the defeated beast, she breathes a sigh of relief, glad to have finally put an end to the terrifying monster lord. However, her relief is short-lived as she reflects on the battle, noting that the creature was far more powerful than expected and radiated a sinister dark mana. Realizing that something must have gone horribly wrong deep inside the forest, she curses herself for not noticing this ominous shift in energy sooner. Suddenly, a sharp rustling sound cuts through the silence of the woods, signaling that she is no longer alone. Her eyes widen in pure shock as she senses an overwhelming presence drawing near. From the depths of the shadowy trees, the rhythmic clatter of hooves echoes as a mysterious figure cloaked in blue flames slowly emerges. The heavy hoof of an undead steed crushes the ground. She instantly spots the terrifying entity. There stands the true source of the dark mana, a headless specter clad in dark armor, riding a flaming skeletal horse. She recognizes it immediately as an ancient undead knight that has risen from some long-forgotten tomb. She deduces that this powerful undead warrior is the mastermind behind the sudden frenzy driving the forest's monsters. Sensing its overwhelming aura, she estimates its power level to be at the peak of a beginner archmage, or perhaps even reaching the intermediate archmage tier. Knowing she is only at the mid-stage of a beginner archmage, she realizes she is severely outmatched, but letting it pass would mean certain death for the students. No other choice, she steels her resolve, determined to stop this monster right here and now. Channeling every ounce of her remaining mana into her staff, she prepares to unleash her ultimate, all-or-nothing strike. With a furious battle cry, she screams out the name of her ultimate spell, Heavenly Fire Meteor. A colossal beam of intense, golden fire erupts from her staff, piercing straight into the heavens. From the sky, a massive, swirling sphere of pure destruction begins its rapid descent directly toward the undead knight. The headless warrior stands its ground, staring up at the impending cosmic devastation without a single hint of fear. The meteor collides with a deafening explosion, engulfing the entire area in a blinding tempest of fire and smoke. Gasping for breath, she peers through the smoke, desperately hoping her desperate gamble was enough to destroy the beast. But her hopes are instantly shattered as the undead knight charges out of the flames unscathed, delivering a devastating counterattack. Blown back by the force of the strike, she crashes heavily onto the forest floor, her strength completely depleted as she stares helplessly at her foe. Her vision blurs as she looks up at the towering trees, the dark forest canopy swirling in a disoriented haze. Through her fading consciousness, she catches a final glimpse of the imposing knight shrouded in eerie blue flames. Suddenly, a silver-haired young man appears, calmly praising the creature he calls Earthrender before commanding it to return. Feeling a sudden shift in the atmosphere, Rhode immediately senses an incredibly powerful and sinister aura approaching. Looking down the dark forest path, he realizes that the true threat is finally making its way directly toward him. Emerging from the shadows is a terrifying headless knight clad in dark armor, riding a spectral steed as Rhode recognizes it as an undead entity. Observing the glowing blue eyes of the terrifying mount, he wonders if this is indeed an ancient warrior resurrected by corrupted dark mana. Instead of showing fear, Rhode's eyes glow with divine authority as he demands to know why this creature isn't kneeling before him, the undead monarch. With absolute authority, Rhode commands the creature to bow down before him right this instant. The sheer force of his command causes the spectral horse to violently rear back as its armor plates crash together. An invisible, heavy pressure descends upon the headless knight, forcing its massive armored body to buckle under Rhode's absolute domain. The creature desperately fights against the overwhelming gravity, its hooves flailing as it tries to resist the monarch's pressure. With a massive boom, the ground shatters as the undead knight is violently slammed down by the sheer weight of Rhode's aura. Rhode calmly observes the aftermath, noting that the sheer density of the creature's dark mana is remarkably high. In the distance, a colossal vortex of dark and blue energy erupts into the sky, drawing the shocked attention of everyone nearby. The girls tremble in sheer terror, overwhelmed by the suffocating darkness of the distant pillar, as they wonder what kind of monster could unleash such power. Standing amidst defeated beasts, the silver-haired warrior realizes with dread that the terrifying explosion came from the exact direction Rhode headed. His companion nervously suggests that Rhode must be completely finished if he was caught in the middle of such a cataclysmic force. Meanwhile, in the desolate clearing, the injured red-haired instructor struggles to stand as the wind rustles through the dead trees. Her glasses shattered and her face bruised, she gazes up in silence at the terrifying spectacle unfolding before her. Realizing that the devastating energy is concentrated right where the students are located, panic surges through her. Despite her severe injuries and tattered clothes, she resolves that she must push forward to stop the threat at all costs. Back at the battlefield, Rhode stands tall opposite the blazing undead knight, separated only by the shattered remains of the forest. Rhode deduces that the dark mana has completely corrupted the knight's mind, leaving it with barely any of its original sanity. He realizes the creature is driven purely by the instinct to hunt and devour the strongest prey to grow more powerful, and has foolishly targeted him. Looking down on the mindless beast with absolute disdain, Rhode coldly calls its existence pathetic. With a gaze colder than ice, he decides to show mercy by ending its wretched existence right here. In response, the headless knight raises its massive dark spear high into the air, ready to unleash its final, desperate strike. Recognizing the overwhelming presence before it, the knight mutters in awe of the powerful king standing in its path. Driven by pride, the warrior defiantly roars that it will never submit to its opponent. Activating its ultimate skill, the spectral knight initiates a devastating knight's charge. Massive undead rider thunders forward at breakneck speed, while the young master watches its approach without flinching. Knowing his current level isn't high enough to tank the charge head-on, the boy prepares a strategic countermeasure. He extends his glowing hand to invoke a high-tier necromancy art known as Memory Echo. A distorted rainbow-colored barrier erupts around him as he tells his foe to enjoy the mental trap he is about to spring. The knight's mind is instantly dragged into a vivid battlefield illusion created specifically to exploit its past. Under the influence of the spell, the knight stares in horror at its own blood-drenched hands as the illusion begins to glitch. It is thrust back into the memories of a brutal war, surrounded by charging soldiers and falling comrades. Overwhelmed by the traumatic memory, the knight lets out an agonizing, soul-shattering roar. Massive, glowing blue eyes look down from the heavens as the boy declares this illusion to be the knight's final resting place. Finding this undead knight to be the perfect match, the young master decides to summon Bladeseat to test his summon's true strength. This confrontation will mark the very first time Bladeseat gets to unleash his power in a serious, unrestricted battle. Bowing to his master's command, Bladeseat vows to personally slay the enemy in front of them. His mind completely broken by the memory echo, the knight loses all remaining sanity and mindlessly charges. Screaming that it will kill everything, the knight has devolved into a relentless, bloodthirsty combat machine. Bladeseat readies his massive blade, unleashing a dark, swirling torrent of energy to meet the charge. The two powerful forces collide in a blur of shadowy slashes and high-speed motion. A sharp, decisive swing cuts through the air with a deafening swish. The impact triggers a massive explosion, shattering the ground beneath them and sending debris flying everywhere. Leaping high into the air, Bladeseat brings his colossal sword down with immense downward force. Shockwave of the strike tears the battlefield apart, ripping up massive chunks of stone. With incredible agility, Bladeseat swoops past the knight, delivering a lightning-fast follow-up strike. Their weapons clash in a brilliant burst of sparks, echoing a sharp metal clang across the field. Raising his blade high, Bladeseat prepares a devastating downward strike, his single blue eye glowing with intense focus. The Death Knight braces for the impact, the dark aura around his spiked armor crackling with volatile energy. With a blinding flash, Bladeseat's sword cuts clean through the air, severing the Death Knight's armored hand in a single fluid motion. As glowing blue essence spills from the severed limb, the Death Knight can't help but acknowledge his opponent as a truly mighty warrior. Letting out a deafening roar of agony and rage, the Dark Knight unleashes a massive surge of purple flames. Channeling his remaining strength, he grips his massive weapon with his left hand, screaming for Bladeseat to die. He swings his weapon down with desperate fury, tearing through the air with a violent gust of wind. The devastating strike erupts into a chaotic web of dark purple energy, threatening to obliterate everything in its path. The shockwave ripples across the battlefield, but Bladeseat remains completely unfazed as he positions himself beneath the storm. Maintaining absolute composure, Bladeseat prepares his final counter technique with serene focus. Activating his special sword technique, Pale Blade Veil, a swirling vortex of brilliant blue light erupts around him. Two opposing forces collide in a cataclysmic explosion, illuminating the entire area in a blinding flash of light. As the smoke begins to clear, the Death Knight retreats on his spectral steed, looking back to assess the damage. To his utter shock, the spot where Bladeseat stood is completely empty, leaving nothing but scorched earth. Before the knight can even react, Bladeseat reappears directly behind him like a silent ghost. Sensing the sudden presence, the Death Knight turns back in sheer panic. He desperately thrusts his blade backward, unleashing his own technique, Soul-Stilling Pierce. His desperate strike misses entirely, his dark flames fizzling out harmlessly into the cold night air. Instantly, a towering pillar of brilliant blue energy erupts from the ground, engulfing the area. The concentrated blast hits the Death Knight head-on, shattering his heavy armor and lifting him off his horse. Looking down upon his defeated foe, Bladeseat speaks of his lord with absolute reverence. He declares that his master has graciously granted the undead knight the gift of a true, eternal death. With a final, violent shockwave, the Death Knight's physical form completely disintegrates into a cloud of dust. The lingering blue embers drift slowly toward the heavens, marking the end of the corrupted soul's torment. Standing victorious amidst the ruins, Bladeseat quietly sheathes his sword, his mission successfully accomplished. Kneeling respectfully before his master, the flaming undead knight Bladeseat reports that the corrupted enemy has finally been vanquished. Standing calmly amidst the quiet woods, Rhode acknowledges his summoned success with a gentle word of praise. A small, flickering blue ember of the defeated soul drifts silently in the air, waiting for its final release. Reaching out, Rhode gently guides the lingering spirit to dissipate, wishing the poor lost soul eternal rest. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a battered Miss Margaret rushes forward, desperate to stop the undead knight before it's too late. Exhausted and covered in sweat, she pushes through her limits, determined to protect her beloved students from harm. Suddenly, she gasps in pure shock as she stumbles upon a completely unexpected sight. She peers out into a massive, barren wasteland of destroyed trees, only to spot a lone student standing in the center. Her eyes widen as she recognizes the boy as none other than Rhode Morris himself. Sensing that the powerful undead knight's aura has completely vanished, Margaret wonders in disbelief if Rhode could have somehow defeated it. Noticing her arrival, Rhode turns around with a calm expression, expressing his relief that his teacher is safe. Still processing the surreal scene, Margaret slowly approaches him, speaking his name in a dazed tone. He immediately questions him, asking if he saw a terrifying, headless undead knight revived by dark mana nearby. Rhode casually feigns ignorance, claiming he saw no such monster as he turns his back to her. He gestures to the devastated landscape, lying that the area was already ruined when he arrived tracking the Shadowclaw wolves. Margaret stares intently at him, highly skeptical since she didn't sense any other powerful entity in the vicinity. She narrows her eyes, realizing that Rhode might simply be hiding his true, monstrous strength from everyone. Deciding not to press him further, she gives a knowing smile and agrees to take his word for it. Even so, she sincerely thanks him on behalf of all the Academy students for his timely help. Rhode politely deflects the praise, pointing out her tattered appearance and warning that she will worry the others looking like that. Looking down at her heavily torn dress, Margaret realizes he has a point and prepares to fix her appearance. Raising her hands, she channels a bright golden light to mend her clothes and heal her wounds. Now fully restored and looking pristine, she turns around with a smile to speak to Rhode once more. To her utter bewilderment, the boy has completely vanished into thin air, leaving her standing alone in the clearing. Slipping away unnoticed, Rhode walks along the cracked earth, tracking the traces of dark mana to find the ancient tomb Kent spoke of. Rhode instantly senses an incredibly dense wave of dark mana in the air, confirming he is on the right path. Standing before a dark, ominous cavern, he realizes this must be the exact spot where the undead knight was resurrected. As he steps inside, a heavy, swirling vortex of dark purple energy surges all around him. Yet, Rhode remains completely unfazed, walking straight through the menacing aura with absolute composure. A subtle smile plays on his lips as he mutters that he has finally found what he was looking for. Looking down, his suspicions are confirmed when he spots a massive, glowing blue magic circle carved into the cavern floor. Sudden gusts of residual dark energy begin to swirl violently around the ancient ruins. The cold, commanding tone, Rhode simply tells the lingering dark forces to scram. Instantly, the oppressive dark energy shatters like glass under the sheer weight of his presence. Stepping closer, Rhode examines the artificial magic formation and realizes someone must have used these dark mana-infused magic stones to revive the ancient knight. He deduces that this forbidden ritual is the true source of the corruption that caused the monster forest to go haywire. It becomes clear to him that a mysterious mastermind is plotting something sinister behind the scenes. Picking up one of the glowing stones, Rhode scoffs at the amateurish ritual, calling it a petty insult to true necromancy. While he doesn't yet know what this mysterious culprit is ultimately after, he decides to pocket the valuable dark magic stones, knowing they will definitely come in handy later. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Miss Margaret watches her students from behind a tree, relieved to see that everyone is safe and the undead knight never reached them. She steps out to greet the group, asking them if they have successfully completed their practical assignments. Margaret then announces that they will head back to the academy as soon as the entire class is gathered. Claire immediately speaks up with a worried expression, informing the teacher that Rhode has not yet returned. She explains that a terrifying mana vortex erupted in the forest right after Rhode ran deep into the woods. Margaret's eyes widen as she asks Claire to confirm if the destructive vortex indeed appeared right after Rhode's departure. Connecting the dots, Margaret realizes in shock that the powerful undead knight must have been defeated by Rhode himself. He is left utterly flabbergasted, wondering just how monstrously powerful this kid truly is. Meanwhile, Kent scoffs and suggests that Rhode probably just chickened out and ran away, while another student worries about his safety. Kent loudly complains to Miss Margaret, calling Rhode a coward who got scared silly by the mana vortex and fled. Another student immediately steps up to defend Rhode, firmly believing that young Master Anderson would never run away like a coward. Miss Margaret remains composed and confident, assuring the class that Rhode will return soon and they won't leave without him. However, the surrounding students continue to scoff, doubting he will ever make it back and joking that he's already been eaten by a wolf. Seeking answers, Kent asks Miss Margaret about the massive mana vortex that suddenly appeared deep inside the forest. He presses further, pointing out that even the Shadowclaw wolves had been acting unusually aggressive because of it. Miss Margaret dismisses their worries with a cool tone, claiming it was simply a minor mana eruption deep within the woods. She reassures the class that she personally inspected the area and confirmed the forest is completely safe and free from danger. Hearing this, Kent smirks arrogantly, convincing himself that Rhode really did run away in fear after receiving orders. He boasts loudly to everyone around him, claiming Rhode's earlier feat was just pure luck and boasting that he could easily do the same. Just then, Rhode calmly strolls out of the dense forest, prompting Kent to scoff at the nerve of the deserter actually returning. Kent continues to mock him out loud, laughing that anyone else in Rhode's position would have run home crying to their mother. Claire rushes over with relief, asking if he is all right, but Rhode casually replies that he is completely fine. Watching Rhode walk past without a single scratch, Kent breaks into a cold sweat, unable to comprehend his calm demeanor. Miss Margaret stares at him in complete disbelief, astonished to see him return unharmed after such a dangerous commotion. Approaching his teacher, Rhode presents the gathered wolf claw, informing her that his task is finished and they can head back. As Miss Margaret gazes at him, she suddenly realizes that every trace of dark mana lingering in the forest has completely vanished. Staring at Rhode's quiet confidence, a startling thought crosses her mind. Could this boy be the one who wiped out the source of the dark magic? She quickly catches herself, internally shaking off the ridiculous suspicion before it gets the better of her. Softening her gaze, she reminds herself that regardless of his mysterious strength, he is still her student and protecting him is her responsibility. Turning to the class, Miss Margaret loudly announces the end of today's practical magic lesson, prompting a wave of cheering from the relieved students. With the field exercise concluded, carriages travel along the sunlit mountain paths back toward the Grand Castle City. Meanwhile, deep within a dark and forgotten cavern, shadowy footsteps echo against the stone floor. A mysterious hooded figure stands silently in the middle of an ancient magic ritual circle carved deep within the ruins. Kneeling down to inspect the ruined floor, the figure touches the shattered stones, realizing someone forcefully destroyed their magic formation. Gazing into the dark tomb, the stranger mutters in frustration, knowing that whatever ancient creature was sealed within should have already awakened. The hooded figure is left in disbelief, realizing that not only was his revived ancient knight slain, but his hidden magic formation was also completely exposed. He begins to speculate on who could possess such immense power, wondering if an elite Imperial Grandmaster happened to be passing through this area. Gritting his teeth with a menacing, glowing purple eye, the villain declares that regardless of who this intruder is, he will not allow them to disrupt his ultimate plans. With a chilling grin, he vows that anyone who dares to get in his way will face nothing but a swift and brutal death. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the grand and peaceful grounds of the academy, basking under a bright, sunny sky. Walking down the quiet corridors, the silver-haired protagonist wonders to himself just how much of his secret actions Miss Margaret managed to witness. Despite the risk, he realizes the situation presents the perfect opportunity to question her about the mysterious artifact known as the Tear of the Dead. As he steps into the courtyard, he notices a crowd of students gathering near the pillars, prompting him to wonder what is causing the commotion. He spots a tall, blonde male student standing confidently with his hands in his pockets, drawing the attention of everyone around him. The female students nearby immediately begin to swoon and blush, completely captivated by the handsome appearance of young Master Kaya. They admire his disciplined demeanor, noting that his military background sets him far apart from the typical, lazy noble playboys. However, not everyone is impressed, as a disgruntled student nearby scoffs in annoyance, calling Kaya nothing but a pretentious brat. He bitterly questions what the girls even see in Kaya, complaining that he only gets attention because his older brother is a powerful archmage in the military. Observing the intense jealousy, our protagonist casually asks the boy if he harbors a deep hatred for the popular student. The boy furiously confirms his resentment, claiming that he should be the one receiving all the female attention instead. He then insults the protagonist, calling him a waste while declaring that Kaya is actually his own ultimate rival in the academy. The protagonist remains completely unfazed, recalling how he used to envy Kaya in his past life, though his perspective has entirely changed now. Just then, the sound of approaching footsteps echoes across the polished floor as someone walks directly toward them. Kaya politely but firmly requests them to step aside and clear the path so he can pass through. Refusing to back down, the angry rival confrontational yells back, demanding that Kaya be the one to get out of their way instead. A tense standoff ensues as Kaya looks down with cold, piercing blue eyes, while the angry student glares back with sheer fury. Onlookers begin to panic, whispering anxiously about what to do now that Kaya and Anderson are on the verge of a physical fight. They note that both boys come from incredibly influential families that no ordinary student would ever dare to cross. Suddenly, a gorgeous red-haired instructor carrying a large book steps into the corridor, demanding to know why they are blocking the entrance. With an intimidating gaze, she suggests that if they are so eager to fight, they can settle their differences in today's physical combat class. A polite student in a white uniform bows respectfully to Miss Margaret before taking his leave alongside his peers. As the group walks away, one of the students scoffs in annoyance, muttering under his breath about the guy being a total show-off. With the hall clear, Rhode stands silently behind Miss Margaret, waiting for his chance to speak. Leaning back gracefully in her chair, Miss Margaret glances up and asks Rhode what brought him to see her. Rhode directly asks if he can be granted permission to skip that afternoon's upcoming combat class. Smiling playfully, Miss Margaret teases him, asking if he is just trying to dodge trouble or if he has something else up his sleeve. He continues with a sly grin, pointing out that perhaps he just wants to keep his true abilities hidden from the rest of his classmates. Hearing her hit the nail right on the head, Rhode can only stare back with a deadpan, exasperated look. Miss Margaret crosses her arms knowingly, calling him out on having an ulterior motive for his visit, which Rhode freely admits. Getting straight to the point, Rhode asks if she has ever heard of a legendary artifact known as the Tear of the Dead. Adjusting her glasses, Miss Margaret nods, recognizing it as an ancient relic left behind by formidable figures long ago. She explains that since none of the Academy's instructors could figure out how to unlock its power, it has remained sealed away in the magic tool vault. Realizing his intention, Miss Margaret looks at him in surprise, asking if that powerful artifact is what he is truly after. With an unwavering and serious gaze, Rhode gives a simple and definitive confirmation. Miss Margaret gently declines, telling him that even she doesn't possess the high-level authority needed to pull such a valuable relic from the vault. Rhode feels a moment of disappointment, but Miss Margaret suddenly interrupts his thoughts by offering a single condition. She reveals that while she cannot open the vault herself, she can introduce him to an old professor who can, provided Rhode attends combat class and performs well enough to impress her. She assures him that if he demonstrates sufficient talent, the old professor won't be able to turn down his request for the artifact. Leaning in closer, she openly admits that she simply wants the chance to witness his true hidden strength firsthand. Rhode glares in silence, inwardly annoyed by how cleverly she managed to corner him into fighting. Recognizing that he has been completely outmaneuvered, Rhode throws up his hands and reluctantly agrees to her terms. The perspective shifts to the Academy's massive, sunlit training grounds where students gather for their practical lessons. Among the crowd, a stunning silver-haired girl named Eleanor gracefully stretches in her athletic wear. Nearby male students blush furiously, whispering about Eleanor's incredible beauty and her mysterious, high-ranking family background. The gossip intensifies as the top student, young Master Kaya, makes his way toward Eleanor, confirming rumors of his secret crush on her. Kaya greets Eleanor with a charming smile, courteously asking how her grandfather has been doing since they last met. Eleanor politely responds that her grandfather is doing well and thanks young Master Kaya for asking. But mid-conversation, Eleanor spots Rhode standing in the distance and recognizes her master. Completely ignoring Kaya, she turns away with a radiant smile and excitedly calls out to him. Noticing her excitement, Rhode subtly places a finger over his lips to signal her to stay quiet. Understanding his warning immediately, Eleanor snaps both hands over her mouth to suppress her shout. Meanwhile, Kaya's polite facade completely crumbles into dark humiliation upon being blatantly disregarded. Glares venomously at Rhode, seething in anger over who this nobody could possibly be to steal Eleanor's attention. Suddenly, a loud impact echoes across the training ground as another student steps heavily onto the mat. It's Anderson, who charges forward with an enraged snarl, declaring that Kaya will pay for what happened that morning. Cracking his knuckles, an irritated Kaya accepts the confrontation, admitting he is already in a foul mood and ready to vent. Meanwhile, near the bleachers, A large thug-like student looms over Rhode and rudely calls him Shorty. Remembering that Rhode also stood in Kaya's way earlier, the brute menacingly orders him to get up so he can break him. The surrounding crowd quickly stirs with excitement as they realize Anderson and Kaya are about to lock horns in a combat duel. Combat instructor steps onto the field, acknowledging the feud brewing between the two rival students. He sternly reminds them of the arena's rules, warning that only hand-to-hand combat is allowed and all magic is strictly forbidden. Anderson sinisterly requests an official spar against Kaya, overflowing with confidence in his physical prowess. He smugly boasts to the instructor that his close-quarters martial arts are just as deadly as his magic casting. When the instructor asks if Kaya will accept the challenge, Kaya calmly agrees without any hesitation. Facing each other in the massive arena, Kaya warns Anderson not to blame him for whatever brutal beating happens next. Anderson taunts back, vowing to wipe that pretentious look off Kaya's face once he's biting the dust. Pushing through the cheering crowd, Anna panics and asks Claire what they should do about this sudden combat duel. Claire looks at her questioningly, asking why Anna is so worried when she always seems so confident in Anderson's abilities. Anna stammers nervously, revealing that Kaya was personally trained in brutal military combat moves by his older brother. Unaware of the deadly threat, a crazed Anderson pounces forward maniacally, shouting that he has been waiting for this exact moment. Anderson lunges forward with a crazed grin, shouting that he can't wait to knock Kaya's teeth in. Unfazed by the maniacal charge, Kaya smoothly slips into a refined martial arts stance. Anderson swings with full force, but Kaya effortlessly dodges the blow as it whizzes past. Exploiting the opening, Kaya raises his arm to deliver a ruthless counterstrike from above. Anderson's eyes widen in sheer panic as he realizes his attack has failed completely. A crushing blow lands with a loud bang, shattering Anderson's stance instantly. The sheer force sends Anderson crashing face-first into the wooden arena floor. Surrounding female students burst into cheers, swooning over Kaya's overwhelming power. One girl blushes while gushing about how handsome and perfect Kaya is, as Claire watches silently. Standing tall over his trembling opponent, Kaya cold-heartedly tells Anderson that he is no match for him. Looking down with complete disdain, Kaya demands an immediate apology to forgive Anderson's rudeness. Furious and humiliated, Anderson aggressively spits blood onto the ground. With a bloodthirsty growl, Anderson screams curses and demands to keep fighting. Anderson recklessly charges forward again, while Kaya remains still with his arms crossed. Kaya glances down with an unimpressed expression, noting that Anderson brought this beatdown upon himself. Another heavy impact, Kaya effortlessly blasts Anderson away a second time. As the spectators gasp at the brutal defeat, a red-haired woman with glasses watches on with a stern gaze. Nearby, a bald fighter taunts the white-haired protagonist, warning that he will soon be begging on his knees. Cracking his knuckles arrogantly, the bald fighter chuckles about fools who never learn. He throws a swift punch straight at the protagonist, shouting at him never to block their path again. As the fist looms closer, the protagonist calmly reflects on his past life as a supreme necromancer. He remembers how he usually let his undead legion do the fighting instead of engaging in physical brawls. His eyes glow with sharp resolve, proving that he is still a master of close-quarters combat. Surrounding himself with a sharp aura, he asserts that dealing with weaklings requires minimal effort. Back on the court, Kaya's sinister aura flares up, reaffirming that no one present can stand against him. As the defeated opponent curses under his breath from the ground, he realizes just how completely outmatched he truly is. Kaya's eyes widen in utter shock as he catches a sudden glimpse of a body hurled violently across the arena. With a deafening crash, the fighter slams headfirst into the floor, shattering the stone pavement into pieces. Dust clouds billow into the air, leaving the opponent sticking upside down out of the crater, while the crowd watches in disbelief. Kaya stands frozen with his arms crossed, staring down at the wreckage as the surrounding martial artists look on in stunned silence. Spectators in the stands can barely process what just happened, their eyes wide with absolute shock. The onlookers gasp in disbelief, questioning if Rhode really just executed such a devastating high-level move so effortlessly. Standing gracefully amidst swirling currents of wind, Rhode coolly adjusts his stance as if he barely lifted a finger. Internally sweating, Rhode realizes to his dismay that even though he held back immensely, his opponent was far too fragile to handle it. Meanwhile, a dark and ominous shadow falls over Kaya's face as intense rage begins to boil within him. Kaya looks down at his foaming, unconscious teammate on the ground, his silence growing more dangerous by the second. Murmurs erupt throughout the arena. Kaya slowly begins to stand up, radiating a sinister dark aura. Stepping forward onto the court, Kaya directly calls out Rhode, turning the crowd's attention entirely onto their standoff. With dark energy creeping over his face, Kaya ominously questions Rhode on why he went so brutal in a simple sparring match. Unfazed, Rhode looks back with glowing blue eyes, calmly assuring him that he pulled his punch and the guy will be fine. Rhode then turns the tables, coldly reminding Kaya that he has no right to lecture anyone about going too far. He glances back toward Anderson, who is sitting on the floor battered and bruised from Kaya's merciless beating moments earlier. Enraged by the disrespect, Kaya's visage twists into a demonic mask of raw fury, ready to snap. Spectator holds his head in sheer terror, screaming that Rhode is completely insane for provoking someone as lethal as Kaya. Panic spreads across the crowd as everyone realizes young Master Kaya has been pushed into a full-blown rage. The onlookers whisper among themselves, amazed that the so-called useless trash of House Morris dared to stand up to Kaya. Meanwhile, the silver-haired girl covers her mouth in anxiety, hoping Rhode doesn't end up accidentally crippling Kaya instead. The red-haired instructor watches with a keen smirk, eager to see what Rhode is truly capable of displaying. She keeps her eyes glued to the fight, wanting to see if Rhode proves worthy of earning the tear of the dead. Unleashing his dark, oppressive aura, Kaya readies his stance, bringing out a terrifying level of power for the ultimate clash. Spectators erupt in excitement, realizing Kaya is about to unleash his secret combat technique. They murmur in awe, knowing this secret skill can produce destructive force matching magic without consuming any mana. Surrounded by a sinister purple aura, Kaya lunges forward in a terrifyingly low stance. Putting his full power into the charge, he calls out his devastating Crusher Iron Fist. He leaps high into the air at blinding speed, leaving the crowd shocked by how much faster he is compared to his previous fight. Everyone watches in disbelief, wondering how a human can move so fast with pure physical power alone. Seeing Rhode stand completely still without dodging, Kaya internally scoffs, convinced the hit will be fatal. Kaya dives downward with lethal momentum, aiming his massive fist directly at Rhode. With unbelievable ease, Rhode catches the earth-shattering strike barehanded, his glowing eyes gleaming through the dust. Kaya's eye widens in sheer shock, unable to comprehend how a strike capable of smashing solid rock was stopped effortlessly. Realizing the threat, Kaya forcefully yanks his arm free and leaps back across the arena floor. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Kaya refuses to accept that his years of elite martial arts training are useless here. Rhode calmly adjusts his collar, questioning if Kaya really thought it was appropriate to use such deadly force in a sparring match. He notes with cold indifference that anyone else taking that blow would have ended up bedridden for a month. In the bleachers, the watching students stare in stunned silence, barely able to process Rhode catching the fist. Trying to rationalize the situation, one student delusionally claims Kaya was just holding back out of kindness. Ignoring the crowd's chatter, Kaya flares his purple aura once more, preparing his next stance. He screams with rage, unleashing the rapid-fire Crusher Chain Fist technique. A relentless barrage of heavy punches rains down toward Rhode at absurd speeds. Standing unbothered amidst the flurry of blows, Rhode calmly assesses whether Kaya can survive a real hit. Winding back his arm, Rhode gathers immense pressure and aura around his own fist. He unleashes a single counterstrike, sending a massive shockwave roaring across the stage. Peering through the blinding light with a cold blue eye, Rhode contemplates cranking up his strength a bit more. Still completely oblivious to Rhode's dominant power, the delusional students continue cheering for Kaya, shout at the top of their lungs, recklessly begging Kaya to tear his arrogant opponent to pieces. With a calm tap of his bare foot against the wooden floor, Rhode effortlessly grounds his stance. Brushing off his uniform with a bored look, Rhode casually asks if that pathetic barrage was really all Kaya had to offer. Kaya stares back in sheer disbelief, his mind reeling as he struggles to comprehend how Rhode is standing unscathed. Kaya's panic deepens, realizing that the Crusher Iron Fist technique he honed for years failed to inflict a single scratch. Cocking his fist back, Rhode coldly warns Kaya that since he had his turn throwing punches, it is now his turn to strike. Off to the side, the anxious girl covers her face in dread, praying nervously as Rhode prepares to counterattack. Looking down at his opponent, Rhode inwardly notes that while he preferred keeping a low profile, winning the Tear of the Dead leaves him no choice. In a split second, Rhode moves with blinding speed, cutting through the air with lethal precision. Emanating a terrifying aura with glowing eyes, Rhode rears back a monstrous punch right above Kaya. Kaya's eyes dilate in utter horror as the devastating strike comes crashing down towards his face. The impact detonates across the arena floor, generating a massive, blinding shockwave that tears through the air. The monstrous momentum drives Kaya downward, obliterating any chance of defense. With a violent crash, Kaya is slammed hard into the wooden floor, shattering the boards beneath him. Blood splatters as Kaya lies motionless on the ground, his blank eyes reflecting total defeat. The blonde girl gasps in utter shock, unable to believe that the supposed useless waste defeated Kaya. Observing the outcome, the dark-haired student realizes with a scowl that Rhode's strength in the tavern wasn't mere luck. Panicking for her fallen hero, the blonde girl desperately calls out to see if Kaya is still alive. She turns angrily to Rhode, screaming at him for striking so hard during what was supposed to be a simple spar. Other students join in, pointing fingers and shouting that Rhode intentionally humiliated Kaya despite taking no damage. Refusing to accept reality, another student yells that Kaya would never lose if this had been a real life-or-death fight. Hostile crowd turns on Rhode, furiously demanding that he apologize to Kaya immediately. They hurl bitter insults, shouting that he lacks noble decency and was rightfully cast out by his family. Looking at the crowd with cold reflection, Rhode muses that in his past life, he would have summoned an undead legion to wipe these fools out. Suddenly, the silver-haired girl screams at the top of her lungs, ordering the unruly crowd to shut up. Her sudden outburst stuns the entire arena, leaving all the surrounding students staring at her in silent shock. Rhode silently observes the unfolding situation with a calm, unbothered expression. Eleanor aggressively points forward, demanding to know who they think they are to judge young Master Rhode. She reminds the crowd of the devastating impact that would have occurred had Kaya's deadly crusher iron fist actually landed. Turning her anger toward the audience, she boldly tells them that if they are weak, they shouldn't come out and embarrass themselves. The surrounding students stand completely stunned and confused, wondering why Miss Eleanor is fiercely defending someone they considered a waste. Without hesitation, Eleanor reaches out and firmly grabs hold of Rhode's hand. She turns around to lead him away, telling Rhode not to waste any more time dealing with these people. From across the hallway, defeated onlookers watch in anger as Rhode and Eleanor walk toward the sunlit exit. Gritting his teeth in the shadows, the defeated rival seethes with intense hatred, cursing Rhode's name. Meanwhile, a red-haired woman with glasses quietly spectates the scene from the shadows of the arena. She smirks to herself, realizing that her initial suspicions about Rhode were completely correct. Fascinated by what she witnessed, she acknowledges that the boy's true power far exceeds her original expectations. She decides that it might finally be time to introduce this extraordinary youngster to the old professor. Later, inside a sunlit, elegant hallway, Eleanor turns back and asks Rhode if her actions were okay. Rhode points out that House Ashblade is on good terms with Kaya's faction, asking if her outburst might harm their political ties. Eleanor dismisses his concern with a scoff, stating that she never liked that arrogant brat or his family anyway. Looking at Rhode with absolute loyalty, she firmly asserts that House Ashblade now stands completely behind him. She assures him that if he doesn't like Kaya's family, House Ashblade is more than willing to cut all ties with them. Rhode glances at her calmly, questioning if she is truly certain about taking such a drastic step. Eleanor smiles brightly, explaining that since Rhode cured her grandfather and restored his strength, they no longer fear any trouble from rival factions. Rhode then pulls out a crystal emitting a dense dark mana aura, taking Eleanor by surprise as he requests a favor from her family. He warns her that someone has been plotting using dark mana and asks House Ashblade to secretly investigate the matter. Eleanor enthusiastically agrees, declaring that the entire force of House Ashblade is entirely at his disposal. Meanwhile, in Kaya's dark, gloomy room, the defeated fighter sits alone in a chair, covered in bandages. Desperate to avenge his humiliating defeat, Kaya contacts a magical communication device and cries out to his brother for help. Fuming with rage, Kaya grips his seat in pain and screams that the useless trash from House Morris thoroughly humiliated him right in front of Miss Eleanor. His eye gleams with pure venom beneath his bangs as he adds that Eleanor even seems unnaturally close to the brat. Desperate for retribution, he screams into the communicator that their noble family can never allow such a disgrace to stand. Within the dark magical crest, his brother quietly listens to the outburst and acknowledges his words. The shadowy figure promises to send Mr. Rennie, who happens to be passing through the area, to handle the situation. A terrifying crimson light glints from the dark silhouette, signaling a deadly arrangement. Kaya's eyes widen in shock as he asks if he means the legendary assassin known throughout the Empire as Direwolf. Upon hearing his brother confirm the killer's identity, a psychotic smirk spreads across Kaya's face. He cackles in wicked delight, confident that with Direwolf taking the contract, Rhode will vanish from the world without leaving a single trace. Meanwhile, a door slides open inside the sunlit quarters of the academy. Rhode enters the office and addresses Miss Margaret, who stands looking out the tall window. Turning with a sly smile and gleaming eyes, Margaret admits that Rhode's performance in combat today truly blew her mind. She secretly confirms her suspicion that Rhode was indeed the one who defeated the revived ancient knight. Rhode modestly waves off her praise with a calm smile, explaining he had to give his absolute all just to obtain the Tear of the Dead. Margaret reveals that the item he seeks is currently in the hands of an old professor residing at the academy. She instructs him to come along, confident that an exceptionally talented student like him will catch the old man's interest. Heels and boots clatter against the sleek floor as Margaret leads Rhode through the academy's grand hallway. Walking ahead, she cautions him that the professor has quite a nasty temper that he needs to prepare for. They soon step inside the quiet, potion-filled chambers of the Magic Research Institute. Deep inside the lab, Professor Gustav carefully stirs a vessel filled with glowing green liquid using a delicate rod. When Margaret attempts to introduce Rhode, Professor Gustav angrily shouts at them not to interrupt his experiment. Unbothered by his outburst, Margaret gestures toward the professor's back, confirming he is the one holding the Tear of the Dead. She warns Rhode that the old scholar is quite eccentric and getting the artifact is entirely up to him, to which Rhode politely thanks her. Observing the glowing magic circle on the table, Rhode spots a dead black cat, bathed in light, and realizes the professor is studying forbidden resurrection magic. Droplets of luminescent green essence float softly in the air as the strange magic continues to surge. The professor pours a glowing green potion directly onto the black cat lying atop the illuminated magic circle. An eye wide with focus reflects the vibrant green light radiating from the ritual table. Suddenly, the spell destabilizes, unleashing a violent burst of green lightning and shockwaves across the room. Margaret cries out in alarm for the professor as the violent magic surges out of control. Professor Gustav grips his desk in disbelief, frantically questioning how the experiment could go wrong. Clenching his fists over his ancient texts, he despairs over why the life energy failed to stabilize the fragile soul fragments. Margaret watches silently, reflecting on how obsessed Professor Gustav has become with resurrection magic lately. She notes to herself that despite his high-level soul domain research, he has failed to make any real breakthrough. From above, Rhode observes the chaotic scene, realizing that this world's grasp on soul magic is far too superficial. Stepping into the room, he ponders how thousands of years of Archmage history failed to yield even a single necromancer. Sweating nervously, Gustav stares at his beaker, wondering if he simply botched the dosage. Desperate for results, he splashes even more glowing life energy directly onto the feline corpse. The overloaded magic circle erupts with blinding green tendrils of unstable energy. A massive explosion shatters the cathedral's stained glass windows, spewing green smoke into the sky. Standing calmly amidst the debris, Rhode silently critiques the absurdity of using life energy to anchor a deceased soul. He compares it to trying to set ice on fire, realizing the opposing energies cancel each other out entirely. Enraged and covered in soot, Gustav shouts in fury, insisting he followed the ancient texts precisely. Desperately staring down at his book, the professor obsessively wonders where his execution faltered. Rhode breaks the silence, calmly advising the professor to stop using potions filled with life energy. Gustav snaps his gaze toward Rhode, recognizing him as the youngster Margaret brought along. He harshly scolds Rhode, declaring that high recommendations don't give him permission to speak out of line. Leaning in with disdain, Gustav dismisses Rhode for attempting to lecture him without having studied basic soul theory. Turning back to his work, the old mage demands Rhode leave immediately and stop wasting his precious time. Unbothered by the hostility, Rhode coolly reminds the professor that the life force of the subject has already vanished. Crossing his arms, Rhode delivers the brutal reality. Pumping life energy into a corpse isn't power. It's pure poison. He calmly adds that no matter how many times the professor attempts this flawed method, the outcome will remain unchanged. Outraged by the disrespect, the old professor furiously thrusts forward a flask of glowing green liquid, insisting it's precious life spring water fetched from the ancient forest. Tightening his grip on the vial, the professor roars that a single sip could fully restore a mortally wounded person, furious that anyone would dare call it poison. Remaining entirely unfazed, Rhode urges the professor to accept the subject's death as fact and view souls through the perspective of the undead. Rhode offers a bold suggestion, advising the scholar to modify the magic formation by adding aged grave soil instead. Deep down, Rhode knows that in this world, no mortal possesses a deeper understanding of death than he does. Terrified by Rhode's audacity, the female assistant whispers angrily, berating him for recklessly contradicting the professor. However, Rhode's strange suggestion echoes in the professor's mind, causing the old scholar to freeze in deep thought. Deciding to test the theory, The professor carefully pours aged grave soil directly onto the magic circle beneath the deceased cat. To everyone's astonishment, green magic suddenly surges from the circle, floating the cat's limp body into the air. The professor's eyes widen with intense manic excitement as he wonders if his lifelong research is finally about to succeed. Beside him, the assistant gasps in disbelief, unable to process the magical phenomenon unfolding right before her eyes. Rhode quietly notes that while grave soil might work for a fresh corpse, this cat's soul has been dead for far too long. Knowing its soul has long since scattered, Rhode realizes that relying on mere materials won't be enough. Only his true power can call it back. Stepping forward, Rhode releases his suppressed power, his eyes glowing intensely as aura erupts around him. Channeling his ultimate authority over death, Rhode locks his gaze on the floating vessel, preparing to command the wandering soul. Crackles of spectral lightning burst through the room as Rhode issues an absolute decree as the undead monarch. Brilliant green arcs of magical force slam into the floating feline, violently forcing the soul to return into its vessel. Instantly, the cat's eye snaps open, blazing with vibrant green magical light as life returns to its body. Revived black cat lands gracefully while letting out a soft meow, as Rhode notes that the recalled soul will only last for 7 days at most. Staring at the walking miracle, both the professor and his assistant stand frozen in absolute shock. Overwhelmed with excitement, the professor suddenly grabs Rhode by the shoulders, frantically shaking him while asking who he is and where he learned such incredible theory. The assistant quickly steps in with a smile, formally introducing him as Rhode Morris, the student she mentioned earlier. Grasping Rhode tightly, the ecstatic professor declares that Rhode has accomplished far more than just making his life's resurrection research work. With wide, admiring eyes, the professor praises Rhode, proclaiming that he has completely overturned a core tenet of Archmage doctrine and proven himself a true genius. Margaret gasps in sheer shock, unable to believe the professor holds a simple student in such exceptionally high regard. Overjoyed, the professor enthusiastically grabs Rhode's arm, begging to learn what other revolutionary insights he possesses beyond traditional magic theory. Rhode remains calm and modest, claiming he simply views the nature of the undead from a slightly different perspective. Suddenly remembering, the professor brings up the legendary item Rhode originally came seeking, the Tear of the Dead. He produces the precious artifact right in front of Rhode, revealing the glowing magical pendant. Dangling the coveted item, the professor offers to hand it over immediately on one condition. He directly asks Rhode to become his official assistant, offering the artifact as guaranteed compensation. Sweetens the deal, promising to secure not only the Tear of the Dead, but any rare magical materials Rhode might ever need. Passionate about conquering the uncharted realm of resurrection magic, the professor envisions them rewriting the history of archmages together. Rhode quickly realizes the immense value of this proposal, delighted by the prospect of gaining unrestricted access to ultra-rare ingredients. Outraged by the decision, Margaret interrupts, protesting that a mere freshman shouldn't receive such a privileged position. Without hesitation, the professor snaps back at Margaret, scolding her for failing to recognize true genius. Fuming with frustration at the old man's stubbornness, Margaret can only glare in angry disbelief. Polishing his demeanor, Rhode politely bows and accepts the offer, expressing it would be an honor to work together. Internally, Rhode smirks, knowing an official title and private laboratory will make his future plans significantly easier. The professor hands over an ornate golden key, granting Rhode full, unlimited access to the laboratory. Looking over the magnificent research facility, the key serves as official proof of Rhode's elevated status on campus. Surrounded by magical alchemical tools, the professor formally appoints Rhode as his chief assistant. Margaret's mind boggles as she realizes her former student has instantly become her equal colleague. She is left completely bewildered, wondering how the situation escalated so ridiculously fast. 2 days later, at the brightly lit Crystal Tavern under the night sky, nobleman calmly savors a glass of fine red wine in a private room. An attendant interrupts to announce that the guest young Master Kaya has been waiting for has finally arrived. The heavy doors swing open, allowing an intimidating, shadowy guest to step inside the room. The visitor is revealed to be assassin Rennie, smoking a cigarette with a dangerous, menacing look in his eyes. Young Master Kaya eagerly welcomes the assassin, showering him with praise over his legendary reputation as the direwolf. Taking a drag from his cigarette, Rennie cold shoulders the young noble and tells him to skip the empty flattery. He bluntly adds that he only bothered coming to this barren northern region out of respect for Kaya's older brother. Tired of wasting time, Rennie demands that the boy immediately spit out whatever favor he came to request. Kaya fumes with internal rage over the assassin's disrespect, struggling to keep his furious grimace hidden. Putting on a fake customer service smile, Kaya presents a heavy sack of gold alongside the target's dossier. He explains that this is just the down payment, promising an additional 3,000 gold coins once the job is finished. Handing over the papers, Kaya identifies the target as Rhode Morris, a worthless student from a fallen noble house attending the Magic Academy. Rennie laughs out loud in disbelief, asking if he heard correctly that he's being hired to hunt a mere student. Scoffs at the idea that the heir of House Shadowthorn is using a high-level assassin just to execute a poor, backwater kid. With a chilling glare, Rennie strictly warns young Master Kaya that he has zero interest in participating in child's play. He smirks contemptuously, declaring that a weak student isn't even worthy of dirtying his professional hands. Panicking, Kaya quickly interjects that Rhode has gotten close to the Ashblade heiress, emphasizing that this is also his brother's direct order. Hearing the name of House Ashblade instantly catches Rennie's attention, causing his crimson eyes to gleam with intrigue. Flipping the coin pouch into the air, Rennie agrees to accept Lord Bruce's order, but demands 5,000 gold coins as his final payout. Kaya enthusiastically agrees to the price hike, desperate to see Rhode eliminated no matter the cost. As Rennie turns to leave, Kaya insists that the hit must be clean so no one can trace the assassination back to the Shadowthorn family. Heading toward the exit, Rennie casually reassures him that professional assassins stick to a code and never rat out their clients. Adjusting his collar, Rennie leaves with a sinister grin, reminding him that a master killer like himself never fails. Back inside, Kaya lets out a twisted, vengeful smirk, confident that tonight will be Rhode's last after the humiliation he suffered. High above the dark cityscape, a masked figure crouches on a rooftop gargoyle, keeping watch over the streets below. Adjusting his demonic face mask, Rennie reviews the movement patterns recorded in Kaya's intelligence report. Peering down from the high ledge into the quiet alley, he confirms that Rhode regularly walks down this exact path. Moments later, Rhode walks casually into the illuminated courtyard below, completely unaware of the massive bounty on his life. Strolling home peacefully under the night sky, Rhode chuckles to himself while reflecting on how energetic old Professor Gustav is. Rhode mentally complains about how the professor kept him so busy with resurrection magic research that he didn't even have time to use the Tear of the Dead on Bladesea. High above on a nearby rooftop, a dark silhouette lurks in the shadows, watching Rhode from the night sky. Rhode senses the malicious presence immediately and notes that trouble has officially arrived. He evaluates the intruder, recognizing him as an arrogant assassin who doesn't even bother masking his blatant killing intent. Sizing up the enemy's aura, Rhode realizes the assassin is at least a peak beginner archmage, far too powerful to be a local from this northern backwater. Rather than running, Rhode casually turns his footsteps toward an isolated spot. He leads his pursuer directly into a deserted courtyard surrounded by high walls. With complete certainty, Rhode confirms that he is indeed the assassin's intended target. He ponders if this hitman was dispatched by the mysterious figure whose magic formation he destroyed back in the monster forest. Deciding not to waste time guessing, Rhode stretches nonchalantly, planning to demand the answer straight from the attacker. Masked assassin smirks beneath his visor, mocking Rhode for choosing such a perfect, isolated spot to meet his demise. Unmoved by the taunts, Rhode locks his icy glare directly onto his attacker. The killer's single exposed red eye twitches, irritated by the boy's absolute lack of fear. Enraged by Rhode's condescending look, the assassin dives headfirst from the rooftop at frightening speed. Screaming in fury, the attacker unleashes a murderous strike intended to kill Rhode instantly. Dark purple energy envelopes his blade as he executes a deadly lethal technique. Activating his signature skill, Shadow Assassination, the assassin lunges forward to deliver a swift execution. Lethal blade strikes down toward Rhode's neck with terrifying force. A violent shockwave reverberates through the courtyard upon impact. As blood drips onto the cobblestones, Rhode manifests behind the attacker like a phantom, coldly demanding to know who sent him. Exuding an overwhelming aura, Rhode casually catches the bloody weapon barehanded. The assassin's eyes widen in sheer terror as his mind fails to comprehend what just happened. Known as the Dire Wolf, he panics, unable to accept that a mere kid blocked his ultimate shadow assassination barehanded. With supreme composure, Rhode flicks the dangerous blade aside. Forced to leap backward, the famed killer lands crouched on the pavement, trembling in shock before his target. Terrified by Rhode's raw power, the assassin realizes with horror that he might be facing an intermediate archmage. Realizing he is completely outmatched, the hitman decides that escaping immediately is his only option. He melts into a pool of dark shadow on the pavement, attempting to submerge and vanish. The dark shadow speeds across the ground at incredible velocity, trying to put distance between himself and Rhode. Watching coldly, Rhode notes that if the hitman refuses to talk, he has plenty of other ways to extract information. Chilling blue mana surges down the dark alleyway, effortlessly giving chase to the fleeing shadow. Before the shadow can escape, a ghostly armored knight manifests out of thin air, completely cutting off his path. Assassin recoils in utter shock as a terrifying, spectral skeletal figure suddenly looms over him. As the shadow tries to dart around the blindfolded spectral entity, the warrior stands completely unbothered. With a swift strike, the spectral knight drags the assassin out of the dark, causing him to scream in agony. Holding the defeated hitman suspended at blade point, the spectral guard coldly asks if he is finally ready to speak. Spitting blood, the captured assassin screams out threats, warning that his powerful backers will hunt Rhode down. Seeing that the hitman still refuses to cooperate, Rhode decides he is done wasting time with empty words. He reaches out a hand overflowing with blue spectral mana directly over the assassin's head. Activating his necromancy art, Memory Echo, Rhode forcefully invades the hitman's mind to read his memories directly. A memory surges forth, showing a noble offering thousands of gold coins on his brother's orders to guarantee Rhode's death. Rhode quickly pieces together the truth, realizing that Kaya from House Shadowthorn sent this assassin to eliminate him. With eyes glowing with murderous intent, Rhode coldly declares that House Shadowthorn has signed their own death warrant. Sweating profusely in absolute horror, the trembling hitman stammers out one last desperate threat about Lord Bruce. Unshaken, Rhode ominously promises that House Shadowthorn will soon be completely erased from this world. With a sinister grin, Rhode adds that the assassin's high-level soul will serve as a rare feast for his servants. Colossal skeletal beast erupts into existence behind Rhode, towering over the alley with glowing eyes. The hitman screams in sheer terror as the gigantic creature opens its sharp, jagged jaws wide above him. Trapped in utter despair, the assassin pitifully begs the monster not to come any closer. With a swift toss, the giant undead monster hurls the helpless assassin into the air and swallows him whole. Even though Rhode successfully eliminated the assassin sent after him, he reminded himself that House Shadowthorn remained a dominant power across the 7 cities of the north. Realizing the immense backing behind his enemies, Rhode knew he couldn't afford to act rashly and decided to bide his time until the right moment. Meanwhile, over at the Crystal Tavern, Kaya was lounging comfortably on a sofa, chugging down expensive wine amidst empty bottles. Assuming the assassin Rennie had already taken care of Rhode, Kaya arrogantly gloated, convinced that his rival would never dare cross him again. Intoxicated by his premature triumph, he ordered his servant to send out invitations to all of their academy classmates in his name. Kaya announced that he would host a grand victory celebration the following day, prompting his obedient servant to comply without hesitation. The very next day, formal invitations bearing Kaya's seal were delivered across the academy grounds. Reading the letter, Eleanor wondered what scheme Kaya was up to this time to suddenly throw such a lavish banquet out of nowhere. Spotting Rhode walking by silently down the corridor, her attention immediately shifted toward him. She called out to him with a bright smile, eager to catch his attention. Rhode noticed her concerned expression and asked if her troubled mood was caused by the document in her hand. Eleanor held up the envelope and explained that Kaya had sent banquet invitations to every student without any clear explanation. Hearing about the banquet invitation, Rhode pondered it quietly, while Eleanor made it clear how much she despised Kaya and had no desire to attend. Rhode encouraged her to go anyway, hinting with a knowing smirk that he already understood the true reason behind Kaya's party. Eleanor pointed out that Rhode hadn't received an invitation himself, but Rhode casually dismissed it, stating it was completely expected. Fused, Eleanor jogged behind him and asked if Kaya excluded him simply because Rhode had beaten him up previously. She scoffed at Kaya's pettiness, amazed that he would hold such a childish grudge. That evening, the grand banquet hall was brightly illuminated as guests began arriving in luxurious carriages. At the entrance, a stern doorman strictly demanded invitations from everyone seeking entry. Presenting her card, Eleanor introduced herself as Eleanor Ashblade and firmly announced that Rhode was attending as her +1. The guard hesitated upon seeing Rhode, unsure whether he should let the uninvited student enter. Before he could reject them, another servant quickly leaned in and whispered urgent instructions into the guard's ear. Realizing who they were dealing with, the guard immediately changed his tune and welcomed both Eleanor and her guest inside with polite gestures. Rhode thanked Eleanor for getting him through the doors, while she awkwardly apologized for the slight delay. Stepping through the cracked wooden doors, they were greeted by the warm golden light radiating from the lively banquet hall. While adjusting his formal attire in the mirror, young Master Kaya inquired if Rennie had returned, only to be told by his servant that the man never came back last night. His servant hesitantly brought up the terrifying possibility that the hired assassin might have actually failed his mission. Refusing to entertain such a thought, Kaya flew into a rage, screaming that a renowned imperial assassin could never lose to anyone. Convinced that his plan went smoothly, he angrily ordered his staff to prepare the final payment, expecting Rennie to arrive at any second. The servant quickly agreed to his orders, while Kaya tightly clenched his fist in anticipation. Meanwhile, the opulent banquet hall was buzzing with excitement, filled with noble guests enjoying the luxurious gathering. Kaya smirked to himself, gloating that, with Rhode out of the picture, no one could stop him from claiming Miss Eleanor. He envisioned the ultimate prize, confident that House Ashblade's entire fortune would soon belong to House Shadowthorn. Among the crowd, two noblewomen chatted over wine, wondering why Kaya had suddenly hosted such an extravagant event. Companion assumed that something incredible must have occurred for him to celebrate so lavishly. At that moment, Eleanor in her elegant blue gown felt a presence approaching her from behind. Kaya narrowed his eyes on her, stepping forward with his usual arrogant composure. With a charming smile, he approached Eleanor and offered to share a drink with her. Without giving it a second thought, Eleanor rejected his invitation with a cold, disgusted expression. Just as Kaya tried to press further, a dark silhouette materialized behind him, offering to take the drink instead. Hearing that familiar tone, Kaya's eyes dilated in pure disbelief as dread washed over him. Rhode stared down at him with a chilling smirk, casually asking what he thought of the offer. Overwhelmed by horror, Kaya stumbled backward and crashed onto a table, sending wine bottles clattering to the floor. Terrified out of his mind, he pointed a trembling finger at Rhode, screaming in panic whether he was human or a ghost. Rhode calmly stepped closer, asking him what he honestly believed. Sweating profusely, Kaya stammered in denial, frantically demanding to know what happened to Rennie. Rhode touched his chin thoughtfully, asking if he meant the pathetic assassin who attempted to ambush him on the road. With a sharp clank, Rhode tossed a pair of shattered blades onto the floor right at Kaya's feet. Kaya gasped in utter horror, instantly recognizing the broken pieces as Rennie's signature weapons. Staring at the ruined steel, the terrifying reality finally sank in that his elite assassin had been completely annihilated. Kaya shrieks out in complete panic, demanding to know what Rhode could have possibly done to his unstoppable assassin. Looming before them like a true nightmare, Rhode stands shrouded in a dark aura with piercing blue eyes. Eleanor immediately connects the dots, recognizing the name Lenny as the infamous assassin known as the Fierce Wolf. Turning her cold gaze toward Kaya, Eleanor demands to know why he has ties to such a notorious killer. Terrified of the exposure, Kaya frantically waves his arms, desperately claiming that it is all just a big misunderstanding. Eleanor looks down at him with sheer disdain, asking if he honestly expects her to believe he didn't send Lenny to murder Rhode. Eyes burn with intense rage as she scolds him, disgusted that he could ever stoop to such a cowardly level. Reaching out in desperation, Kaya stammers to clear his name, attempting to shift the blame back onto Rhode. Refusing to hear another word, Eleanor snaps back in fury and shuts him down immediately. Crossing her arms, she coldly states that she has zero interest in listening to his pathetic excuses. She sees right through his scheme, pointing out that this sudden party was only hosted to celebrate Rhode's expected death. With a shadowed glance, Eleanor reveals that she has already conferred directly with her grandfather. She delivers a devastating blow, declaring an absolute break in all ties between the Ashblade and Shadowthorn families. Kaya grits his teeth in pure rage, furiously cursing Rhode for ruining his family's position in a single evening. Turning her back on the disgraced heir, Eleanor calmly invites Rhode to leave the banquet hall with her. The surrounding guests gasp in total shock, stunned that the Grand Ashblade family would cut ties over someone like Rhode. Overwhelmed by the drama, the young noblewoman urgently asks Claire who Rhode really is. Looking on with distant eyes, Claire quietly admits that he no longer feels like the Rhode she used to know. Outside under the night sky, Eleanor and Rhode descend the grand courtyard steps together. Still fuming over Kaya's audacity, Eleanor angrily vents about how shameless it was to send a deadly assassin. She praises Rhode's terrifying strength, mocking the foolish nobles who fail to comprehend his true power. Rhode notes calmly that an elite assassin like Lenny was far too skilled for an incompetent fool like Kaya to command alone. Catching his drift, Eleanor realizes in shock that Kaya's entire family must have orchestrated the hit. Looking up at the estate, Rhode explains that the Shadowthorns were likely targeting her family as well, but his unexpected strength ruined their grand plot. Smirking with intense confidence, Eleanor scoffs at their rival family's foolish attempt to seize their assets while her grandfather was recovering. Eleanor leans in with a bright smile, expressing her deep gratitude as she reveals her grandfather hasn't just recovered thanks to Rhode, but has actually grown far stronger than before. With absolute devotion in her eyes, she pledges that her family will gladly execute whatever command Rhode gives them from this moment on. Rhode listens silently, his sharp mind immediately shifting to how he can leverage this newly secured allegiance. His eyes ignite with an ominous blue light, filled with ruthless determination as he decides to put their loyalty to the test. Without a single hint of hesitation, Rhode issues a cold directive, ordering them to utterly eradicate the Shadowthorn family. Meanwhile, the scene shifts under the cover of night to the imposing exterior of the Shadowthorn family estate. Deep inside the mansion, a shadowed noble holding a glowing communication crest sternly demands to know what news has come in. The voice over the emblem grimly reports that Lenny's stealth assassination attempt turned out to be a complete failure. The caller explains that Lenny went completely dark, while Rhode showed up completely unharmed at the banquet, confirming Rhode eliminated their hitman. Outraged by the report, the noble fumes that it should be impossible for anyone, even a master mage, to survive an attack from a killer he personally selected. Panicking on his bed, the noble screams into the device, revealing that their failure has driven the powerful Ashblades to sever all alliances with them. Clutching his head in pure desperation, he curses Rhode for completely obliterating their carefully crafted schemes. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the brother on the other side of the magical device sternly announces that he will return home right away. Hearing this unexpected commitment, the noble's eye widens in sheer disbelief. He springs upward frantically, clutching the glowing artifact close as he asks if his formidable brother is truly returning. A sinister smile instantly spreads across his face as he realizes the tide of power is about to turn back in their favor. Overwhelmed with newfound malicious confidence, he declares that Rhode is as good as dead once his brother arrives. 2 days pass, shifting the focus to the sunlit towers of the Academy's research facility. Inside the quiet laboratory, Rhode ponders why Kia and the Ashblade faction have remained entirely silent despite the recent chaos. Knowing his rival's arrogant nature, Rhode senses that Kia isn't one to swallow defeat quietly and wonders what move he is secretly plotting. Interrupting his train of thought, the old professor turns around holding a massive tome, greeting Rhode and his assistant with a warm smile. Without delay, the professor instructs both of his students to prepare themselves for an immediate departure. When the red-haired assistant inquires about their destination, the professor explains that his recent research breakthroughs have completely depleted their supply of rare reagents. Stuffing his essentials into a travel pouch, the professor clarifies that they need to replenish their stock at the magic market. As Rhode questions the name, the assistant turns to explain that the magic market is a prestigious trading hub for high-grade artifacts that strictly denies entry to anyone lacking sufficient status or power. The assistant grins, reminding Rhode that since he is now the professor's assistant, he naturally gets to tag along. She enthusiastically encourages him to take this trip as a prime opportunity to broaden his horizons. Rhode silently considers her words, intrigued because a place like this in the north was never mentioned in his past life. Soon, their horse-drawn carriage thunders along the stone path towards their destination. They arrive at the magnificent city of Nate, the bustling commercial crossroads where wandering merchants gather. As they stroll through the crowded stalls, the assistant explains how mages from across the north created this massive magical marketplace. The group approaches a towering, ornate mansion housing the elite trade sector. At the entrance, a bearded attendant turns his head as the distinguished guests step forward. The host warmly greets Professor Gustav with open arms, welcoming him into the high-end establishment. Watching the enthusiastic greeting, Rhode realizes the professor must be a frequent customer here. He begins wondering if he might find the necessary materials to unleash the tear of death for Durand inside. A sharp market manager dressed in a tuxedo bows politely, introducing himself as today's guide. However, the professor brushes off his polite greeting, demanding to bypass the cheap trinkets on display. Sweating nervously, the manager hurriedly promises to lead them directly to the premium selection. He guides them into a dimly lit, high-class vault room, inviting them to make themselves at home. Without hesitation, the professor dismisses the displayed goods, making it clear he has no interest in ordinary wares. He demands materials surging with immense life energy instead. He further specifies the need for items tied to death and soil harvested from ancient graves, which the manager agrees to fetch. Rhode inspects a glowing humerus from a swamp crocodile, rating it as rare but ultimately nothing spectacular. Closing his eyes, Rhode feels disappointed, realizing the market lacks truly groundbreaking artifacts. He knows a genuine artifact should possess enough sheer power to achieve the impossible. It ought to be a treasure so legendary that thousands of men would slaughter one another on a bloody field to claim it. Suddenly, a harsh voice echoes out, accusing the old professor of taking a vital crystal someone else saw first. Arrogant intruder taunts that seeing the item means nothing if it hasn't actually been bought yet. As Rhode inquires about the rude stranger, the assistant reveals him as Professor Ball, who smugly reaches for the crystal Gustav was holding. The shop assistant quickly explains that Ball is a professor from Carroll Magic Research Institute and Gustav's longtime rival, who constantly fights him over rare materials. Looking closely at the glowing green gem inside the container, someone in the room questions if it is truly a genuine vital crystal. Analyzing the item with his keen eyes, Rhode mentally notes that it's actually just a crystalline wind or disguised as a vital crystal by the elves. Aware of Rhode's discovery, Gustav angrily berates Ball, calling him an old vulture who constantly steals whatever catches his eye. Ball smugly scoffs back, claiming market rules operate on first come, first served, and points out Gustav hasn't even paid yet. As Gustav fumes in anger at his rival's arrogant interference, the tension escalates throughout the store. Rhode quietly leans in toward Professor Gustav, whispering that the item on the counter is definitely not a vital crystal. He reassures him that it is nothing more than a cheap crystalline wind or cleverly crafted to look like one. Gustav turns to Rhode in absolute shock, urgently asking if he is completely certain about his assessment. Rhode looks back with calm confidence and confirms that he is entirely sure of his claim. Realizing the truth, Gustav calculates in his mind that the stone isn't worth anywhere near its inflated 3,000 gold coin price tag. A cunning thought crosses Gustav's mind, deciding that if Ball wants it so desperately, he should be allowed to take it. Turning to the store manager, Gustav loudly asks him to clarify who officially owns the item under shop rules. Nervously adjusting his glasses, the manager stammers that according to market policy, the item belongs to whoever pays first. Ball immediately hands over the payment and gloats with a sinister grin that the crystal now officially belongs to him. Instead of getting angry, Gustav suddenly erupts into joyful laughter, declaring that he couldn't be happier with this outcome. Both Ball and the store manager freeze in utter confusion, completely caught off guard by Gustav's unexpected reaction. Ball glares at his rival in deep suspicion, demanding to know what Gustav means by saying he couldn't be happier. Ball begins to panic inside, questioning why anyone would smile after getting robbed blind unless something was terribly wrong. With a subtle, devious smile, Gustav pleasantly responds that he is simply thrilled for Ball's new purchase. He mockingly offers his congratulations on Ball spending a whopping 3,000 gold coins on a piece of basic wind ore. Hearing this, Ball and the manager stand frozen in absolute disbelief at Gustav's shocking revelation. Refusing to accept it, Ball bursts into loud, nervous laughter, accusing Gustav of going mad from research and refusing to admit defeat. He continues laughing hysterically, asking if Gustav honestly believes an expert like him can't tell the difference between wind ore and a vital crystal. Lifting the crystal high in triumph, Ball boasts about its intense glow and the pure life energy surging within it. Ball confidently boasts that this stone is far too valuable to be a simple wind or meant for some low-level wind mage. The anxious shop manager quickly chimes in, pleading with Sir Gustav to stop making such groundless accusations. He strongly defends the shop's reputation, insisting their expert appraisers thoroughly verify every item and confirming it is indeed a premium-grade vital crystal. Gustav remains silent, sweating nervously as he looks back at his young companion. Rhode calmly reassures the professor, doubling down on his claim that the stone in Ball's hand is nothing more than a crystalline wind ore. The manager and Ball freeze in disbelief, their faces darkened by intense irritation at the boy's stubbornness. Glaring with bloodshot eyes, Ball furiously demands to know who this insolent kid thinks he is. The manager snaps, warning Rhode to watch his mouth. He barks that merely accompanying Professor Gustav doesn't give him the right to slander their business. Gustav suddenly roars back, proudly declaring that Rhode is his official assistant. He boasts that even his own expertise pales in comparison to the boy's vast magical knowledge and sharp eye. Gustav fires back, telling Ball that he is the one who needs to watch his tongue. Ball scoffs in amusement, mocking Gustav for going senile by making a mere student his assistant. Challenges Rhode to explain how a simple wind ore could emit such an incredibly intense aura. Ball demands that the boy immediately prove his ridiculous claim right then and there. The glowing green stone sparkles between Ball's fingers as everyone waits for Rhode's explanation. Rhode explains that the strong life aura is actually an elven cloaking spell, a clever illusion designed to make a worthless wind or look like a vital crystal. He points out that they simply need to drain the artificial life energy to expose the entire scam. Rhode then asks the manager if the shop has any ancient grave soil in stock. He explains that the soil will devour the life energy, and just a tiny amount is enough to shatter the illusion. Startled manager confirms they have it, and Rhode calmly orders him to bring it over. Moments later, a bowl filled with dark, ash-like ancient grave soil is brought out. Rhode instructs Ball to drop the crystal into the soil to let the truth reveal itself, daring him to put it to the test. Furious, Ball accepts the challenge but demands a public apology from both Gustav and his genius assistant if the crystal turns out to be real. Without hesitation, Ball drops the glowing green crystal directly onto the dark soil to settle the dispute once and for all. As soon as the stone makes contact with the soil, an overwhelming green glow illuminates the entire room. Seeing the vibrant radiant aura, Ball breaks into a triumphant grin, boasting that the life energy remains as strong as ever. Watching the crystal flare up, Gustav begins to sweat, dreading the humiliation of having to issue a public apology. Concerned for her professor's pride, the red-haired assistant hesitates nervously as she looks toward Rhode. She leans in closer to Rhode, anxiously asking if he is absolutely certain about his bold claim. She warns him that the professor's long-standing pride is at stake and that losing this bet would cause him crushing embarrassment. Maintaining complete composure, Rhode calmly reassures her not to worry about the outcome. With total confidence, the young boy announces that the truth will reveal itself in just 10 seconds. All sneers and mockery at the onlookers, taunting them for being too dull to perceive genuine life energy. He continues to boast arrogantly, declaring that not even the elves could forge a mere wind or into a crystal of such caliber. Suddenly, the store appraiser adjusts his glasses in total shock, realizing something has gone terribly wrong. Before everyone's eyes, the vibrant green glow completely dissipates, leaving behind nothing more than a dull, ordinary rock on the dirt. The red-haired assistant covers her mouth in disbelief as the surrounding crowd gasps, realizing the crystal was an elaborate illusion. Overwhelmed by the revelation, she listens as shocked spectators begin asking who could have possibly appraised such an item. The room erupts into murmurs, with onlookers stunned that someone spent 3,000 gold coins on a useless rock. Onlookers continue to mock the purchase, whispering that the worthless trash isn't even worth a single silver coin. Ball's expression twists into pure, unadulterated rage as the reality of being completely scammed sinks in. Exploding in fury, Ball turns on the terrified store clerks, screaming at them for swindling him with garbage. Seeing his bitter rival humiliated, Gustav breaks out into uncontrollable laughter, asking Ball if he finally understands why he stayed calm. Laughing to the point of tears, the professor thanks Rhode, thoroughly relieved that he wasn't the one who got scammed today. Unable to handle the overwhelming embarrassment, Ball angrily hurls the fake stone to the floor. Glaring back with intense hatred, Ball shouts a desperate threat that they haven't seen the last of him. Casting one final dark and vengeful glance back at the group, Ball vows that this humiliation is far from over. Ignoring the threat completely, Gustav pumps his fist in pure joy, celebrating the first time he's ever seen his old rival lose his cool. Grateful for Rhode's sharp eye, Gustav throws his arm around the boy's shoulder and offers to buy him any material he wants from the shop. Gustav turns a sharp, suspicious gaze toward the shop manager, demanding to know if there are any other counterfeit items hiding in their inventory. Terrified of the legendary professor's wrath, the sweating manager frantically bows and insists that the fake stone was nothing more than an unfortunate mistake. With a cold, dismissive snort, Gustav turns his back on the trembling staff member and begins walking away alongside Rhode. Left behind in a cold sweat, the manager nervously adjusts his glasses, convinced that their flawless scheme shouldn't have had any loopholes. He stares after them in disbelief, deeply unsettled by how a mere kid could possess appraisal skills that completely outclass their own professional staff. Meanwhile, from the shadows of the shop, a mysterious figure clad in a metallic helmet silently watches the duo depart. With eyes glowing a sinister purple, the hidden saboteur realizes that Rhode's discovery will inevitably force the magic market to investigate their entire supply chain. The cloaked conspirator seethes with rage, furious that some random brat had the audacity to disrupt his highly lucrative operations. However, staring at his target, a wicked idea begins to form. He realizes he can exploit the kid's newfound rivalry with Professor Ball to eliminate this nuisance once and for all. Out in the bustling courtyard of the magic market, the crowd goes about their business, completely unaware of the dark plots brewing nearby. Walking through the plaza, a deeply frustrated Professor Ball grinds his teeth, shocked that Gustav managed to acquire an assistant with such an impossibly sharp eye. He clenches his fist in pure rage, devastated by the massive loss of 3,000 gold coins, but far more humiliated that a mere student dared to make a fool of him. The thought of his colleagues at Carroll Academy finding out about this embarrassing defeat fills him with absolute dread, knowing he would become an instant laughingstock. Just as his anger reaches a boiling point, a voice calls out to him, prompting Ball to turn around with a deeply irritated scowl to see who dares interrupt him. A muscular, helmeted man dressed in the market staff attire steps forward, offering a polite but highly suspicious bow. Ball instantly recognizes the uniform, demanding to know if the man is indeed a representative of the magic market. Still seething, the professor snaps that if they want to offer an apology or a refund, they had better bring the actual manager in charge instead of a low-level lackey. Helmeted worker calmly urges the angry professor to lower his voice, claiming that the market is already launching a thorough investigation into the tampered wind crystal. But as the man speaks, a sinister grin spreads across his face, hinting that he has far more valuable information to share. He leans in close and whispers a fabrication, claiming that the appraiser responsible for that section has secretly been meeting with Gustav's new assistant. Bale's eye widens in absolute shock as the sudden revelation catches him completely off guard. Looking down at the informant with intense gravity, the professor asks if this entire incident was actually a calculated setup designed to humiliate and ruin him. The helmeted man quickly raises his hand with a deceitful smile, feigning innocence by claiming he shouldn't speak on mere rumors. He plays the part of a harmless bystander, insisting he is just a simple staff member who happened to overhear this highly sensitive secret. Deep down, the conspirator remains deeply unsettled by Rhode's uncanny perception, realizing the boy saw through the disguise as if he knew the truth from the very start. The mysterious, purple-eyed conspirator ponders how a mere student could possibly see through a disguise that went completely unnoticed by everyone else. His subordinate trembles in fear, bowing deeply and breaking into a cold sweat under the immense pressure of his master's presence. The red-eyed mastermind grins wickedly, agreeing that no ordinary student should have been able to pierce a disguise that fooled veteran appraisers. He deduces that Rhode must have had prior knowledge, concluding that the rigid Gustav must be the one pulling the strings behind this clever trick. Looking up thoughtfully, the mastermind questions what true motive drove his informant to bring him this highly sensitive information. The purple-eyed accomplice smiles, warning that if this secret gets out, it will leave an irreparable stain on their organization's reputation. Staring out into the distance, the mastermind coldly notes that their goals are perfectly aligned. The accomplice smiles widely under his helmet, pleased that they have reached a mutual understanding. As the mastermind walks away through the bustling city streets, he seethes with anger, silently promising to make Gustav and Rhode pay. Clenching his fists in absolute rage, he curses Ball for trapping him, swearing that he will make him pay dearly for this betrayal. Meanwhile, from the deep shadows of the marketplace, a hidden figure quietly observes the surrounding crowd. The purple-eyed conspirator watches from afar, wearing a smug, satisfied smirk as his plans begin to unfold. Back in the vibrant market, Rhode and his companions navigate through the busy stalls, looking for valuable items. Gustav kneels down to examine a collection of stones and artifacts scattered across a merchant's rug while Rhode and the red-haired woman stand by. Holding up a porous, dark stone, Gustav easily identifies it as a dried-up volcanic heart stone that has lost all of its magical power. He then inspects a withered, thorny plant, dismissing it as a degraded nightmare vine that is completely worthless. As Gustav complains about the lack of decent materials, Rhode suddenly senses a strange energy and turns around in surprise. Rhode's gaze is drawn to a massive, dark crystal formation, feeling an incredibly powerful wave of life energy radiating from it. He instantly recognizes the glowing red veins within the rock, realizing it is bloodwood, a rare plant that only grows where extreme elemental forces clash. Rhode's eyes widen in amazement as he realizes that despite being fossilized for years, the material still retains its vibrant life force. He notes that this top-grade auxiliary material is incredibly valuable for stabilizing the soul during advanced life magic research. Just as he is analyzing the bloodwood, another peculiar sensation catches his attention, prompting him to look to the side. He spots a beast skull staff nearby, shocked to find a glowing purple fragment of netherstone ore embedded directly into the bone. Rhode realizes that the skull successfully masked the ore's dark aura, and only his unique senses as a necromancer allowed him to detect it. He quietly rejoices, knowing that this rare mineral is the perfect find to significantly strengthen his necromantic powers. Rhode casually holds up one of the dark stones, playing dumb as he asks the vendor how much they cost, claiming he merely needs them to prop up a table leg in his laboratory. The vendor laughs heartily, explaining that he found them in an abandoned northern graveyard, and that even an appraiser dismissed them as nothing more than ordinary hard stones. Believing they are worthless junk, the vendor offers them for a mere 5 silver coins each, inviting them to take as many as they please. Rhode smiles inwardly at the incredible bargain, immediately offering 50 silver coins to purchase the entire batch. Thrilled to get rid of the useless rocks for such a generous price, the vendor happily agrees to the deal without a second thought. The transaction is quickly finalized as Rhode hands over the pouch of silver coins to seal the purchase. As they prepare to leave, The red-haired professor sighs, assuming their search was a total bust and that they found nothing of value. However, her elderly assistant suddenly presents a piece of wood glowing with a faint blue light, noting that this bloodwood contains an incredible amount of life energy perfect for her research. Red-haired professor remains highly skeptical, pointing out that she is well aware of what actual bloodwood is supposed to look like. She flatly dismisses his find, insisting that no matter how he looks at it, the object in his hands is nothing more than a plain old rock. Rhode chimes in to support the old man, calmly explaining that it is indeed genuine bloodwood, only that it has become fossilized over time. Intrigued by Rhode's explanation, the old assistant peers closely at the stone through his glasses, wondering if it truly is fossilized and suggesting they run a quick test. As they activate the stone, it bursts with a brilliant crimson radiance, leaving the elderly assistant completely stunned by the sudden reaction. The red-haired professor gasps in absolute shock as she senses the incredibly powerful life aura radiating from the glowing fossil. The brilliant red glow reflects intensely in the old man's glasses, confirming that Rhode's assessment was entirely correct. Overjoyed by the discovery, the old man holds the glowing bloodwood high, laughing in disbelief that they actually found such a treasure. He marvels at the incredible aura, declaring it to be the exact rare magical material he has been desperately searching for. He can barely contain his excitement, realizing they bought a legendary material worth at least 1,000 gold coins for a measly 5 silver. While the others celebrate their massive stroke of luck, Rhode quietly watches them, satisfied that he secured an even greater prize for himself. Looking down at his hand, Rhode focuses on the glowing purple fragment of netherstone ore embedded within the skull. With his magical energy flaring up, Rhode is confident that this dark mineral will allow him to ascend to an entirely new level of power. Later that night, the scene shifts to a grand, secluded mansion standing quietly under the dark evening sky. Back in his private quarters, Rhode examines the blue and purple crystals in his palm, knowing the netherstone ore is key to finally becoming a beginner mage. He also realizes that by combining this with the tears of the dead, Crown's power can be restored all the way back to the level of an advanced mage. Suddenly, a spectral figure enveloped in a blue ghostly flame kneels before Rhode, respectfully addressing him as his master. Rhode urges the spectral entity to use the floating blue crystal to reclaim his lost strength. Acknowledging his master's order, the spirit firmly clenches his fist as a sudden burst of energy crackles around his arm. Swirling bands of brilliant white light wrap around him, channeling immense power back into his body. Sheer density of the magic creates a massive, swirling blue vortex that completely envelopes him. With a sharp cracking sound, the massive energy shell begins to fracture, releasing a blinding rainbow-colored radiance. The cocoon violently shatters in a spectacular explosion of cosmic purple and white magical force. From the dust, Crown emerges in his true, imposing dark form, respectfully addressing his master once more. Rhode looks on with a satisfied smile, pleased to see that his servant has successfully returned to the level of an advanced mage. Holding up a brilliant purple netherstone, Rhode decides it is finally time to upgrade his own abilities. With a sharp snap, the crystal detonates, releasing a wave of pure magical essence. Rhode stands tall as violent arcs of purple lightning and blue spiritual energy cascade around his body. Utilizing Crown's direct enhancement alongside the potent energy of the netherstone ore, a massive breakthrough begins. With his eyes glowing a brilliant cyan, Rhode easily breaks through his limits to officially become a beginner mage. He reflects on his incredible setup, having an elite advanced mage as his personal bodyguard while he himself rises to a beginner mage. A confident smirk plays on Rhode's lips, knowing this newfound strength grants him far more freedom to make his moves. Meanwhile, outside a grand, towering castle, horses and royal carriages are prepared for a prestigious arrival. A pair of polished black boots steps down onto the stone courtyard, drawing the attention of the surrounding guards. Man is revealed to be Bruce Thornvale, a stern-faced officer wearing a decorated military uniform. His younger brother rushes forward with an ecstatic expression, thrilled to finally welcome him back. Bruce's expression immediately sours as he addresses his brother's pathetic defeat to Rhode in a fair duel. He demands to know if the young lady of the Ignis family, whom his brother was ordered to seduce, has completely severed their ties. Sweating profusely under his brother's intense gaze, the younger sibling can barely find the words to defend himself. He frantically explains that Rhode is a monster who shrugged off their strongest attack, and reveals that Rainey has gone missing. To make matters worse, he warns that the powerful Ignis family is actively severing their lucrative business connections. Bruce's eyes narrow in fury as he wonders how such a formidable threat could have suddenly appeared unnoticed in the northern region. Clenching his gloved fist in a surge of fury, The commander vows that whoever is behind these disruptions will pay with their life for crossing the Thornvale family. With a cold, murderous glare in his glowing blue eyes, he declares that their ultimate goal is not just defeating the Ignis family, but conquering the entire northern region. Turning back toward the shadows of the room, he summons his most lethal subordinate, a man named Rex, who answers with chilling obedience. Emerging into the light is Rex, a stern and imposing first-class assassin renowned for his cold efficiency. The commander proudly introduces Rex as a peak intermediate-level mage and his absolute sharpest weapon. He reveals that Rex possesses the prestigious Blessing of Blue, having once single-handedly slain a rampaging ice giant, and is also the senior disciple of the fallen Rainy. Rex steps forward, his scarred face illuminated as his eyes flare with a terrifying, bright golden aura. Overwhelming pressure radiating from the assassin leaves the nearby subordinate sweating in sheer terror, recognizing him as a ruthless killer who has left mountains of corpses in his wake. With absolute composure, Rex begins spinning his twin daggers with blinding speed, demanding all available information on their target. He explains that although his junior disciple was inexperienced, as his senior, he is bound by duty to exact bloody vengeance. Eager to appease the terrifying assassin, the nervous subordinate quickly confirms that he has already compiled the necessary intelligence. He promptly slams a detailed dossier onto the wooden desk, ready to expose their target's identity. Looking over the documents, the commander is surprised to learn that the target is working as Professor Gustav's assistant, finally discovering who is backing their enemy. Rex notes that Gustav is the highly influential former headmaster of the Seven City Magic Academy, meaning they cannot make a move while the target is inside the academy. Furthermore, because of the previous failed attempt, the target will be highly alert, making an assassination within the city incredibly difficult. Leaning back in his chair, the commander realizes they must devise a way to lure the target out of safety and into their own territory. An evil grin spreads across the subordinate's face as he excitedly suggests inviting the target along with the Ignis family. He explains that since they are in an active conflict, sending an invitation under the guise of offering an apology will make it impossible for the Ignis family to refuse. Clenching his hands together in a sinister gesture, he points out that the head of the Ignis family is currently weakened by illness, making this the perfect opportunity to eliminate them all. As the subordinate gleefully rants about wiping them all out once they are gathered, the commander remains silent, deeply contemplating the ruthless scheme. Finally, a dark expression washes over the commander as he agrees, stating that if they are going to do this, they must be absolutely thorough. Three conspirators stand together in the shadows, their faces obscured by darkness and their eyes glowing with a sinister, red malice as they prepare to strike. With their enemies gathered in one place, they plan to unleash a devastating ambush that will pave the way for their total takeover of the North. Meanwhile, far from the plotting conspirators, the magnificent and peaceful estate of the Ignis family stands under a clear sky. Inside the manor, a young blue-haired woman curiously asks her grandfather what he is holding, to which he grimly reveals that it is an official invitation. Twirling his mustache, the old patriarch reveals that the official invitation is actually a letter from Kaya of the rival Thornvale family. He explains that Kaya is supposedly offering a personal apology, along with a massive 20% of their business as compensation. Eleanor scoffs at the absurd offer, immediately calling out the sender as a hypocrite and warning that it is undoubtedly a trap. Patriarch places his hand firmly over the document, carefully weighing the high-stakes proposal. Agreeing that the business share is merely bait, he instructs Eleanor to seek out Lord Rhode's counsel on the matter. With a sharp look of determination, Eleanor quickly agrees to fetch the young lord. After hearing the news, Rhode stares calmly at a glowing golden emblem, questioning the sincerity of their sudden apology and business offer. He dismisses the entire gesture as nothing more than a pathetic, transparent trick. Instead of avoiding the trap, Rhode decides to seize this perfect opportunity to completely destroy the Thornvale family once and for all. The following day, a grand carriage arrives outside the magnificent estate to transport them to the gathering. A cheerful escort greets Rhode, announcing that he has been sent directly by the family head to guide them. Adjusting his formal attire, Rhode prepares himself for the upcoming banquet where the trap awaits. The old patriarch admits that having Rhode's powerful presence by their side brings him immense reassurance. He notes with satisfaction that the Thornvales are completely unaware that his deadly illness was already cured by Rhode. With a cold glare, he vows to make their enemies deeply regret attempting to exploit his supposed weakness. They soon arrive at the ominous, towering stronghold of the Thornvale family, guarded by masked soldiers with glowing red eyes. A seemingly polite host welcomes them warmly, claiming the banquet was arranged solely to apologize for their past disrespect. Beneath his subservient bow, the host inwardly sneers, anticipating the moment their calm expressions turn to tears of regret. The mastermind gloats in secret, confident that their anti-magic formation and deadly allies will ensure no one leaves this place alive. He schemes to seize the Ignis family and Eleanor for himself once the patriarch is dead, promising to throw Rhode's corpse to the dogs. However, Rhode easily senses the poorly concealed bloodlust, silently mocking the enemy's utter lack of patience. The group is escorted into a cavernous, dimly lit dining hall dominated by a massive banquet table under a grand chandelier. At the far end of the table, a decorated blonde noble welcomes Lord Ignis, offering a formal apology for his younger brother's foolish actions. He smoothly expresses his desire to permanently settle the bitter blood feud between their two noble houses today. As the host cordially invites them to take their seats, Rhode calmly prepares to sit, ready to play along with their deadly game. Scanning the room, Rhode immediately detects an intricate anti-magic formation constructed from high-purity crystals, identifying 7 mana nodes hidden beneath the floor and above the ceiling. Rather than being alarmed by this hidden trap, Rhode finds their blatant attempt on his life highly amusing. Taking his seat with complete composure, Rhode calmly tells a visibly tense Eleanor to relax. Eleanor tries her best to put on a brave face, forcefully smiling despite the cold sweat running down her cheek. Across the table, the host and his blonde companion toast to their apparent victory, while a thick red book sits ominously in the foreground. Swirling his wine, the elderly host inquires about the 20% business share mentioned in the letter. The blonde man laughs boisterously, patting his head in mock friendliness as he plays along with the negotiation. But in an instant, his jovial mask slips, revealing a twisted, malicious grin as he claims he almost forgot the most crucial detail. With a sharp clap of his hands, he signals for the trap to be sprung. A butler steps forward with a tray holding a business transfer agreement, urging Rhode that all that is left is to sign it. Suddenly, the butler's demeanor shifts as he hoists the tray high, revealing his true, murderous intent. Lethal surge of dark lightning erupts from the tray as the butler launches a surprise assassination strike. Bearing a demonic, fanged grin and glowing red eyes, the butler screams that they fell for his trap and demands they die. Yet, the elderly host remains completely unfazed, calmly holding his wine glass as the deadly strike is effortlessly blocked right before him. The butler's face twists in sheer horror as his dark blade is violently deflected by an unseen force. He can barely process the shock, screaming in disbelief that his lethal attack was so easily turned aside. Rising from his seat, the elderly host unleashes a colossal, blazing aura of golden magical energy that completely envelopes his body. Sensing the overwhelming pressure, the blonde man's eyes widen in absolute terror as he realizes the old man possesses the aura of a peak intermediate mage's. Sweating profusely, he stammers in disbelief, unable to comprehend how someone supposed to be on the verge of death could harbor such power. The old man laughs triumphantly, boasting that his deadly illness has been completely cured by a certain benefactor. With a fierce, blazing glare, he declares that he is stronger than ever, mockingly thanking them for finally showing their true colors. Backed into a corner, the blonde man grits his teeth and prepares to fight, revealing his status as an intermediate martial artist alongside his partner, an intermediate assassin. Desperate to regain control, he shouts to his companion Rex, demanding they finish their targets off once and for all. Instantly, the dining hall erupts into chaos as massive pillars of opposing magical energy clash violently. A fierce battle commences as the assassins leap forward, only to be met by the overwhelming, radiant force of the old man's golden aura. The old man grins, completely unfazed by the assassin's sudden charge. Enveloped in brilliant golden flames, he declares that he will teach these arrogant, inexperienced brats a lesson. But suddenly, a massive purple magic circle manifests overhead, casting an ominous glow that reflects directly in his startled eyes. To his horror, he realizes it is an anti-magic formation, completely shutting down his ability to gather any mana. Traitorous noble sneers maliciously, boasting that their immense effort in preparing this anti-magic trap was well worth the result. With a crazed grin, he declares his intention to seize control of the Ignis family and demands that the old patriarch die quietly. Seeing her grandfather in immediate danger, Eleanor screams out in sheer panic and desperation. Even without his mana, the old patriarch manages to dodge the assassin's swift blade, prompting a mockingly impressed comment from his foe. Knowing he cannot hold out forever, he desperately commands Eleanor to take Lord Rhode and escape immediately. Eleanor clutches her rapier tightly, her heart breaking as she hesitates to leave her grandfather behind. Tears streaming down her face, she turns to Rhode and begs him to flee while she stays to hold back the enemy. She resolves to share the grim fate of her grandfather and the Ignis family, refusing to run away. Before she can throw her life away, a hand gently reaches out and stops her blade in its tracks. Rhode calmly steps in front of her, instructing the shocked young lady to stand back. Eleanor frantically warns him that the anti-magic formation is active, meaning even he won't be able to cast spells. She pleads with him not to go this far for their sake and urges him to save himself. Ignoring her warnings, Rhode glares coldly at the scarred butler assassin, asking if he was the one responsible for Rainey's death. Instead of answering, the assassin unleashes a lethal red energy slash directly at Rhode. The sadistic grin, the assassin screams at Rhode to pay for his insolence with his life. A blinding flash erupts as the deadly strike is suddenly met with an impenetrable defense. The assassin recoils in utter shock, unable to comprehend how a mere beginner mage could block his attack. But his shock turns to absolute terror as a colossal, dark armored spirit manifests behind Rhode. The summoned entity's eyes glow with a deadly light as it declares that anyone who points a blade at its master must perish. The elite assassin realizes with horror that this summoned beast moves at a speed far exceeding his own. Frozen in dread, he comes to the grim realization that there is absolutely no way he can dodge the impending strike. A flash of purple lightning, the summoned knight delivers a devastating diagonal slash, tearing through the assassin's defense and drawing a spray of blood. The sheer impact of the strike hurls the assassin backward, sending him spinning through the air in a trail of blood. Watching the scene unfold, the silver-haired young master is mildly surprised to find that his opponent has somehow survived the lethal blow. As blood drips heavily onto the cold tiled floor, the wounded assassin realizes with bitter frustration that he must already resort to his final trump card. Coughing up blood, the assassin stands back up as a massive, fiery demonic specter looms behind him, acknowledging that only his divine blessing kept him from instant death. From across the hall, the blonde commander stares in disbelief at the young master standing calmly alongside his formidable summon. Sweat dripping down his face, the commander demands to know how the young master can still use magic when their anti-magic circle should have neutralized anyone below an archmage. The young master merely scoffs, adjusting his glove as he dismisses their understanding of magic as completely inferior. With a confident smirk, he declares that their anti-magic circle is utterly useless against him, as dark energy begins to gather. Massive, glowing purple chains materialize out of thin air, swirling around the young master and filling the chamber with a suffocating pressure. A sinister light gleams in his eye as he reveals the truth. His power is a forbidden magic that does not even originate from this world. The enemies look on in absolute dread as a colossal shadowy beast manifests right beneath the young master's feet. One of the enemy warriors gasps in horror, struggling to comprehend the concept of forbidden magic and the monster standing before them. Refusing to back down, the bloodied assassin erupts with a surge of dark red energy, tearing his clothes as he prepares for a final stand. He fiercely declares that the young master will die here, no matter what trick he used to bypass their magic nullifying barrier. Seizing the initiative, the blonde commander charges forward at high speed, calling upon his ally Lex to join him in a joint attack. Gathering all his strength, the commander prepares to unleash his ultimate technique, channeling a massive surge of golden aura into his fist. With a manic grin, he throws a powerful punch, fully expecting to shatter the summoned's defenses in a single blow. The armored fist collides violently with the summoned knight's broadsword, creating a brilliant explosion of sparks and shockwaves. However, the commander's smile instantly vanishes as his fist is stopped dead in its tracks, unable to pierce the blade's defense. Staring at his blocked fist, the commander is paralyzed by shock, unable to believe his full-powered strike didn't even leave a scratch. Seizing the moment of hesitation, a shadowy assassin beast leaps from the darkness to execute a lethal ambush. The female warrior is completely frozen in place, trembling as the monstrous aura of the beast strips away her ability to move. With glowing red eyes and a terrifying grin, the shadow beast lunges forward, roaring for its target's demise. Driven by pure rage, the beast unleashes its full wrath, declaring its intent to avenge Lenny as it closes in for the kill. Rhode's gaze sharpens, his eyes glowing with an intense, cold light as red energy crackles all around him. In an instant, a powerful grip clamps around the throat of the masked mage, catching him completely off guard. The terrifying shadow beast chokes the life out of the helpless mage, leaving him gasping for air as he kneels in sheer agony. Despite the enemy's desperate claim that his master will avenge his death, Rhode remains completely unfazed. Rhode cold-bloodedly points out that heroic spirits are nothing more than stubborn souls refusing to fade away. With a surge of blue spiritual energy, Rhode lifts the struggling mage effortlessly off the ground. Terror consumes the mage as he realizes losing his precious blessing means certain death, and he screams out in absolute panic. He begs desperately for his life, but his cries are cut short as the shadowy force begins to tear him apart. With a brutal pull, Rhode forcefully extracts the essence from his screaming victim, leaving no room for mercy. With his final breaths, the dying mage tries to threaten Rhode one last time, warning that his master will seek vengeance. Shriveling into a lifeless husk, the terrified mage gasps out his final words, calling Rhode a monster. The cowardly noble steps back in sheer horror as he witnesses the withered corpse of his strongest protector collapse onto the floor. He can barely process the reality before him, staring in disbelief at Lex's completely drained body. The old scholar sheds a tear of pure awe, realizing that Grandmaster Rhode just annihilated an expert mage possessing a blue blessing like it was child's play. Desperate to survive, the terrified noble scrambles across the floor, begging Bruce to save his life. Clinging to Bruce's leg like a pathetic child, he hysterically demands that Bruce kill Rhode and his beast. Disgusted by the display of cowardice, Bruce violently kicks him away, declaring him completely useless. Bruce admits he never expected a decorated warrior like Lex to be defeated so effortlessly. Staring intensely at his opponent, Bruce begins to sweat, questioning the true identity of the mysterious young man before him. A grim smile creeps onto Bruce's face as he finally accepts that they were never the hunters in this scenario. They were the prey. Attempting to negotiate, Bruce asks Rhode if offering up all of his family's vast wealth would be enough to buy their freedom. Rhode remains silent, his expression cold and unyielding to the desperate bribe. The terrifyingly logical response, Rhode points out that once he eliminates them all, their assets will belong to him anyway. Realizing there is no escape, the desperate noble falls to his knees, weeping and begging Rhode for mercy. In a final, pathetic act of betrayal, he points the finger at his own brother, claiming Bruce was the sole mastermind behind the plot to assassinate him. Desperate to save his own skin, Kia turns to Eleanor with wide, pleading eyes, desperately begging her for forgiveness. But Eleanor's glowing red eyes remain cold and unforgiving as she reminds him of their absolute loyalty to Grandmaster Rhode. Realizing his pleas are falling on deaf ears, Kia freezes in pure shock, a cold sweat breaking down his face. Before he can even utter another word, a blood-soaked fist brutally pierces straight through his chest from behind. Spitting up blood and crying in sheer agony, Kia gasps out his brother Bruce's name in utter disbelief. With a merciless thrust, Bruce yanks his fist back, leaving his brother's lifeless body to collapse forward. The pathetic noble crashes heavily onto the cold floor, dead, as Bruce stands over him with blood dripping from his hand. Wiping the blood from his glove with a smug smirk, Bruce mockingly apologizes for his brother's pathetic display. Knowing that Rhode will never show him mercy either, Bruce reaches for the mysterious emblem on his chest. He drops the artifact onto the floor, where it immediately begins to feast on his brother's spilled blood, unleashing a dark, swirling energy. A massive, crimson magic circle erupts beneath Bruce's feet, enveloping the entire chamber in a terrifying aura of blood magic. A crazed, manic grin, Bruce screams that if he is going down, he is taking everyone in the room with him. A violent explosion of dark energy erupts, threatening to tear the entire hall apart as the forbidden spell activates. Eleanor and the others shield their eyes, struggling to stand against the sheer force of the shockwave. The magic circle begins to bubble violently like a boiling pool of blood, preparing to summon something truly monstrous. Looking through his monocle, the old man gasps in horror as he realizes the true nature of the entity being summoned. Bruce's body begins to mutate hideously, his skin decaying and eyes glowing crimson as a demonic force takes hold of him. A colossal pillar of red light blasts toward the ceiling, shattering the atmosphere of the room with a deafening roar. Ancient Ancestor, now fully possessing Bruce's body, relishes the feeling of being in a young vessel once again. The demonic entity flexes his new, mutated claws, completely suppressing whatever was left of Bruce's original soul. He throws his head back, letting out a booming, sinister laugh that echoes throughout the entire chamber. He roars in triumph, declaring that it has been 3 long centuries since he last walked the mortal realm. The ancient monster boasts that one of his own descendants has finally sacrificed his blood to summon his soul back to life. Unintimidated, Eleanor firmly drives her rapier into the stone floor, preparing herself for the ultimate battle. As she stands her ground, Eleanor sweats in anxiety, sensing that the overwhelming aura of this beast is at least at the level of an advanced mage. The overwhelming pressure of this malicious energy is so intense that she realizes she stands no chance of resisting it on her own. Even the seasoned elder is left sweating in disbelief, realizing the Shadowthorn's hidden trump card is a vile form of forbidden magic. He grimly notes that the entity before them is no longer Bruce, but an ancient monster resurrected from the grave. Meanwhile, Rhode merely pinches his nose, utterly disgusted by the foul stench radiating from the resurrected beast. With a cold, piercing gaze, Rhode tells the undead abomination that it should have stayed resting in peace. The grotesque, red-skinned monster grins maniacally, declaring that he will sacrifice Rhode's blood to his kin. Swirling tendrils of bloody red energy begin to crackle around the monster as he prepares his next devastating move. Aiming to neutralize Rhode's support first, the beast unleashes a barrage of red energy to bind the purple-haired summon. With a loud splash, a dark blood pool forms beneath the summon, dragging him down and completely locking him in place. Seizing the opening, the monstrous beast lunges forward at blinding speed, his heavy foot stomping the ground. Screaming for Rhode to die, the beast throws a vicious strike directly at him, yet Rhode doesn't even flinch. Looking directly into the monster's eyes, Rhode calmly remarks that the beast clearly failed to inherit all of Bruce's memories. Monster's grin falters, replaced by confusion as he demands to know what Rhode means by that. Rhode's eyes glow with an ominous blue light as he warns the beast that if it had witnessed the brutal end of the previous assassin, it would have never dared to step foot near him, let alone launch an attack. Suddenly, Rhode utters a single, absolute command that echoes with terrifying authority. Kneel. An overwhelming pressure instantly crashes down, causing the entire banquet hall to tremble violently under the weight of his voice. The invisible force is so immense that the monster's head is violently forced downward against his will. With a resounding crash, the beast is slammed hard onto the stone floor, completely crushed by the gravity of Rhode's aura. Struggling in vain, the creature panics as his own muscles refuse to respond to his commands. A deep, primal dread washes over him as he wonders why he is so utterly terrified of a mere human. Looking up at the towering figure cloaked in a majestic blue flame, the beast can only wonder who this monster of a man truly is. Rhode coldly promises that he will find out soon enough as he prepares to unleash a high-level necromancy spell called Soul Blaze. With a light tap of his fingers, Rhode makes contact with the beast's head, sealing its fate. Instantly, a torrent of blue soul fire erupts, engulfing the monster in an agonizing scream as his very soul begins to burn. Enemy screams in absolute terror, unable to comprehend why this blue flame is directly burning his soul and tearing his head apart. As the agonizing fire spreads, he shrieks in torment as his physical form begins to disintegrate alongside the other fallen bodies. With his final breaths, he demands to know the true identity of the monster standing before him. Rhode gazes coldly at the dying mage, declaring that before his absolute power, all departed souls are nothing more than helpless, docile lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Before he can even process the threat, a spectral hand of blue light clamps tightly around his neck. He lets out a strangled cry as the soul-searing energy surges directly into his body, fracturing his essence. He desperately begs for mercy as his soul and entire existence are violently torn apart from the inside out. He laments his bitter defeat, crying out that he had only just finally returned to this world. Refusing to accept his demise, he screams in vain that he does not want to fade away. With a firm clench of Rhode's fist, the mage's soul violently detonates into a shower of blue sparks. A powerful shockwave of energy sweeps through the room as the remnants of the battle finally settle. Feeling the surge of absorbed energy, Rhode notes with satisfaction that consuming such a powerful soul has made him even stronger. Looking around the ruined, silent hall, the survivors can barely believe the nightmare is finally over. The elderly mage admits that throughout his long life, he has witnessed countless legendary figures, but never in his wildest dreams did he think someone could erase an advanced mage's soul so effortlessly. The young girl stands frozen, realizing that this effortless annihilation is the true, terrifying power of Grand Master Rhode. She feels a wave of embarrassment, remembering how she was prepared to sacrifice her own life just to help him escape. Turning his gaze to the old man, Rhode calmly declares that the shadow thorns are finished, leaving the cleanup in his hands. Bowing in deep respect, the old man promises to personally oversee that all of the enemy's assets are transferred to Rhode. He goes a step further, offering his family's eternal loyalty as Rhode's loyal subordinates. He acknowledges with a sweat-drenched face that without Rhode's intervention, his entire family would have been slaughtered. The young girl also pledges her allegiance, declaring her readiness to follow the Grand Master to the ends of the earth. Rhode tells them to rise, assuring them that their sincere words of loyalty are more than enough. Walking over to the remains, Rhode reaches down to claim his prize, picking up a golden star crest. Holding the golden emblem in his palm, Rhode senses the lingering traces of a soul within it, but to his shock, he detects over 100 different souls, all sharing the distinct Shadowthorn bloodline. Disgusted by this dark revelation, Rhode's eyes narrow in anger as he condemns their despicable methods of sacrificing their own family members for power. Passing the crest off to the elderly scholar, Rhode sighs and requests that they handle the remaining cleanup, admitting that he is feeling rather exhausted. The old man eagerly accepts the task with absolute devotion, bowing deeply and pledging his service to his esteemed Grand Master. Leaving the scene behind, Rhode walks out onto the terrace, gazing at the beautiful dawn breaking over the sprawling kingdom. Looking on as Rhode departs, the old man solemnly tells Eleanor that not just the North, but the entire kingdom is on the verge of a massive transformation. With unwavering determination, the old man pledges to follow Rhode's path, regardless of where it might lead them. Later that night, the quiet mansion stands peacefully under a vast, star-filled sky. Inside his bedroom, Rhode sits in deep meditation, enveloped in a glowing blue aura as he feels his power surge after fully absorbing the ancient soul. He assesses his current state, realizing that he has successfully reached the level of an intermediate initiate mage. With his rapid progress, he knows it won't be long before he breaks through to the next magical rank. He reflects on the dark magic used by the Shadowthorns, who sacrificed their own kin to artificially extend the lifespans of their deceased ancestors. As a former king of the dead, Rhode scoffs at their methods, finding their necromancy to be incredibly crude and amateurish. Yet, he finds it suspicious, knowing that even such basic soul manipulation should have been far beyond the limited capabilities of the Shadowthorn family. This leads him to wonder if there is a hidden connection between their magic and the mysterious headless knight lurking in the forest. To uncover the truth, he decides he will task the Bloodstained to quietly launch an investigation into the matter. He reasons that if the two mysteries are linked, the truth will inevitably come to light now that the Shadowthorns have been completely eradicated. For now, all he needs to do is bide his time and wait patiently for the results. 3 days quickly pass, and the peaceful courtyard of the estate basks in the bright afternoon sun. As Rhode relaxes outside, he is approached with news that they have successfully seized the Shadowthorns' assets, though some items remain useless to them. To dispose of these unwanted treasures, Eleanor's grandfather has organized an auction and invites Rhode to attend. Declining the offer, Rhode walks through the corridors of the estate, choosing to leave the auction matters entirely in their hands. He makes his way into a massive, multi-level library, where he finds the elderly scholar busy searching through piles of books. Spotting him, the old man beams with excitement and declares that since Margaret is away, Rhode has arrived at the perfect time to accompany him. When Rhode curiously inquires about their destination, the old man enthusiastically reveals that they are heading straight to the auction. Pointing a finger eagerly, the professor leans in to whisper that the infamous Shadowthorns have been completely wiped out by an unknown force. He excitedly adds that because of their sudden downfall, a massive hoard of their treasures is now up for grabs at the auction. Rhode can only stare back with a deadpan expression, silently thinking to himself that the very culprit behind their destruction is standing right in front of him. Urging Rhode not to waste any more time, the professor drags him forward, explaining that the Shadowthorns' long reign over the North means there will be incredible materials up for bid. With a wide grin, the professor pats his shoulder and declares he's counting on Rhode's sharp eyes to help identify the best items. Soon, they arrive at the grand, column-lined entrance of the prestigious Ashblade auction, where crowds of high society are gathering. Spotting a carriage pulling up, Rhode's attention is drawn to a familiar bald figure stepping out, recognizing him as Professor Ball. Clenching his jaw in anger, Ball mutters about how he was utterly humiliated during their previous encounter at the magic market. He vows that today, he will stop at nothing to completely ruin the reputations of Gustav and Ka. Observing him from a distance, Rhode is mildly surprised that the host actually extended an invitation to Ball as well. He realizes that this auction might turn out to be a lot more chaotic, with plenty of old scores left to settle. Suddenly, a sharp voice calls out his name in disbelief from across the steps. Rhode turns to find Anna demanding to know what he is doing there, while a surprised Claire stands right beside her. Anna haughtily reminds him that this is a high-class event reserved strictly for the elite of society. She warns him that he can't just waltz into such a prestigious venue just because he happens to be acquainted with Miss Eleanor. Claire softly chimes in, expressing her concern by pointing out that the Ashblade family didn't send an invitation to his household. Trying to be helpful, Claire kindly offers to let Rhode tag along with them so he can gain entry. Knowing his family's tight financial situation, she even offers to buy him anything that catches his eye during the bidding. Rhode politely declines her generous offer, calmly stating that he is only there to have a look around. Disgusted, Anna grabs Claire's arm and drags her away, telling her to stop wasting breath on a pauper as they head inside. Meanwhile, Rhode watches in amusement as Professor Ball and Gustav immediately begin bickering the moment they cross paths. Glaring down with bloodshot eyes, Ball warns them that they shouldn't say he didn't give them a fair warning. He boastfully declares that he has brought an absolute fortune with him today, ensuring they won't win a single valuable item. He reminds them that this prestigious event is hosted by the Ashblades, meaning only the highest quality goods will be sold. Gritting his teeth, Ball vows to himself that there is absolutely no way he will allow himself to be swindled or humiliated again. Gustav scoffs at Ball's stubbornness, mocking how he paid a ridiculous 3,000 gold coins for a mere rock without learning his lesson. The young protagonist calmly reassures the professor that Ball's scheme is destined to fail anyway. Gustav dismisses the help, stating he wants to handle his rivalry with Ball alone as he heads into the main hall where the auction is about to begin. Upon entering the grand venue, a stunning blue-haired lady in an elegant white gown spots them and looks back in utter surprise. She happily greets Rhode, admitting she didn't expect the legendary Grandmaster to actually show up today. Eager to please him, she offers him a specially prepared seat of honor at the front. Rhode gently declines, putting a finger to his lips as he explains that he prefers to keep a low profile. He adds with a smirk that today, he is simply acting as Professor Gustav's humble assistant. The camera pans to the spectacular array of rare treasures, glowing crystals, and magical weapons on display before the seated audience. Gustav is highly impressed by the sheer wealth of the Shadow Thorns, marveling at the incredible selection of magic crystals and precious armor. The energetic host takes the stage, loudly welcoming the distinguished guests to the start of the auction. He hypes up the crowd, promising that every single item up for grabs today is a priceless treasure destined for the highest bidder. First item is revealed as a radiant ocean crystal from the Eastern Sea, perfect for high-tier water magic, with a starting bid of 500 gold coins. As the bids quickly rise to 600, Ball watches closely with a sinister grin, waiting for Gustav to finally make his move. Next up is the Shadow Cloak, an exquisite and legendary treasure belonging directly to the Shadow Thorns. The host explains that it can completely conceal one's aura and bypass detection spells, opening the bidding at 800 gold coins. Finding it highly useful for their future travels, Gustav confidently raises paddle number 78 to place his bid. Ball immediately counters with his own paddle, number 79, raising the price to 900 gold coins. Annoyed but determined, Gustav quickly raises the bid to 950. Ball doesn't hesitate for a second, pushing the price up to an even 1,000 gold coins with a mocking smile. The bidding war intensifies rapidly as Gustav furiously counters, only for the price to climb all the way to 1,200. Ball aggressively raises the stakes again, driving the price up to a staggering 1,500 gold coins. Gustav begins to sweat, realizing that the current bid has far exceeded the actual value of the cloak. He fumes in frustration, realizing that Ball is intentionally bidding on absolutely everything they show interest in just to spite them. Rhode remains completely unbothered, calmly telling the stressed professor to just let Ball have the useless victory. The auctioneer slams down his gavel, officially selling the second item to Professor Ball for an impressive 1,500 gold coins, leaving the smug professor feeling victorious. Next up is the third auction item, a mysterious fragment of an ancient bone engraved with glowing purple runes, though its actual purpose remains completely unknown to the crowd. Despite its mystery, the starting bid for this strange relic is set at a hefty 500 gold coins. Instantly, Rhode raises his bidding paddle, raising the price straight to 1,000 gold coins and shocking the surrounding guests. This sudden move deeply panics the auction host, who sweats profusely as he wonders why the esteemed Mr. Rhode is even attending, let alone placing bids. The host even offers to give the item to Rhode entirely for free, but Rhode calmly declines, insisting he is just an ordinary guest and they should proceed normally. The surrounding crowd goes wild with confusion, wondering who this mysterious young man is and why the powerful Ashblades would offer him such a rare item for free. People continue to whisper, questioning why anyone would waste so much money on a useless bone with no known function. Seeing Rhode's interest, Professor Ball's wicked smile returns as he realizes this is yet another item his rivals want. Determined to keep his promise, Ball vows to ensure that they won't go home with a single item today. Without hesitation, Ball raises his own paddle, driving the price up to 1,200 gold coins. Rhode immediately counters by bidding 2,000 gold coins, causing the elderly professor beside him to freak out in sheer disbelief. The professor demands to know why Rhode is throwing away 2,000 gold coins on a mystery bone they know absolutely nothing about. Then, a sudden realization hits the professor, who excitedly asks if this bone is actually a rare, unanalyzable treasure. However, Rhode quickly crushes his hopes, bluntly stating that it really is just a completely ordinary bone. With a sly grin, Rhode adds that just because it's ordinary doesn't mean it's entirely useless to them. He explains his true plan, they can easily bait the greedy Professor Ball into overpaying for it. Right on cue, Ball falls hook, line, and sinker for the trap, raising his paddle with a maniacal grin to bid a staggering 3,000 gold coins. Ball foolishly convinces himself that the bone must have secret properties if Rhode is bidding so high, resolving that he absolutely cannot let Gustav win it. Other auction attendees whisper in shock, calling the bidders crazy for driving the price up to 6 times the starting bid for a mystery item. They begin to speculate that perhaps the bone is actually some kind of legendary hidden treasure. Rhode turns to Ball with an amused smile, mockingly complimenting the professor on having so much money to burn. He rubs it in, laughing at the fact that Ball was actually willing to throw away 3,000 gold coins on a completely useless bone. Ball's smug smile instantly vanishes, his face twisting in absolute rage and shock as the realization of his massive mistake sinks in. To make matters worse, the auctioneer enthusiastically congratulates the fuming Professor Ball on winning the coveted item for a ridiculous 3,000 gold coins. The old professor bursts into hysterical laughter, mocking Ball for failing to learn his lesson yet again. He reminds the fuming Ball that this is his second time throwing away 3,000 gold coins on a worthless piece of ore. Ball's eyes glow with murderous rage as he realizes the young brat has successfully fooled him once more. Nearby, other guests whisper about how the kid deliberately drove up the price, warning each other not to cross an influential academy professor like Ball. The woman sighs in exasperation, remarking on how Rhode seems to have an absolute talent for making dangerous enemies wherever he goes. Meanwhile, the old professor praises Rhode for the brilliant play, admitting he thoroughly enjoyed seeing Ball's humiliated expression. Curiously, the professor asks Rhode what his actual connection is to the powerful Ashblade family. Rhode casually explains that he is simply on good terms with Miss Eleanor, assuring the professor that Ball won't dare interfere with their bids anymore. With the tension settling, the enthusiastic auctioneer moves right along to introduce the next item up for bidding. Seizing the opportunity, the old professor confidently raises his paddle to place a bid of 500 gold. Ball's associate anxiously warns him that they cannot afford to waste any more of their remaining funds, prompting an angry snap from the professor. Pushed to his limit, Ball decides he has no choice but to reconsider a shady cooperation proposal he previously rejected. Unbeknownst to them, a mysterious man in a top hat quietly observes the entire auction hall from the shadows of a balcony. The observer chuckles to himself, noting how easily Ball was played and how furious the professor must be right now. He realizes that with just a little push, Ball can easily be manipulated into getting rid of Rhode for him. He reflects on how lucrative it has been for the Gorbies to sell counterfeit goods in this remote northern magic market. However, if their operation is exposed under his watch, he faces severe punishment and exile to a godforsaken wasteland. To protect his scheme, he determines that Rhode, the only one capable of spotting their fakes, must be permanently eliminated. Fortunately for him, the Ashblades remain completely unaware of the secret alliance forged between the Gorbies and the Shadowthorns. Confident in his plan, he is certain he can complete his mission smoothly once the troublesome kid is dead. Once the auction finally concludes, the attendees gather in the lobby to discuss the day's surprising events. The blue-haired girl catches up to Rhode in the grand hallway, calling out to him with excitement. She mentions that the auction brought in a staggering 100,000 gold coins, offering to send his share directly to his residence. Reminding him that everyone needs money, she coaxes him into accepting, and Rhode calmly agrees with her logic. With Rhode's approval to proceed, she happily prepares to arrange the massive transfer of funds. Furious and deeply embarrassed, the professor snaps at his assistant, demanding he shut up and never bring up the humiliating bone appraisal incident again. As Rhode and his companion walk down the long red-carpeted hall, a mysterious figure in a top hat watches them intently from the shadows. The sinister purple glow in his eye, the mysterious observer mutters that Rhode has brought this impending doom upon himself. He reaches into his coat, pressing down on a highly ornate golden cross embedded with a glowing purple gem to activate a secret transmission. Standing amidst the oblivious crowd, he whispers into his communication device, signaling his contact on the other end. He confirms that the target has been spotted, giving the green light for their contact to push Professor Ball into making his move. Outside the venue, the frustrated professor boards his horse-drawn carriage, once again telling his persistent assistant to shut his mouth. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light cuts through the darkness with a sharp, whistling sound. Within the carriage, a shadowy assassin holds a glowing, razor-sharp blade directly against the terrified professor's throat. Feeling his scarred face and eerie green eyes, the intruder calmly addresses the professor by his name, Ball. Introducing himself as Shadow Serpent, a lieutenant of the Northern Shadowvale organization, he states he has urgent matters to discuss. Ball is instantly gripped by sweat-inducing terror, recognizing the name of the notorious Northern Assassin Syndicate and demanding to know what they want. Ball realizes in horror that despite his own high proficiency as a mage, he couldn't sense this incredibly powerful assassin's aura at all. Shadow Serpent sheathes his blade, telling Ball to relax and explaining that he isn't there to assassinate him, but rather to propose a partnership. Skeptical, Ball asks what a prestigious academy professor like him could possibly gain from associating with killers. The knowing smirk, Shadow Serpent tells him to calm down and listen first, confident that the offer will change the professor's mind. Meanwhile, the white-haired youth, Kite, receives a call asking for an update on his ongoing investigation. Reporting back from a dark, desolate cavern, the blue-haired investigator informs the Grand Master that they have found nothing of obvious value. However, he reveals a small glowing blue stone in his hand, noting they did manage to uncover some high-purity magic crystals. He points out that refining crystals of such exceptional quality is practically impossible in the resource-starved northern regions. He suggests these crystals must have originated from the capital, a revelation that immediately catches Kite's attention. Kite's eyes burn with cold fury as he realizes the Gorbys, the very family responsible for his sister's death, are based in that capital. He begins to suspect that this powerful family might be pulling the strings behind everything that has transpired. Back in the carriage, Ball gasps in disbelief upon learning that the assassin's two disciples met a mysterious end in the north. Twirling his dagger with chilling calm, Shadow Serpent adds that the entire Shadowthorn's organization was completely wiped out overnight. Shadow Serpent reveals the shocking truth of his investigation. The true mastermind behind the destruction of the Shadowthorns isn't the Ashblades, but a mysterious kid named Rhode. A cold sweat breaks over Ball's face as he questions Rhode's true strength, asking what role he must play in this quest for vengeance. With a chilling smile, Serpent dismisses revenge as a mere bonus, emphasizing that fulfilling their organization's ultimate mission is his only true priority. Firmly grasping his weapon, Serpent explains that all he needs is a single opening to corner Rhode alone, promising to handle the rest himself. Ball hesitates, pointing out that while he has no love for the boy, Rhode is still Gustav's personal assistant. He warns that if Rhode were to die directly by his hands, the powerful Cetacity Academy would never let the matter slide. A sinister green light envelopes Serpent as he reassures Ball that their plot will remain entirely undetected. Ball's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as he witnesses a shocking display of magic. Now disguised as a gentle old scholar, Serpent explains that acting alone is too difficult now that the Ashblades control the northern territories. He adds that Gustav's vast web of influential connections makes a direct assault far too dangerous. Because of these immense risks, Serpent reiterates that Ball's inside assistance is absolutely crucial to their success. Wicked grin spreads across Ball's face as he realizes this is the perfect chance to exact revenge for all the humiliation Rhode caused him. Looking over the Grand Carol Arena, Ball reveals that an upcoming Inter-Academy exchange event in the north will provide the perfect stage. He whispers maliciously that Gustav will undoubtedly bring his assistant along, giving Ball the perfect chance to smuggle Serpent inside. Serpent rejoices at the plan, confident that Rhode's days are officially numbered. Laughing maniacally, the assassin envisions using this high-profile kill to secure the backing of a powerful figure and rise to the top of his organization. 2 days later, the story shifts to the majestic and peaceful grounds of Cetacity Academy. Inside the Grand Lecture Hall, Rhode sits deep in thought, wondering if the Ashblades have already uncovered the secrets of the fallen Shadowthorns. Thoughts are interrupted as the witch professor gathers her materials and officially dismisses the class for the day. Suddenly, Claire approaches Rhode with a bright smile, reminding him that her birthday is tomorrow and that his family has already been invited. She leans in playfully, making sure he understands that his presence is absolutely mandatory. Smiling warmly, Rhode reassures her that she has nothing to worry about and that he will definitely be there. Claire's blonde friend quickly pulls her away, loudly complaining about why she is so desperate to invite him. The friend continues to rant, calling Rhode incredibly boring and warning Claire that he might ruin the festive birthday mood. Ignoring the gossip, Rhode watches them leave as he contemplates what kind of birthday gift would be perfect for Claire. Guests gather at the grand estate of the Claire family under the night sky for the lavish Flora banquet. Scheming young nobleman proudly boasts about the incredible gift he has prepared for Claire. He smirks smugly, believing his present will completely change her perception of him tonight. Before he can take another step, someone rudely shoves past him, sparking his instant fury. His anger vanishes into panic the moment he turns and realizes the intruder is none other than Rhode. Quickly putting on a nervous smile, the noble frantically escorts Rhode directly into the main ballroom. Entering the grand hall, Rhode immediately spots Claire standing elegantly in a shimmering black dress. Rhode walks straight over to Claire and presents her with a small purple gift box while wishing her a happy birthday. Delighted by his gesture, Claire accepts the box with a cheerful smile and expresses her gratitude. She reaches into the box and pulls out a stunning purple crystal pendant that glimmers under the chandelier light. Rhode watches her quietly, softly instructing her to make sure she keeps the necklace on at all times. Observing from the side, a snobbish noblewoman mocks the necklace, pointing out that it lacks any visible magic enchantments. She continues to gossip loudly, sneering that Rhode must have bought the cheap trinket on his way to the party. Disregarding the harsh comments, Claire puts the necklace on and defends Rhode, stating that the thought behind it is what matters. The arrogant noblewoman scoffs dismissively, claiming someone as poor as Rhode could never afford a truly valuable gift. Unbeknownst to everyone, Rhode specifically gave Claire the necklace to prevent her from meeting the tragic fate of his previous life. He had secretly used necromancy to seal a portion of Duran's soul into the pendant, creating an invisible guardian to protect her. Watching the aristocrats mock Rhode's simple gift, the red-suited noble grins, seeing this as his golden opportunity to outshine him. Suddenly, the herald announces the grand arrival of Raymond Flora, Claire's uncle and the second son of the family. Raymond makes a powerful entrance into the banquet hall, accompanied by a stern-looking young knight dressed in blue armor. Claire rushes over to greet her uncle enthusiastically, and Raymond laughs warmly while wishing his niece a happy birthday. He then announces his ultimate birthday present, Logan, an elite young swordsman who defeated a royal beast all by himself. Logan bows respectfully before Claire, introducing himself as her newly assigned personal bodyguard. Surprised by the unexpected offer, Claire tries to decline, insisting that she has no need for a bodyguard. Raymond firmly overrules her refusal, reminding her of the recent dangers at the academy and insisting a Flora noble must be guarded. Before Raymond can finalize his offer, a lady interrupts to inform him that he's a step too late, as Claire's mother has already assigned a bodyguard for her, leaving Raymond demanding to know who it is. She points directly at Rhode Morris, revealing him as the chosen guardian, which immediately draws Raymond's stern and suspicious glare toward the quiet youth. Raymond instantly recognizes the name with deep disdain, questioning if she really means the infamous, good-for-nothing son of the Morris family. Fuming with rage, Raymond declares that his sister must have lost her mind to allow someone so useless to accompany Claire at the academy. Turning directly to Rhode, Raymond coldly reminds him that the old marriage arrangement between him and Claire was nothing more than a foolish joke. He harshly orders Rhode to stay far away from Claire from now on, boasting that he possesses more than enough wealth to hire a proper guardian. Raymond asserts that he will personally pay Logan to guard Claire around the clock instead of relying on someone as untrustworthy as him. Hearing her uncle's harsh words, Claire frantically steps forward to defend Rhode, trying to explain that he isn't what they think. However, Raymond shuts her down with an intimidating, dark aura, angrily demanding if she dares to disobey his authority. Silencing his niece, Raymond calls out to Logan, who immediately steps forward to await his orders. Raymond commands Logan to forcefully demonstrate the massive gap in power between them, declaring that not just anyone is worthy of standing beside a Flora noble. Logan steps forward into position across the grand hall, setting up an intense confrontation while Rhode remains standing calmly. Drawing his sword with a sharp flare of mana, Logan calls out to Rhode to prepare himself for the duel. Watching from the sidelines, an arrogant noble snickers at Rhode's terrible luck, convinced that Logan's strength will utterly crush him. Completely unbothered by the threat, Rhode lets out a tired sigh, annoyed that they are ruining Claire's birthday party with such foolishness. With an ominous, shadowy aura surging behind him, Rhode opens his glowing eyes and coldly accepts the challenge, telling Logan to make his move.